This player was betrayed but came back as a solo player. Hirkin is a highly skilled player of the highly profitable AI-driven game called Warlord. However, when he's one day betrayed by his own guild as they're paid millions by a top-ranked player to take him out, he suddenly loses everything. In a desperate attempt to gain a second chance, he accidentally gets hit by a garbage truck on his way to the store. As his vision starts blurring out, he suddenly finds himself in the tutorial grounds of Warlord. Completely confused, the players around him tells him to snap out of it as the boss is attacking, but Hirkin immediately recognizes the boss and confusingly asks why the boss who was deleted 5 years ago. However, he is met by more confusion as they explain the game has only been out for 10 months. Not sure what to believe, Hirkin charges the boss head-on despite the others urging him not to, but Hirkin dodges the first strike and within seconds he slices the boss into 1,000 pieces. And when the others suddenly catches up to him, their leader compliments Hirkin on his talent and offers a place within his guild. Sadly, this made him remember his past life and he immediately refused, but he didn't stop there. He then eliminated them in cold blood, but this is only the beginning. The name is Emperor of Solo Play. Deep in the in-game woodberry forests, a man huffs for breath, letting out a frustrated curse as he realizes his situation is looking grim. He is the last man standing, surrounded by fallen comrades and an entire army that has nothing better to do. Sitting on a throne in the middle of the woods, because apparently she brings her own furniture to battle, is a woman looking very pleased with herself. Her aide notes that our hero is still hiding, prompting the queen to order their immediate execution. But just as the blade is about to drop, a man with gray hair bursts onto the scene, slashing the executioner and saving his buddy just in the nick of time. As his friends scramble back to their feet, our guy glows with a powerful blue aura, looking absolutely majestic. The enemy tries to swarm him, but he blares them down and cuts through them like butter with his overpowered sword. He tells them that ganging up on him will not change the fact that they are just not good enough to beat him. We get a flashy character card introducing him as Hirkin, the hero slayer. The friend apologizes for the ambush, but our boy acts all noble, telling him not to worry and helping him up. He claims the real problem is the pathetic losers who cannot fight fair. The queen, known as Thunder, finally stands up and mocks this touching display of romance, pointing out that trash sticking together is still just a pile of trash. She warns him to wash his mouth, but our hero just activates his fancy armor slot, transforming into a shining knight to call her a weakling. He laughs off their threats, asking if they ever learn that they cannot kill him. But mid-taunt, he freezes. A system notification screams that his HP is dropping rapidly and his movement is restricted. He falls to the ground in total confusion, only to hear his so-called friend apologizing again. The friend explains that they all have to make a living and asks him to have no hard feelings about the betrayal. The Thunder Queen is laughing so hard she has to wipe tears from her face, mocking him for actually believing in their friendship act when money was on the table. She gleefully announces she is kicking him out of the game by killing him every time he logs in, effectively ruining his career as a full-time Warlord player. She calls him a worthless piece of trash without the game, which honestly is a pretty low blow considering he is currently bleeding out on the floor. Our boy screams at her to shut up, trying to crawl toward her, but gets stabbed again immediately. He realizes he is being turned into a human shish kebab by the very people he protected. One of them tells him to just die already because they are getting paid a couple of million just to end him. With his last breath, he curses them for claiming they were family, watching the queen smile evilly as the system floods his vision with death warnings and a 48-hour login penalty. He wakes up in a modern room that smells like despair, surrounded by literal garbage. He screams that he lost everything because, without the massive AI game Warlord, he is nobody. Furious and heartbroken, he snatches his coat and runs into the street, vowing to find and kill them all himself. But in his blind rage, he misses the red light and the massive vehicle barreling toward him. He realizes too late that caring about anyone was a waste of time, and then, the universe delivers the ultimate punchline. He gets run over not just by any truck, but by a garbage truck. He literally got taken out by the trash service. Lying on the pavement, the only sound he hears is his phone telling him the traitor is unavailable. He thinks that he cannot die yet because he needs revenge on the bastards who screwed him over. Suddenly, a flash of light appears, and the system welcomes user Hirkin back, initiating a tutorial mission to survive against a minotaur. Someone shouts at him to quit zoning out because a massive minotaur is roaring in front of them. The stranger claims the monster is impossible to solo and tries to organize a party. Our boy is confused, noting that this tutorial boss was removed 5 years ago. The stranger looks at him like he is crazy and explains that Warlord has only been out for 10 months. Realizing he has traveled back in time, our boy ignores the tactical plan and just sprints straight at the monster. The other players scream that he is out of his mind, but he slashes through the Minotaur with the precision of a veteran monster slayer. The black-haired player is stunned that he took it down in one hit and immediately tries to recruit him, extending a hand just like the traitor did in the future. Triggered by the flashback, our boy stands up and says he has made up his mind. Before the guy can even ask what he means, our hero slashes through both of them without hesitation. He vows that if he ever trusts another person in this life, he is a dog, marking the return of the solo-playing hero slayer. Our boy wakes up inside a high-tech sci-fi bed and takes off his VR headset, only to realize he isn't in the future anymore. He is actually in a VR gear store, which makes sense because he remembers being absolutely broke 5 years ago and having to play on the showroom display models like a peasant. He realizes he has officially regressed, and instead of panicking, he decides he has things to do. Specifically, he rushes to the cashier with the confidence of a millionaire, thinking that with 5 years of future knowledge, his revenge is practically guaranteed. He whips out his credit card with a flourish and demands the base model VR gear. He is already mentally planning his power leveling route while the cashier runs the card. But then, reality hits him harder than a truck. The cashier awkwardly informs him that he does not have enough funds. Our hero stands there, completely floored by his own poverty, suddenly remembering that if he actually had money back then, he wouldn't be gaming in a store in the first place. He needs cash immediately because starting late means falling behind, but honestly, it is already looking bleak. Suddenly, a voice booms through the store asking what he is waiting for. On the big screen, the traitorous Thunder Queen herself is giving a motivational speech, claiming that hesitation is a luxury you cannot afford in battle. The screen introduces her as the #1 ranked player, urging everyone to start playing Warlord now. Seeing the woman who ruined his life lecturing him on success is exactly the kick in the pants he needs, and he decides he cannot wait around anymore. Cut to his apartment, where a technician has just finished installing his new VR rig. How did our broke hero afford this? We see him holding a business card for a same-day lending service, and a very shady loan shark confirms he borrowed 10 million won. The shark slams a knife into the table, narrowly missing our boy's fingers, and warns him that if he doesn't pay it back, his life will become hell. Our boy is sweating bullets, but he figures he would happily dive into hellfire if it means getting revenge on those bastards. He logs in, shouting the command to connect, and the system welcomes Harkin to Warlord. He spawns into the game, expecting to see the tutorial NPC, thinking she should be here soon. Right on cue, a voice congratulates him, and we see a blonde woman dressed in black who seems to have raided the Spider-Man prop department. She has metallic arms on her back that look exactly like Dr. Octopus's tentacles, and a floating halo just to make the cosplay even more confusing. She introduces herself as Ariadne, his career helper, and tells him he needs to choose a basic class. She explains the warrior class is for frontline fighting and exciting action. Our boy immediately passes, thinking that while he could level up quickly, solo play gets too hard as a warrior later on. She then suggests the cleric class for healing and buffing others. He shuts that down instantly, muttering that he is done looking after other people's asses. Ariadne notes that there is only one path left, and wishes him an entertaining adventure as she sends him to the class tower. He arrives in a library that smells like old paper and magic, where an elderly man with a massive beard is sitting on top of a giant floating book. The NPC introduces himself as Goku, the guide to magic, which is a fantastic name for a wizard who looks nothing like a Super Saiyan. Goku asks what type of magic he wants to learn, and Harkin immediately cuts him off, demanding dark magic. The old man pretends to be deaf, asking if he meant earth magic because his hearing is failing. Harkin repeats himself, and Goku suddenly drops the act, shouting that dark magic brings ruin to the user. Our boy just shrugs, says he knows the risks, and tells the old man to just teach him already because he knows exactly what he needs. Goku trembles for a second before things get creepy. He grabs his own face and literally peels off his skin. Behind the kindly old man facade is a skeleton with glowing purple eyes. The skeleton laughs, calling him an interesting brat, and tells him to place his hand on the spellbook if he is truly ready. He warns that the path is difficult, but Harkin doesn't hesitate for a second, slamming his hand on the book and telling the bone man to move it along because he isn't like other punks. The skeleton laughs, clearly amused by his attitude. Harkin remembers a famous video from his past life of a solo necromancer taking down a boss alone and decides he needs that kind of power. The system notifies him that he is now a necromancer initiate and has learned the skill skeleton fragment. Harkin is hyped, thinking that in this life, he is going to dominate as a necromancer. He spots a skeleton warrior walking toward him and turns around, ready to ask where the training dungeon is. But then, the majestic skeleton that was walking toward him just falls apart. Its core tumbles out of its body, leaving a pile of bones on the floor. Herkin and the pile of bones stare at each other in awkward silence, with our hero letting out a confused, huh. Herkin steps through the portal, and the system welcomes him to the beginner training dungeon. Immediately, he gets a sinking feeling because the vibe is just not right. This does not feel like the powerful, terrifying necromancer energy he remembers from his past life. Confused, he finally decides to check his skill window, which reveals that his skeleton fragment proficiency is sitting at a sad level 1. It explains that he can create a minion by infusing magic into a fragment, which sounds simple enough. He figures the underwhelming vibe is just because his level is low and tells himself he just needs to grind to fix it. Right on cue, a pack of cold wolves appears. The system identifies them as training monsters. They aren't strong, just fast, making them the perfect punching bags for a test run. Feeling confident, Herkin tosses a bone fragment and commands it to go forth, summoning a skeleton warrior that enters a combat stance. The wolves actually hesitate for a second, probably confused by the bag of bones rattling at them. Herkin smugly orders it to kill them, thinking he is about to speedrun to max level because his summon looks surprisingly confident. But then reality hits. The skeleton charges in and immediately gets shattered into a million pieces upon the first impact. The skeleton's severed head rolls across the floor, stopping at Herkin's feet and looking up at him with what can only be described as teary, pathetic eye sockets. Herkin stares back, utterly disgusted and disappointed, shouting a confused "Wait, what?" at the pile of failure. He frantically opens the skill window again and finally clicks the Show More button, because apparently, reading the full manual wasn't a priority before entering a dungeon. The text explains that the summoned creature is equipped with a deep learning system, meaning it has to learn from combat. It also has modes Defense, Attack, and Special Action. Herkin sighs with relief, realizing he just forgot to set a mode, which is a total rookie mistake. He confidently sets it to Defense mode. The skeleton's eyes shine, and then it stands perfectly still while the wolves use its ribs as chew toys. Herkin panics and switches to Special Action mode, hoping for a secret super move. Instead, the system notifies him that the skeleton warrior has begun dancing wildly. And sure enough, the skeleton is literally having a dance-off with the confused wolves. Herkin watches this disaster with tears in his eyes, realizing he is absolutely screwed. In his mind, a chubby version of the skin-peeling wizard Goku appears to mock him, saying he tried to warn him. Herkin sits down in defeat, ready to delete his character and start over, but the system informs him that he cannot delete a character on an account less than 3 months old. He is trapped. He can't change classes, he can't delete the character, and the loan sharks are coming for his kneecaps next month. He genuinely considers just going back to the real world to find another truck to hit him. He yells at the dancing bonehead to sit still, wondering how the pro necromancers from his past life dealt with this nonsense. Then, his brain finally turns on. He remembers the skill set it learns from combat. He realizes that when he killed the wolves earlier, the skeleton was watching and learning from him. A grin creeps onto his face as he realizes he has to become a teacher. He tells the skeleton it is lucky to have a master like him because, despite appearances, he used to coach top rankers. He gives it one simple rule: if you don't dodge, you're dead, and then immediately punches the skeleton in the face. Thus begins the weirdest training montage ever, where Herkin relentlessly kicks and punches his own summon, screaming at it to stop standing there like an idiot and look for openings. The skeleton, now looking determined with its wooden stick, faces a new pack of wolves. This time, it actually dodges and strikes back, successfully defeating them. It looks back at Herkin, desperate for approval like a puppy that just learned a trick. Herkin goes full strict dad, scolding it for getting distracted but admitting the last move wasn't bad. With the proficiency increasing and his level going up, they head to Figure's castle, the beginner village. The town is bustling with players looking for guilds and raid parties. Herkin calculates that with a few more days of grinding, the skeleton might actually be useful enough to solo the dungeon. Suddenly, someone bumps into him. A very ugly thug demands an apology for the shoulder check, while his lackeys shout support from the back. Herkin looks at them and thinks they look like third-rate dogs, wondering if he should just kill them to save time since every second counts. The thug boss wins up to punch him, complaining about sighing in the middle of a conversation. But before the fist connects, a hand stops it. A man wearing a loud Hawaiian shirt, looking like Brad Pitt if he decided to retire in Florida, steps in. He calmly tells the thug that bumping shoulders is no reason to go around hitting people. The thug asks if they are together, and Hawaiian shirt guy cheerfully replies, "No, exactly," leaving Herkin completely confused by this random savior. Herkin stares at the man in the Hawaiian shirt, his gamer instinct screaming that those muscles and that terrible fashion sense can only belong to one person. He realizes this is Matador Chev, the top-ranked warrior from his previous life and the guild master of the Red Bulls. Before he can even question why a top-tier player is hanging out in a newbie zone, the ugly thug decides to escalate things. The thug sits on the floor and warns Matador to stay out of it, claiming Herkin hit him first and quoting the old eye for an eye proverb. Matador simply replies that he understands, but instead of backing down, he releases a deadly aura so powerful it creates an actual wind current. He calmly suggests that since the thug offered his cheek to Matador's fist earlier, he should probably return the favor. The thug turns pale, sweating bullets as his underlings panic, finally realizing they are picking a fight with the Matador killer chef, a man famous for loving violence a little too much. The thug stammers a terrified apology and sprints away with his tail between his legs. Matador laughs it off, cheerfully saying he is glad they resolved it with words, and gives Herkin a friendly tap on the shoulder. But our boy isn't here to make friends. He shrugs off the hand and goes full lone wolf, telling Matador he doesn't need help before walking away fast. Matador is left shocked by how cold this newbie is. But internally, Herkin is freaking out. He admits to himself that he was totally intimidated by the power gap between them. He vows that the next time they meet, he will be strong enough to stand on equal footing. Cut to a training montage in the dungeon. A massive black tiger leaps from the bushes, aiming for Herkin's throat. But his trusty skeleton warrior intercepts the beast, taking it down with surprising ease. The skeleton stands over its kill, looking back at Herkin with a cute, expectant smile, practically begging for a good boy head pat. Herkin, being the strict father figure nobody asked for, completely ignores the skeleton's need for validation. He just complains that it took 3 whole days to reach level 10. The skeleton's shoulders slump in disappointment, realizing praise is not on the menu today. The system chimes in to save the mood, announcing that Herkin has reached level 10 and providing him with the official War Watch, map, and inventory. He opens his status window, ready to distribute his new points. Common sense dictates a necromancer should boost intelligence or mana. Herkin, however, looks at common sense and throws it out the window. He dumps every single point into strength. The system confirms his strength has increased by 50, and the skeleton looks absolutely horrified. It starts crying, probably wondering why its master is trying to be a barbarian instead of a wizard. Herkin punches the skeleton's hat affectionately and explains the method to his madness. He says he is betting his life on the skeleton's growth, and to teach it proper melee combat, he needs to be physically strong himself. The skeleton, realizing his master is making sacrifices just for him, is immediately moved to tears, completely touched by this display of muscle love. Now ready to take on the world, they head to the Raiders Association. The place is a chaotic mess of newbies fighting over fresh quests. Herkin ignores the good ones and digs through the pile to find a specific card, Bima Mountain's Cave. It is a low-level, low-reward quest that nobody wants. The gray-bearded receptionist questions his sanity, asking if he is sure about picking a task that only pays 10 gold. Herkin confirms it, secretly plotting. He knows that if he clears this boring quest before level 15, he unlocks a super rare title called Prospect that gives a percentage boost to stats, effectively kickstarting his overpowered career. He gears up and heads to Bima Mountain, and, oh boy, we need to talk about the fit. Herkin stands there looking completely serious, but he is wearing a colorful, mismatched suit and hoodie combo that makes him look like a court jester who got fired for not being funny. His shoes look like clouds, and the whole ensemble screams, failed children's party clown. Herkin is mortified, cursing the fact that he spent all his money on the skeleton's gear and had to buy whatever bargain bin scraps were left for himself. He decides to speedrun the quest just to get out of these clothes as fast as possible. But as he rushes into the woods, a hand reaches out from the bushes, crying for help. Behind the victim, we hear the distinct laughter of evil adventurers setting a trap. Our clown-suited hero is about to walk right into an ambush. Somewhere in the Bima Mountains, a player named Multi shouts to the heavens that he is finally starting his adventure. He is feeling incredibly confident, bragging that he is already level 11 and might even become a ranker at this rate. But his delusions of grandeur are interrupted by a desperate cry for help. A gray-haired man is weeping over his friend, whose body is covered in blood on the ground. Multi, being the noble knight he thinks he is, approaches with worry. The gray-haired man sobs that they were attacked by a mysterious monster and have no potions left. Multi immediately offers his own potions, and the grieving man thanks him profusely, promising to repay him with tears streaming down his face. But the only repayment Multi gets is a concussion. A massive man with a beard creeps up behind him and smashes a Morton star into the back of his head. As Multi coughs in confusion, the gray-haired man drops the act instantly, thanking him for the free items. Multi realizes too late that he has been tricked, but the gray-haired man just mocks him, calling him an idiot for falling for it. The system announces Multi has died, and his watch drops to the ground as loot. The bearded thug laughs, noting that messing with newbies is always fun, while the dead friend on the ground sits up and asks if they saw his award-winning acting performance. The gray-haired leader, introduced as Rolf of the villainous PK guild, the Wolves, tells his friends it is time to find their next prey. Meanwhile, our fashion disaster Herkin is busy commanding his skeleton warrior to attack some forest wolves. He yells, "Attack mode," and the skeleton lunges forward, slicing through the beasts with his new sword like a pro. The system spams notifications of experience points as the skeleton hunts down Wolf after Ancient Wolf. Herkin thinks to himself that with a sword, these wolves are nothing. He tells himself that buying equipment for the skeleton first was the right choice because a true gamer cares about utility more than looks. However, despite this logical internal monologue, he literally has tears in his eyes because he knows he looks ridiculous. Even the skeleton stops killing for a second to look at him with genuine pity, its empty sockets practically screaming, "Poor owner." Herkin gets annoyed by the judgment coming from a pile of bones and snaps at it to follow him so they can clear the area. But just as the skeleton rushes toward him, an arrow flies out of nowhere and bonks it right in the skull. Herkimer is shocked, and suddenly, Rolf the scammer appears from the bushes, apologizing and claiming the skeleton looked like a monster from far away. Herkin says it is okay, but his eyes immediately lock onto the details, their bloodied weapons and the extra watches hidden on their wrists. He realizes instantly that these guys are player killers. Playing the role of the naive newbie, Herkin says he will forgive them if they give him a mana potion. Rolf flies through his teeth, claiming they are out of potions too. Instead, he offers a kind solution. They will help him hunt monsters so he can level up and replenish his mana automatically. Herkin asks if that would really be okay with a wide-eyed innocent look, and Ralph insists it is the least they can do for their mistake. Ralph points out that some monsters have appeared just in time and tells Herkin to finish them off after they weaken them. Herkin agrees with a fake smile. Ralph whispers to his comrades to execute the plan, take the aggro, cast an attack buff on the monsters, and then accidentally dump them on the flustered newbie so he dies. They launch their trap, expecting Herkin to panic. Instead, they are shocked by what actually happens. Herkin effortlessly dodges and weaves, even scolding his skeleton for moving too slow while pretending to be struggling for the audience. He calls out to them with fake tears, asking them to please continue helping. The pikers are freaking out, wondering why this clown-suited guy is so strong and suspecting he might be a high-level player in disguise. They decide to abandon the subtle approach and just mob him. The bearded giant swings his weapon at Herkin, but our boy dodges it like it was in slow motion and slices the big man down with his sword instantly. The other scammers scream in shock as Herkin calls for his skeleton. Without hesitation, Master and Minion rush the remaining men. Ralph tries to talk his way out of it, shouting to wait, but Herkin slashes him before he can finish his sentence. Herkin tells them he knows bastards like them very well, the type who backstab people who trust them. He admits that if he were his old self, their tactic would have worked. Rolf, barely clinging to life, begs for mercy and offers all his items, but Herkin coldly replies that he doesn't trust people anymore and finishes him off. The system announces Rolf's death, and Herkin is stunned to see 8 ownerless watches drop from the body. He realizes this guy was a crazy serial killer, but he is thrilled because now he can finally afford to buy some decent clothes. In the background, while Herkin counts his loot, the skeleton is furiously stabbing the dead bodies over and over again, covered in blood and looking like a total psychopath. Herkin looks at his violent little buddy affectionately and asks if he wants anything for himself, like a proud dad rewarding his son for a job well done. Herkin gently heals the arrow wound on the skeleton's head, restoring his bony body to full health. We take a moment to admire the skeleton's new look, and honestly, the little guy is feeling himself, literally blushing with happiness at his stylish attire. Herkin, deciding this is the perfect moment for a life lesson, lectures the skeleton that appearance isn't important in a game and that what truly matters is what is on the inside. Of course, he says this while striking a fabulous pose in his own brand new, not ugly outfit, looking absolutely delighted with his fashion upgrade. The skeleton is left speechless, staring at his master and probably wondering if hypocrisy is an unlockable skill for necromancers. But hey, that hypocrisy is funded by sweet, sweet crime. Herkin gloats that looting those pikers was a total jackpot because selling another player's Warwatch drops a random item from their inventory. He managed to score Black Goblin Pants, a sword with the essence of an ancient tree, a skill book called Demon's Curse, and even a pile of cash. With his gear upgraded, he decides it is time to start recording his gameplay and building a brand. He picks up a traditional Haho mask, which triggers a flashback to his past life where he innocently suggested this exact mask to his old guild to make them go viral. He remembers the backstabbing traitor agreeing to the name Haho mask back then, and he cringes at how naive he used to be. He briefly considers picking a new identity, but decides he is done letting people steal his ideas. He puts on the mask, determined to prove he was right all along, and tells the skeleton to move out. They step through the portal into the Beema Mountain Cave dungeon, where Herkin expects to fight blue werewolves and confidently sets a goal for a 10-minute speed run. Cut to a few hours later, and the speed run has turned into a slow, angry walk. Herkin is furious because there are 0 monsters in the dungeon, wondering if the game is bugged or if someone else already cleared it. While Herkin is raging, the skeleton is bored out of its mind in the background, casually slicing at the cave walls. But the bonehead actually accomplishes something, because the wall suddenly opens up to reveal a gigantic purple portal. The system announces they have discovered an instant dungeon called the Stage. Herkin realizes this is why the regular monsters didn't spawn. He explains that instant dungeons are rare, one-time events that spawn randomly, disabling the normal dungeon until they are cleared. They are incredibly difficult but offer amazing rewards, with a small catch that dying means a 48-hour login penalty. Rationally, he should walk away, but Herkin looks at common sense, says, "No thanks," and steps right into the portal. They arrive in a place that looks like a massive coliseum, which is immediately terrifying. Before Herkin can even process the scenery, the ground trembles and a corrupted werewolf appears. And this thing is not just big, it is gargantuan, with Herkin and the skeleton barely the size of its feet. The monster's level is displayed as question mark, and Herkin is confused about why a corrupted monster is here. The beast swipes at him with claws the size of a bus, and Herkin barely dodges, taking heavy damage while the skeleton grips his weapon in fear. Instead of panicking, Herkin starts laughing like a maniac. He realizes corrupted monsters are tied to the main quest, meaning this is a massive opportunity. He yells at the skeleton that if they don't kill it, there is no dinner tonight and rushes in. Motivated by the threat of starvation, the skeleton smiles and positions his sword perfectly. Herkin uses the blade as a trampoline, launching himself into the air to attack the giant. As the werewolf laughs with evil intent, Herkin slashes down, activating his new skill Demon's Curse. He lands flawlessly after slicing the monster's arm, and the system confirms the curse has reduced the target stats by 10%. Herkin is feeling pretty good about his first use of the skill, but the werewolf is less impressed. The monster turns around in fury, entering an enraged state that nullifies all status effects. Herkin admits that an instant dungeon wouldn't be fun if it was too easy, and decides to stop holding back. He clicks his watch and shouts "Slot on," enveloping himself in blue light as he prepares to show this oversized puppy who is really in charge. Herkin activates Slot On, a unique warlord feature that empowers players with strength drawn from the world itself, often called Ultimate Mode by the player base. With a confident "Bring it on," he faces the corrupted werewolf. The beast leaps with fury, and Herkin barely dodges a flurry of attacks, realizing that the speed and power of a boss monster are overwhelming. He calculates that 3 hits would mean game over, so the pressure is definitely on. He uses his ultimate Curse Sword skill, slashing across the werewolf's torso and making the monster scream in pain. Herkin, clearly an adrenaline junkie, shouts that this danger is what makes the game fun. But mid-jump, he has a whoops moment. He totally forgot that the boss is in its enraged state. As he floats in the air, about to be swatted like a fly, he smiles wickedly and asks the monster if it forgot something. Right on cue, the skeleton warrior jumps in, landing a critical hit that takes out the werewolf's other arm. Herkin shouts for them to use the move they practiced, and the duo executes a flawless combination attack, slashing the beast into pieces. The system announces the victory, and Herkin deactivates his ultimate, coolly noting that it wasn't bad. The rewards start rolling in. He gets a new quest to subjugate monsters around the cave, and the skeleton fragment skill rises to rank E. They also loot gold, werewolf coal, and werewolf hide, prompting a little celebration cheer from the pair. But the real prize is a necklace of the corrupted tracker, a Chronicle unique item. Herkin freaks out because even though it's untradeable, a Chronicle unique is a higher tier than standard unique items and boosts all stats by 18. He also unlocks 3 new titles: Promising Rookie, finally, Challenger of Heroes and Corrupted Tracker. He realizes Corrupted Tracker is the intro title for the first chapter of the main quest, Count Corruption. This is huge because the main quest is the backbone of the Warlord universe, and every player wants a piece of it. In his previous life, he barely reached Chapter 4, so unlocking this so early makes him think he has hit the absolute jackpot. Ecstatic, he logs out to check the news, expecting to see the world just starting to discover this content. Instead, he sees a live broadcast featuring a guy who looks exactly like Ultron from Marvel. The robot lookalike announces that the Hydra Guild is officially entering the final chapter of the Count Corruption scenario and aims to complete it within 3 months. Herkin pauses the video with tears in his eyes, completely devastated. He slams his head against his keyboard, shouting, "Jackpot my foot." He realizes he is wildly behind the curve and that jumping in now would get him nothing. He considers giving up until the next chapter, sighing dramatically. But then his content creator brain kicks in. He realizes the whole world is obsessed with Count Corruption right now. If he releases a video related to the main quest while the hype is at its peak, the views would be insane. He decides he needs to edit and upload his footage immediately, but he can't trust just anyone with this masterpiece. He needs the god of editing from his past life, filmmaker Romani. We cut to a girl with pink hair sitting in a fortress of cup noodle boxes. She gets interrupted mid-slurp by Herkin's request and laughs when she sees he is only level 15. She mocks him, assuming it is just some rich newbie trying to show off on social media. But the moment she watches the raw footage, she stands up in shock, blushing with excitement. She declares she has found her muse. Meanwhile, in a luxury high-rise, a woman in red robe sips champagne while overlooking the city's skyline. Her butler informs her that a video related to Count Corruption just went up, featuring a level 15 player soloing a corrupted werewolf. The butler dismisses it as low-level trash not worth their time, but the woman interrupts him. It is the Thunder Queen herself, Jay Sidleon. She smiles and demands they bring that player to her, because she likes what she sees. Herkin stares at his phone in disbelief, his eyes practically popping out of his skull. He only uploaded his video yesterday, and it has already hit 6,000 views. To put that in perspective, in his previous life, it took him months of grinding to reach numbers like that. But the weirdness doesn't stop there. The legendary editor Romani actually reached out to him first, asking if he checked the view count. Herkin is suspicious because Romani is supposed to be this mysterious, untouchable figure who never slides into DMs first. Romani replies in the chat with a "ha," claiming this is just who they are, and praises Herkin for providing such excellent source material. To make things even more awkward, Romani sends a sticker of red roses. Herkin, being the paranoid disaster that he is, immediately wants to block the account, convinced that Romani is just some weird old game addict trying to flirt with him. Romani pushes past the awkwardness and asks when they can expect the next video. This sends Herkin into a panic spiral. He realizes he can't just conjure up another corrupted werewolf out of thin air, and usually, content this good requires being at least level 50. But he knows he has to strike while the iron is hot, so he logs back into the game, desperate to find something worth filming. Meanwhile, in the high-tier zones, our favorite Hawaiian shirt-wearing tank, Natador Chef, is fanboying hard. He watches the Haha Mask video, noting that Herkin's movements are impressive no matter how many times he hits replay. He tells his guildmate that the guy looks utterly familiar, wondering if they have met before. A stunning woman with red hair and a purple dress approaches him. This is Yo from the Red Bulls Guild, and she is clearly tired of hearing about this crush. She points out that Herkin has been a hot topic recently, so it would be stranger if he didn't look familiar. Matador argues that it goes deeper than that. He explains that most newbies move timidly because the VR feels so real, but Herkin moves with zero fear. He's also mesmerized by how Herkin trained his skeleton, calling it a different level compared to other necromancers. Matador starts daydreaming about what it would be like to fight him, or maybe even duo with him, but Yo shuts that down immediately. She tells him to stop being annoying and get back inside because they are going live in 5 minutes. Matador is shocked that it is time already, but Yo reminds him that over 200,000 people bought live tickets just to see the leader of Red Bulls and the number 9 ranked player in the world. Matador switches into pro mode as the system counts down for a dungeon gate spawn, ordering all members to prepare for battle. Back in the newbie town, the vibe is significantly less epic. Herkin is at the Raiders Association, looking completely pale and disappointed because there are absolutely zero good quests available. He slams his fist and head against the table in frustration, cursing the beginner town for only offering quests like weeding or finding lost dogs. He realizes he might have to put his YouTube career on hold before it even starts. Suddenly, The old man with the eye scar, Houghton, approaches him. He recognizes Hurkin as the adventurer who cleared the Bima Mountain dungeon and asks for a moment of his time. Houghton mentions hearing about a mutant found in the cave, specifically a werewolf with strange eyes. Hurkin plays dumb, but the old man continues, explaining that there is a high chance Hurkin encountered a monster exposed to the power of the Corrupt One. Hurkin's internal ears perk up at the mention of the main quest villain. Houghton explains they haven't figured out who the Corrupt One is, but their power is causing monsters to go on rampages. The Raiders Association has put a bounty on the investigation. Hurkin immediately turns on the charm, looking at the old man with all the sweetness he can muster, and volunteers to assist in capturing that lovely, he means evil, bastard with everything he has got. He is screaming internally with excitement because this is a hidden quest. The old man hesitates, thinking it is too early for Hurkin to go against such power, but our boy interrupts him mid-sentence, shouting that it will be fine. Houghton sighs and agrees to give him a chance. He tells Hurkin to find a person named Ahimbri at the castle east of the village and offers to write a letter of recommendation. The quest window pops up, find Ahimbri, show the letter, and the reward is a skill book. Hurkin almost passes out from joy. Ahimbri isn't just some random NPC, he is one of the 7 disciples of the great mage Boka. All mages want to meet him because he hands out the rarest skill books. Hurkin realizes his Rising Star title must have overlapped with the main quest to trigger this golden opportunity. If he does this right, he won't have to worry about video material ever again. But first, he remembers he has some housekeeping to do. He goes into the forest and tosses a skeleton fragment on the ground, summoning his faithful, bony companion. He decides to reward the little guy for his hard work by using the werewolf skull item he looted. The system asks if he wants to strengthen the skeleton warrior, and Hurkin agrees. The skeleton gains the traits of a werewolf and a +2 bonus to toughness. Hurkin then equips the necklace of the corrupted tracker, boosting his own stats significantly. He declares the prep work done and shouts skeleton fragment again. But this time, he throws 2 more fragments and boom, 2 new baby skeletons appear. Our favorite original skeleton stands there, completely shocked and confused. Hurkin cheerfully announces that from now on, the 3 of them will fight as a unit and tells them to get along. But the OG skeleton is not having it. He falls to his knees, pounding the ground and screaming no, in silent, bony anguish. The poor guy realizes he is no longer the only child and has lost his exclusive monopoly on Hurkin's affection. Hurkin, completely ignoring the emotional crisis happening at his feet, just wonders what monsters are around to kill. Deep in the forest, a level 25 bear appears, and our boy is busy dodging for his life while waiting for backup. He looks panicked for a split second before smiling, thinking he's got this in the bag, and watches as one of his skeletons jumps toward the beast. But instead of a cool takedown, the skeleton gets swatted away like a fly and is completely thrown out of the fight. Hurkin screams at them, asking if they really thought such a predictable attack would work, and shouts that they need to aim for the blind spot. Immediately, the second skeleton tries the exact same frontal assault and gets launched into the stratosphere, proving that the poison isn't the only thing that's brain dead here. Hurkin's veins are literally popping out of his forehead as he yells at them, asking why they are copying the failure of the previous guy. Then, our favorite OG skeleton baby arrives, posing and looking absolutely flawless, which makes our boy blush because he thinks his favorite child might actually be competent. But reality is cruel, and the bear smacks the fabulous skeleton away just as easily, crushing both its bones and Hurkin's expectations. Our boy is beyond mad now, screaming that they are brainless idiots, which is technically true since they are skeletons, but he orders them to put their heads back on because class is in session. The 3 skeletons sit on their knees in a punishment position, holding their detached heads high while Hurkin lectures them. He explains like a patient teacher that monsters obviously defend against attacks they can see coming, so they need to flank from the blind spot. He asks them what they thought would happen charging in from the front, but the skeletons just look confused, forcing Hurkin to give up because their stupidity is just pissing him off more. He realizes that while his skill rank increased and he can now summon 3 skeletons thanks to the corrupted tracker necklace, the problem is that they cannot work together at all. He has a flashback to the fight, realizing that they all share a hive mind, meaning if one learns to attack, they all attack, but if he asks for coordination, their little bone brains short-circuit. Since they haven't learned teamwork, they cost triple the mana to summon but are actually worse than before because they just get in each other's way. He sighs, noting that he reached level 20, but he won't be able to make any cool fighting videos for a while with this clumsy squad. The skeletons look shocked and devastated that they are disappointing their daddy. Hurkin tells them to get up because they are training all the way to Bangsu Castle, resigning himself to the fact that he can't sit back and relax like a proper necromancer yet. They arrive at the Bangsu Castle branch of the Raiders Association, which looks like a crowded tavern filled with desperate players. Suddenly, a man with a green cape arrives, and the people chilling in the lobby go absolutely feral, flocking to him like zombies trying to get a piece of meat. They shout over each other, begging to know what quest he got, and our boy is shocked by the sheer desperation of these hyenas. He thinks these leeches don't even try to work hard on their own and just want to reach the top off other people's efforts. Someone shouts at Herkin, asking if he has a good quest, and our boy bluntly tells them to fuck off. He thinks he absolutely cannot let these guys find out he is doing the Ahimbri quest, so he quietly presents his letter of recommendation to the guard. The guard confirms it and invites him to the second floor, causing the zombie crowd to scream in jealousy, demanding to be let up as if they were in his party. Herkin leaves the peasants behind, wondering if he can form a long-lasting relationship with this NPC since it is a hidden quest. He opens the door and is immediately shocked because the room is a disaster zone, looking like an episode of Hoarders with piles and piles of books everywhere. Under a massive stack of literature, a man asks who he is, claiming he doesn't remember having an appointment. This messy hoarder is Ahimbri, and Herkin introduces himself, explaining he came with Hoten's recommendation. Ahimbri notes that Herkin still looks like a trainee but admits he must be skilled for his level. Our boy blushes, modestly claiming it was luck, but internally, he just wants the loot. The Ahimbri hands over the rewards, the skill book Bone Armor, and the skill book Madness Helm. Herkin is blushing with excitement, realizing he just got 2 super rare skills, and starts to thank the mage. But Ahimbri cuts him off cold, saying their business is done and telling him to take care on the way back. The system announces the quest is complete, and Herkin panics because he didn't go through all this trouble just for a one-night stand with this NPC. Greedy for more, Herkin shouts that he will do anything if the mage gives him another quest. Before he can even finish the sentence, Ahimbri grabs his hands with a creepy smile and thanks him profusely. Herkin receives a new quest called Egg of the Nest, which requires him to bring an egg, and the reward is listed as none. Our boy stands there shocked, realizing he just played himself and got tricked into free labor. Meanwhile, down in the town, the players are gossiping about a man dressed in incredibly expensive, full-body armor. One player is impressed by the gear, noting how pricey it looks. The armored man, who has striking green eyes, stares ahead and announces that this is the place where Mask is clearly hunting for our hero. Ahimbri slams the door right in Herkin's face, leaving our boy in total shock that he just got scammed by an NPC. With tears in his eyes, he realizes this Egg of the Nest quest has absolutely zero reward, and he questions his life choices out loud. Before he can spiral further, the zombie-like crowd swarms him, screaming that he has a quest and trying to grab him. Suddenly, the armored knight with the green eyes steps in, parting the sea of desperate noobs and asking for a quiet word. Herkin tells him to get lost, but the knight politely insists, addressing him as Mr. Mask. Herkin is shook that his cover is blown so easily, but he lets himself be dragged into a dark back alley. The knight deactivates his helmet to reveal he isn't some cool warrior, but actually looks like a nervous corporate butler. Herkin analyzes his gear and realizes this guy is high level, but decides the best defense is to act like a total idiot. When the butler asks if he just received a quest from Ahimbri, Herkin immediately cuts him off, shouting and asking who the hell he thinks he is. He decides to escalate the drama to 10, flipping the butler the middle finger and challenging him to put his account on the line and fight right now. Herkin prays his aggressive acting works, and miraculously, the butler buys it, apologizing for the mistake. Herkin grabs his hand to shake it, gloating internally that he scared off this sympathetic jerk. But as Herkin walks away, a shadow figure appears to debrief with the butler. The butler scoffs, claiming Herkin is definitely not a skilled player because he carelessly extended his arm with the War Watch, a rookie mistake that leaves him vulnerable. They confirm that the Egg of the Nest is indeed part of the main Corrupt Count quest, but they decide Herkin is too much of a scrub to worry about. However, the joke is on them because our boy was watching from a window above the whole time. He realizes these guys are part of a massive organization and that the egg quest is way more important than he thought. He groans, realizing that if he continues the quest, he will keep running into these freaks, meaning his YouTube career is on a definite hiatus to avoid tracking. Speaking of people ruining his life, we cut to the terrifying Thunder Queen, Cha Sol-yong, who is currently in a very bad mood. Her secretary, Park Suji, reports that the entrance exam applicants were all trash, and the queen demands an update on Mask. Terrified, the secretary lies and says he seems to have joined another guild because he hasn't responded. The queen is so pissed she literally crushes a glass bottle with her bare hand. She starts changing clothes right in front of the blushing secretary, ordering her to get a new set of applicants by tomorrow morning or else. The secretary scurries away, sighing about her boss's terrible personality. Back in the game, Herkin heads to the lizard swamp, deducing that since the quest is about an egg, the monster has to be a reptile or bird. He decides to test out his new skill, Madness Helm, on his trusty skeleton. He casts Helm on, and the skeleton transforms, gaining glowing red eyes, a red aura, and cool horns. Herkin is hyped, thinking the design is sick, and confidently orders the skeleton to attack him so they can test its power. Unfortunately, our boy once again failed to read the fine print of the skill description. He completely missed the special note warning that there is a chance the summon will lose its sanity and go absolutely feral. But the vibes turn catastrophic immediately. The skeleton lunges with genuine murderous intent, and Herkin barely has time to react before he gets caught off guard. He panics and delivers a desperate uppercut that sends the skeleton's skull flying straight up into the air, leaving the headless body to flop onto the ground. Herkin stares at the pile of bones, asking if it just screamed at him and wondering if he just got scammed by a bugged skill. Just then, a level 30 lizardman emerges from the swamp, and Herkin decides to stop beating up his own friends and use a real test subject. He activates the skill again, but this time he pairs it with bone armor, equipping his summons with actual chest plates. He realizes the Madness Helm boosts their stats by 20%, which is huge. The powered-up skeletons look absolutely menacing as they jump the lizard, and honestly, they are shelling through the enemy like a hot knife through butter. The system spams notifications of experience points, and Herkin literally blushes with joy, realizing his grinding speed just hit a new peak. He decides he's going to spend the next week hunting here to find the quest egg, completely unaware that he has attracted a parasite. From the bushes, a woman with black hair watches him while creepily licking her lips. This is Alia, and her internal monologue is a masterclass in narcissism. She is convinced she is a top-tier beauty and that her life has been easy because men are just slaves waiting to serve her. She thinks all she has to do is act troubled, and the world will bend to her will. But the swamp humbles her immediately. Mid-delusion, she slips and falls face-first into a disgusting puddle, getting mud all over her perfect hair. She rages internally, calling the place stupid, which is a hilarious contrast to the elegant persona she was projecting 2 seconds ago. It turns out her previous slave died trying to power level her, leaving her stranded in a high-level zone. She realizes she needs a new meat shield to get out, and seeing Herkin effortlessly slaughtering monsters, she decides he is the chosen one. She adopts a cute victim pose, crying out that she hurt her leg because of the monsters, expecting him to rush over like a knight in shining armor. She tries to telepathically seduce him, thinking no man can resist helping a beauty in pain. But Herkin takes one look at her and just keeps walking, completely ignoring her existence. Ilya is floored. She cannot compute that a top-tier beauty is being treated like invisible air. She starts screaming, "Excuse me," at his retreating back, and when he ignores her again, her face contorts into something straight out of The Exorcist, shattering her beauty mask entirely. Herkin tries to focus on farming, but she is relentless. She follows him around, doing fake coughs and throwing herself into different damsel in distress poses on the ground, practically begging for attention. Herkin gets annoyed, thinking that if she's in a game, she should play it properly instead of acting like a weirdo, and decides it would be faster to just deal with her. He finally turns around and asks what she wants. Ilya puts on a shy act, claiming she dropped her sword in the swamp and asking if he could retrieve it. Herkin tells her to get it and then get lost, sending his skeletons to fetch the weapon. Ilya thanks him sweetly, but behind his back, she's grinning like a maniac, thinking necromancers are useless without their summons nearby. She lunges to stab him, shouting for him to die, but Herkin isn't a rookie. He dodges easily, calling her too slow, and grabs her before yeeting her deep into the dirty swamp water. She screams, threatening that her bodyguards will destroy him for this insult, but Herkin just laughs and points behind her. She turns around to see a pack of hungry lizard men ready for dinner. Herkin tells her she needs to do a better job if she wants to scam him because he saw through her act instantly. He walks away, telling his skeletons to move out, but notices one of the skeletons is trying to pose seductively to charm him, having learned a wrong lesson from Ilya. Herkin immediately threatens to kill it for learning weird things. The system notifies him that player Ilya has died, and Herkin is thrilled to get experience points for a kill he didn't even commit. He scoffs at her earlier threat, betting his life that someone like her definitely doesn't have bodyguards. But we cut to a dark room elsewhere, filled with menacing men wearing official Ilya fan club merchandise, implying our boy might have just kicked the hornet's nest. Back in the swamp, the mood is less epic battle and more tragic cringe. Hercum pierces his sword through the chest of one of Ilya's defeated fanboys, who is lying on the ground bleeding out. Yet, this guy still has the audacity to declare that he needs to take revenge for Miss Ilya like he's the protagonist of a romance anime. Hercum looks at him with pure pity and asks the question we are all thinking. Why is he going so far for a woman he met in a video game? He ruthlessly asks if the guy actually thinks she will go out with him just because he avenged her pixelated honor. The loser starts laughing maniacally, screaming that he does it because he loves her, proving that delusion is truly the strongest stat in Warlord. Hercum decides he has heard enough cringe for one lifetime and slashes through him, ending the conversation and the delusion permanently. He admits to himself that he thought the girl was just fluffing about her bodyguards, but it turns out she really did have an army of simps at her disposal. We get a glimpse of how this happened. Ilya crying crocodile tears to her fan club, claiming the evil necromancer attacked her unprovoked, which riled up these white knights into a frenzy. But Hercum's annoyance instantly evaporates when the system notifies him of the loot. He picked up a necklace of promise, a rare item that sells for a whopping 800,000 won. Hercum immediately changes his tune, his eyes practically turning into dollar signs. He declares that love is actually great and thanks the bastards for their generous donation. His skeletons, sensing the vibe shift, mimic his excitement like cute little cheerleaders, probably hoping for a cut of the profits. Just as he is mentally planning a fancy dinner with his new funds, another wave of bodyguards arrives. And let's be real, these guys don't look like bodyguards. They look like they run a Discord server for feet pics. One of them spots Hercum, identifying him as Miss Ilya's enemy. Hercum, high on the adrenaline of being rich, probably shouts that yes, he is the thrash that killed Ilya and welcomes them to the slaughter. But his enthusiasm dies instantly when he sees just how many of them there are. Realizing he can't 1v100 an entire subreddit, he turns tail and sprints away while they scream for his blood. He wonders how one woman managed to brainwash this many people, but he doesn't have time to ponder the sociology of simping because they are catching up fast. One of the nerds shouts that he will use a special scale to stop him. He strikes a Sailor Moon-style pose to unleash the power of love. We are not joking. He attacks the skeleton with pink glitter and floating hearts. Hercum is horrified, thinking there is no way such a sad skill actually exists in a dark fantasy game, but the cringe is too powerful. It destroys his skeleton instantly. Hercum realizes he is outleveled and outnumbered, so he keeps running until he notices the environment changing into a black swamp. He realizes this place wasn't on the map before and hatches a devious plan. The fan club catches up, spotting one of his skeletons in the distance. But instead of fighting, the skeletons are literally disco dancing under a summoned disco ball, putting on a full performance. The nerds are confused, feeling insulted that the necromancer is mocking them with a dance-off in the middle of a chase. The power of love, Guy screams that he won't forgive this insult and rushes in to attack the dancing bones. But suddenly, a gigantic creature emerges from behind the skeletons. A massive tongue wraps around the nerd and eats him in one go, silencing the power of love forever. The rest of the club watches in terror as a level 40 dragon lizard, the boss of the swamp, reveals itself. Hercum watches from the shadows, putting 2 and 2 together. This is the nest from a Himbri's quest. He realizes the NPC scammed him by sending a level 20 player to fetch an egg from a level 40 raid boss. He is annoyed that a Himbri tried to send him to his death, but luckily he brought some teammates along to draw the aggro. The Sips try to flee, realizing they are hopelessly outmatched, but Hercum steps out and tells them they can't leave. He uses his skeletons to block their escape path, forcing them to fight the dragon instead. As the Sips scream and get tossed around by the boss, Hercum thanks them for their sacrifice and slips away to rob the empty nest while the dragon is distracted chewing on them. He jumps into the nest expecting an egg, but finds it completely empty except for a suspicious-looking rock with a purple symbol on it. He is confused because it looks more like a stone than an egg, but since there is nothing else there, he decides this must be it. Suddenly, the system notifies him that his skeleton warrior has been destroyed, meaning the dragon lizard has finished its appetizer and is coming back for the main course. Hercum dives behind the nest, realizing he has no time to search further. He grabs the rock, praying it's the right item, and prepares to sneak out before he becomes dessert. Back at the swamp, one of the nerds is coughing on the ground, struggling with his last breath after the dragon lizard encounter. Hercum arrives, smirking, and says Warlord is interesting because it gives so much freedom to freaks like them. He grabs the guy's watch, and when the nerd calls him a bastard, Herkin points his sword at the guy's face to set the record straight. He warns that he was playing along as a joke until now, but he has a lot on the line. He tells them that next time, they won't get off easy, issuing a warning to both the fan club and that woman. He jumps over the fallen losers, swearing that if they come after him again, it will be all-out war. Deciding it's time to cash in, Herkin contacts a player who is looking for the dragon lizard and offers to sell the location for 100,000 gold. The player thinks it's a prank, but Herkin assures them he is dead serious about the business. Herkin returns to Ahimbri's chaotic library and hands over the egg, praying it is the right item so he doesn't have to go back. Ahimbri examines it and confirms it is exactly what he was looking for, praising Herkin for being faster than expected. Herkin blushes with relief but gets annoyed when Ahimbri admits he thought it would take much longer for someone like him, realizing the NPC knew it was a suicide mission. Herkin demands the next quest, and Ahimbri explains the significance of the item. He reveals that this isn't just an egg. It is a corruption stone found wherever mutated monsters appear. Herkin is shocked, realizing this is a key item for the main quest, which explains why the organization was chasing him. They weren't just simping. They wanted to control the flow of the main storyline. Ahimbri apologizes for testing him against an unknown powerful being, but asks if he is ready to fight against corruption. Herkin excitedly shouts that he will devote his body and soul to this golden opportunity, but Ahimbri cuts him off, saying not right now. The NPC claims Herkin is still too weak and shouldn't have been given such a quest in the first place. Herkin panics, thinking he is too low level to continue, but Ahimbri offers a loophole. He says that if Herkin begs to be his disciple, he might be willing to help him train. Herkin realizes this guy is a total scammer with an ego problem, but he swallows his pride and does it. We get a flashback of Herkin cutely asking to be a disciple while Ahimbri pretends not to hear him to maximize the embarrassment. Meanwhile, a huge party is celebrating the defeat of the dragon lizard. The captain thanks their helper, who turns out to be the rich executive-looking guy from earlier. The captain is grateful because they would have died without him and tries to offer extra compensation, but the rich guy refuses, citing the rules. The rich guy demands every item from the nest as promised, and the captain agrees, thinking there is nothing of value there anyway. The rich guy smirks, thinking he has outsmarted Herkin and is about to snag the corruption stone for himself. He assumes Herkin failed because the boss was still alive, but when he arrives at the nest, he screams fuck in frustration because it is completely empty. Back in the real world, Herkin checks his bank account, declaring that his days of poverty are over. He decides to order a beefsteak to celebrate, thinking the extra cash he made is a fitting reward for his suffering. But the moment the money hits his account, it immediately vanishes to pay off his debts, leaving him with a pitiful balance. He feels like vomiting blood, shouting that his steak dinner just turned into air because he is still broke despite working his ass off. Romani messages him, asking if he is quitting YouTube since he went silent. Herkin realizes he was staying quiet to avoid the stalkers, but then asks himself why he should care when he is about to starve to death. He decides, fuck it, he is going to do his own thing and ignore the haters. Back in the game, he enters a creepy place filled with dead trees and ominous vibes. The system announces he has entered the Forest of the Dead. Herkin steps into the Forest of the Dead, and the vibes are immediately immaculate for a horror game but terrible for mental health. He admits that it's spooky no matter how many times he comes here, but his content creator brain is already turning. He realizes this gloomy atmosphere is perfect for clickbait and attracting attention to his videos, because nothing gets views like a little atmospheric drat. He announces that it is hunting time, but first, he introduces the squad to a new member. He summons a skeleton mage, a skill he picked up from that scammer Ahimbri. This little guy is wearing a cape and blushing timidly, looking absolutely terrified to meet his new bone brothers. Herkin notes that while the mage can use advanced spells, it eats up his mana like a starving child at a buffet, which is going to be a problem since his mana pool is currently tragic. Just then, a skeletal hand bursts out of a grave, and a pack of level 33 skeleton zombies crawls out to say hello. But instead of attacking, Herkin's skeletons freeze in total shock. They look at the enemies, then look at themselves, and you can practically see the existential crisis happening in real time because the bad guys look exactly like them. They are completely confused, wondering if they are about to commit fratricide. Herkin snaps them out of it, asking what the hell they are doing and ordering them to hunt the enemies down. The skeletons are horrified that they have to kill their own kind, trembling in fear behind Herkin's legs. Herkin yells at them to stop wasting time because they have a schedule to keep. Finally, one brave skeleton jumps forward with tears in his empty eye sockets and slashes an enemy. But the drama isn't over. The enemy skeleton just reassembles itself and keeps attacking, which scares the living daylights out of Hirken's poor minion. Hirken sighs, explaining like a tired teacher that normal attacks don't work on the undead. He whips out a rare item called the Major's Hammer, which boosts strength by 35, and decides to demonstrate. He smashes the enemy's head clean off and crushes the body, cheering home run, like he's at a baseball game. He turns to his traumatized minions, who are pale with fear, and gives them an ultimatum. He declares a time attack. They have to hunt down 100 skeletons in 100 minutes. If they fail, he threatens to leave them alone in this creepy forest forever. Motivated by sheer terror, the skeletons immediately start leaping at the enemies, crying while they kill. The farming goes surprisingly well, with the system spamming level up notifications. Hirken is thrilled, thinking they are adapting faster than expected and that this video is going to be a total banger. He even considers texting Romani early to brag, but then he hears a heavy thud. A level 35 skeleton warrior appears. This isn't your average bag of bones. It's gigantic, armored, and carrying massive weapons. Hirken stares at this rare monster, but instead of seeing a threat, his brain short-circuits. He realizes the monster looks vaguely like a cow, and suddenly, all he can see is a walking steak dinner. With new determination burning in his eyes, he sprints toward the monster, screaming, "Get him, my beef." He is literally debating whether to grill it or have a steak while running into battle. The skeleton warrior isn't amused and smashes its axe into the ground, creating a massive shockwave of destruction. Hirken barely dodges, admitting that was scary enough to almost kill him, but he manages to slice off the arm holding the weapon. The skeleton is furious now, but Hirken calls for a pelvis crusher attack. He and his minions jump the boss, shattering it to pieces. Hirken sighs with relief, asking if everyone is okay, but suddenly the pile of bones starts shining and reassembling. Hirken looks back, smiling, and says the guy is so impatient because he still has one move left. From the backlands, the shy little skeleton mage finally steps up and nukes the enemy with a gigantic fireball. The system confirms the kill, and Hirken is ecstatic, calculating that this clip alone is worth 10,000 views. He rubs his stomach, complaining that he is hungry and wondering how he should cook his imaginary beef. But the celebration is cut short. A system notification pops up warning that the field boss has detected the death of its underling and is waking up. A massive magic circle appears, and out rises the golden skeleton, a level 40 boss monster. This thing is a nightmare. It has multiple hands, a huge crown, and is the first mage-class boss monster they have faced. Hirken realizes this is the infamous newbie killer, a boss that ends careers. He suddenly remembers that the spawn condition for this boss was defeating a large number of skeletons, a detail he completely forgot in his hunger-induced haze. He knows this is a jackpot opportunity, but it's risky. He decides he can win if he fully buffs his army. He turns around to give the order, shouting "Skeletons we are," but stops dead. His skeletons are gone. The system dryly informs him that the summoning has been undone due to a lack of mana. Hirken stands there, completely alone in front of a raid boss, realizing he just accidentally fired his entire team right before the most important fight of his life. Hirken realizes that summoning 4 skeletons and having the mage spam spells was a rookie mana management mistake, leaving him completely drained and forcing his summons to depawn. He sighs, admitting he has no choice but to get his hands dirty for the first time in a while. He activates Slot On, powering up his own body to face off against the golden skeleton solo. The boss immediately starts blasting him with magic, and Hirken is dodging for his life, knowing a single hit would send him back to the respawn point. He realizes why this boss is called the Newbie Thriller. The spell spam is relentless. Hirken decides if he can't outdamage the boss, he needs to disarm it, literally. He uses his OP hammer to smash one of the skeleton's hands, reasoning that without hands, it can't cast spells. The skeleton looks shocked and annoyed, which is a hilarious emotion for a face with no skin. Hirken smirks evilly, planning to break every single bone finger this guy has. But the golden skeleton isn't going down without a fight. The system warns that the boss has seen through Hirken and is guarding its skill level. Suddenly, the skeleton shapes its remaining hands into a new seal, and a terrifying purple aura erupts from its body. Hirken is shook, asking what the hell is going on as the boss unleashes a brand new attack pattern. Our boy is running away screaming, wondering if the devs dropped a balance patch he missed, because he definitely doesn't remember this from his past life. He manages to dodge by a hair's breadth, frustrated that he can't recall the attack pattern since it has been years since he hunted this boss. Without his summons and fighting a boss with amnesia-inducing moves, He realizes he has to rely on pure instinct and dodge everything until he finds an opening. But just as he thinks he is safe, a giant skeletal hand grabs him out of thin air, dangling him helplessly. Herkin curses the luck-based mechanics as the boss prepares a finishing blow. But our boy isn't out of tricks yet. He activates Demon's Curse, dropping the boss's stats by 13%. Herkin leaps out of the weakened grip, thanking the boss for giving him the perfect opening. He delivers an incredibly strong punch that causes an actual explosion, smirking as he declares the boss defeated. The golden skeleton crumbles, and the system showers him with rewards. Nearly 98,000 gold, a level up to 36, and the title Skeleton Destroyer. Herkin laughs, admitting that if the fight had gone on for 10 more minutes, he would have been toast. He checks his status window and realizes he has massively leveled up, with his strength hitting triple digits. He is thrilled about hitting level 36, but his excitement dampens when he sees his mana is only at 141. He realizes his build is a mess. He pumped everything into strength for his skeletons, but without enough mana to keep them summoned. He is just a guy with a stick. He wants better gear to fix his stats, but he is broke. Deciding to worry about it later, he sends the raw footage to Romani and skips away, dreaming of the beef dinner he is definitely going to eat this time. Cut to Romani, who watches the video and practically explodes with fangirl energy. She punches her pillow aggressively, gushing over how he defeated a higher-level boss without taking a single hit, all while improvising on the spot. She calls him talented and jumps around her apartment like she just won the lottery. She sits back down, realizing the raw footage is so good it barely needs editing, and brainstorms a title. She considers The Man Who Dominates Skeletons, but decides on something far more iconic, Emperor of Solo Play. Back at the Bangsu Castle branch of the Raiders Association, our boy returns looking like he just wrestled a garbage truck and lost. Ahimbri turns around and genuinely asks why he looks like a homeless person. Herkin stares at him, wondering whose fault that actually is, considering the suicide mission he just got sent on. He sarcastically laughs and demands his reward immediately, because he is not in the mood for games. Ahimbri hands over a skill book called Osteology Mastery, which is a super rare necromancer skill you cannot even find on the market. Herkin reads the stats and nearly drools. It increases all skeleton stats by 5% and, most importantly, reduces the mana cost for summoning and maintaining them by 10%. It even allows him to summon one additional skeleton. Herkin is ecstatic because his mana management has been an absolute disaster up until now. He thanks the NPC, thinking his life just got way easier. But Ahimbri isn't done. He pulls out the Corrupted Tracker's Ring, explaining that he crafted it using the stone Herkin brought back. The stats on this thing are insane. It is a Chronicle unique item that gives +2 to all stats, but if worn with the necklace he already has, it boosts all stats by 21. Herkin is salivating, realizing this is the kind of gear usually reserved for the first people to clear the main quest line. He blushes with excitement and reaches out to grab the ring, saying thank you like a good little boy. But just as his fingers are about to touch it, Ahimbri pulls it away. The old mage dodges and says that, now that he thinks about it, he can't just hand it over. Herkin stands there in shock as Ahimbri adopts the creepy persona of a playful schoolgirl, giggling and saying, "Catch me if you can." Herkin snaps, screaming you're dead, as he chases the crazy old man out of the room. Ahimbri springs away, loving every second of this, while Herkin runs after him, completely out of breath and cursing the fact that he can't kill him because he is an essential NPC. They end up in a forest area where Ahimbri finally stops to drop some more. He tells Herkin that he lost contact with an agent named Mickey and needs him to visit Ryu Castle. Herkin is annoyed but decides to let the old man live this one time. He realizes Ryu Castle is in a high-level area, so he needs to grind on the way there. Suddenly, his watch buzzes with a message from Romani. She tells him he has urgent news and needs to check the Golden Skeleton video immediately. He opens the interface and his eyes practically pop out of his skull. The video has 2.35 million views and the donation total has 8 zeros. Herkin is so shocked he literally falls over. But he doesn't see numbers. He sees a menu. His brain immediately starts listing every expensive cut of meat in existence: tomahawk, ribeye, filet mignon, lobster, caviar, and pork belly. He is absolutely ecstatic, realizing he can finally eat something that isn't instant noodles or sadness. He thinks this is a total jackpot, far better than he expected. But before he can log out to go stuff his face, another notification pops up. It is a donation of 1 million won from the Thunder Hunters Guild. The message is from their scouting manager, politely asking Mr. Haho Mask for a meeting since he hasn't replied to their DMs. Herkin freezes. The Thunder Hunters want to recruit him? That is the guild led by the woman who ruined his life, Chao Soliang. He remembers they were persistent in his previous life too. He immediately screams for them to screw off, thinking he wouldn't join them even if his life depended on it. But then, a wave of déjà vu hits him. He realizes he said the exact same thing in his past life. We get a flashback to his traitorous friends from the old days. Back then, they convinced him not to join the Thunder Hunters, even though it guaranteed a six-figure salary. They stroked his ego, telling him he was too good for the big guilds and that their small guild would become the strongest if he stayed. Herkin remembers how he naively agreed, telling them money would come later. In the present, he slaps himself across the face. He realizes he was an idiot for listening to the people who eventually stabbed him in the back. He tells himself that now is not the time to be crazy over money because he has too much work to do to surpass them. He summons his skeletons, and they appear looking eager. Herkin tells them that today they are starting a new training regimen because their efficiency in the last raid was garbage. He asks if they can do it, and the little skeletons give him enthusiastic thumbs-ups. Herkin grins, saying their next destination is Ryu Castle and they will be training on the way. He cheerfully explains that the training consists of running the entire distance, and if any of them fall behind, they get beaten. The skeletons immediately regret everything and start sprinting in terror, crying their non-existent eyes out as Herkin chases them with a bat, laughing like a maniac. Meanwhile, we cut to the Thunder Queen herself, Chao So-young. She is sitting in a dark room, but instead of a chair, she is casually lounging on a pile of monster corpses because apparently, she likes her furniture dead and smelly. A man in a blue cloak named Hatch asks what she is thinking about. She asks about the progress on the corrupted Count quest. Hatch admits they haven't found a clue yet, which pisses her off because the Hydra Guild is ahead of them. She calls the situation humiliating. Hatch mentions they need to figure it out soon because there is a meeting with the leaders of the top 30 guilds coming up. The Queen scoffs, saying there is no way she is meeting with those losers, while Hatch just sighs, telling her to be careful. Our boy slams a massive bag of cash onto the table with the swagger of a mafia boss, telling the loan sharks that he brought the principal and the interest in cold, hard bills. He hands over the money, thinking he is finally free from his debt and ready to start his new life. But because financial responsibility is a foreign concept to him, he immediately pivots to buying rare scale books. Just like that, his bank account is back on life support, and looking at his remaining balance physically hurts him. He decides to ignore the poverty and focus on the loot he just bought. The system announces he has learned Skin Grafting Mastery, a passive skill that increases defense by attaching monster remains to his skin. It sounds gross, but effective. The description warns that if the material takes too much damage, it needs to be replaced. But our boy is just excited about the defense boost. The system asks if he wants to use a skeleton warrior's horn to strengthen himself, and he shouts yes without hesitation. He gains the essence of Skeleton Warrior and a +5 to defense. Naturally, his first instinct to test this defense buff is to grab a sword and stab himself in the arm. He's thrilled to discover he takes 0 damage, noting it works better than expected. Meanwhile, his skeletons are standing there watching their dad self-harm, looking completely creeped out by his behavior. Ignoring their judgment, he moves on to the next book and learns Curse of Sloth Mastery. This skill slows down a target's movements, and while it costs more mana for bigger targets, it is a debuff essential for kiting. He tests it on his poor, dancing skeleton baby and decides it will be great for combat. Finally, he opens the last and most important book, Summon Golem. He admits this was the hardest one to get and the one he wanted the most. The ground rumbles, and a gigantic golem rises up, looking absolutely massive. Our boy is hyped, realizing a necromancer isn't real without a golem, and notes that this big guy looks way more reliable than any human tank. He activates Golem Copy Mode, which allows him to synchronize his movements with the monster to combine their strength. He throws a punch, expecting the golem to mirror him instantly for a devastating attack. Instead, the golem just stares at its hand in confusion. The synchronization failed so hard that everyone feels secondhand embarrassment. Herkin shouts, wondering if the thing is bugged. A full 5 seconds later, the golem finally throws the punch. It has a delay longer than Internet Explorer on a dial-up connection. Herkin is horrified, realizing this is its top speed. He laughs maniacally, asking what he is supposed to do with this garbage pay-to-win game, and ends up crying on the floor in defeat. In the background, the golem is still repeating his movements from 10 seconds ago, looking ridiculous. Meanwhile, the adults are talking. We cut to a secret meeting of the top guild leaders. Nurgle, the leader of the Ares Guild, Thanks everyone for coming. We see Matador from the Red Bulls looking cheerful, and a punk rock looking guy named Berg, leader of the Big Smile Guild. And, of course, the Thunder Queen herself is there, looking unimpressed. Berg points out that 29 people were invited, but only 4 showed up, which is a pretty sad participation rate. Matador laughs, claiming even this turnout is a miracle given how much the top 30 guilds hate each other. Nergal drops the bomb. The Hydra Guild has identified the corrupt count and is planning the final raid in a month. Matador is shocked because nobody else was even close, implying Hydra found a secret method. Berg slams his fist on the table, panicking that if Hydra clears the quest, they will hog all the sponsorships, ads, and content. The Thunder Queen interrupts him, telling him to shut up and stay down if he is scared because he is annoying her. Berg squares up, asking if she wants to fight right now. Matador steps in like a tired kindergarten teacher, reminding them that fighting each other only helps Hydra. He proposes an anti-Hydra alliance. The 4 guilds will promise a ceasefire until the corrupt conquest is done and share no information with outsiders. Matador admits he hates scheming, but they have no choice. Berg agrees, noting they are doomed if they don't stop Hydra. The meeting adjourns, leaving the Thunder Queen seething in silence. Later, we see her in the shower, because apparently, that is where villains do their best thinking. Furious that she has to team up with other guilds to beat a Chapter 1 boss, she realizes she has to lay low for now, but she orders her guild to watch Hydra like hawks. She vows the corrupt count will be hers no matter what. Back at the Raiders Association in Ryu Castle, our boy Hirkin is shouting in disbelief. The NPC calmly tells him to go to Bobo Forest to search for a missing agent named Mickey. Hirkin stares at him like he is crazy because Bobo Forest is filled with level 70 monsters. He points out that he will die immediately if he goes there. The NPC doesn't care about his safety and simply says that since he is the pupil of a Himbri, he has to do it. He drops the ultimate threat. If Hirkin declines, he will lose his corrupted tracker status. Our boy stands there, completely shocked that he is being blackmailed into a suicide mission by a quest giver. After leaving the building, our boy Hirkin is completely floored, standing there sighing and wondering what the hell just happened. He pulls up the quest window to reread the absolute nightmare he just accepted. Find the missing agent Mijai. The mission is to find this agent who is investigating corruption stones in the Bobo Forest and take over their job. The reward is 500 gold, which is nice, but the penalty for failure is losing his corrupted tracker title. And just to add some spice to his panic attack, he has a time limit of exactly 29 days, 9 hours, and 33 minutes. Hirkin immediately starts raging, screaming that if he loses that title, he gets kicked out of the main quest line entirely. He realizes that his habit of taking on quests way above his pay grade has finally backfired spectacularly. Usually, he manages to scrape by through sheer luck and grit, but this is a quest meant for level 60 players, and he is definitely not level 60. He is spiraling, thinking he can't give up the main quest, but he also definitely cannot go to that suicide forest. Fate, however, decides to throw him a bone. He overhears a knight and a witch-looking character gossiping nearby. The knight wonders if the Hydra Guild will complete the main quest line soon, noting that if they do, they will leave every other guild in the dust. The witch replies that the other top 30 guilds are struggling to even start the quest. Then the knight asks the million-dollar question: what happens to all the ongoing quests if the corrupted count is defeated? Hirkin smirks, realizing that if the chapter ends, his impossible quest might just disappear with it, meaning he doesn't have to go to the forest after all. We cut to a scene straight out of a spy movie, where 2 guys are observing a castle through binoculars. One of them complains that sitting there watching a building for hours is driving him crazy. We are introduced to Nato, Hydra's 8th in command, a ginger guy who clearly takes himself way too seriously. His partner wonders what the reward for beating the boss will be, betting Hydra will become top tier. Nato, trying to be the cool, professional agent, lectures him about staying calm and not letting their guard down. But because the universe loves irony, a man immediately walks up behind them screaming, "Wow, found you, Nato," completely shattering their stealth vibe. Nato freaks out, shouting in annoyance. The loudmouth is Kim's from the Red Bulls Guild, rank 3, who acts like they are old buddies catching up. Nato asks what a Red Bull is doing there, and Kim's claims he is just on his way to fight a boss on the mountain. Kim's then looks at Nato and asks if he looks unwell, casually asking if he needs to take a shit. Nato screams that he does not need to use the bathroom, but Kim's just decides to leave, saying he has an emergency and telling them to feel free to relieve themselves. As Kim's walks away, leaving a furious Nato being held back by his partner, he whispers into his watch. He confirms that Hydra's 8th command is there, meaning the anonymous tip they received was real. Back at Red Bull's HQ, Matador and Yeo are shocked that the tip about the corrupted count's location was accurate. Yeo admits she thought it was a prank since it was sent anonymously and for free. Matador suspects it might be a traitor from within Hydra, but another member interrupts via comms, saying they shouldn't look a gift horse in the mouth and suggests they start a fight to buy time. Matador, being the sensible one, orders a retreat, reasoning that if the count is there, Hydra's main forces are too, and they can't afford a full-scale war right now. Kim's, clearly enjoying himself, says Matador is just trying to flatter him by saying the guild needs him, but agrees to leave. Suddenly, a shadow drops from the sky with a massive explosion. Kim's finds himself with a sword pointed at his neck. He raises his hands, joking that the crazy Chihuahua, aka the Princess of the Thunder Hunters, has arrived. We see a girl with ponytails holding the blade, demanding he tell her everything or die. Back with Herkin, we are treated to the most pathetic fight scene in history. A big bear attacks this golem. The golem prepares to punch, but it is moving so slowly that the bear just stands there watching, confused. The awkward silence is deafening as the golem loads its attack with the speed of a buffering video. The bear eventually loses patience and just attacks the golem, while the skeletons watch from the sidelines, seemingly entertained by the disaster. Herkin is annoyed, wondering why his inbox is so quiet. He explains his master plan. Since the main quest operates in chapters, if someone defeats the corrupted count, Chapter 1 ends, and all related quests, including his impossible one, forcefully close. He can't beat the boss in 29 days, so he decided to leak the location to every major guild, except the Thunder Queen, of course, to force them to clear it for him. Just as his golem's arms literally fall off from the bear's attack, a notification pops up. The Hydra Guild has started a live stream. Herkin casually walks up to the bear and smack it down effortlessly, because he has more important things to do, like watching TV. On the screen, a Hydra representative announces they have found the corrupted count and are planning the raid. Herkin stares at the screen, praying desperately that the date is within the month. The representative begins to announce the date, leaving our boy hanging on for dear life. Our boy Herkin is so excited he is laughing like a creep, counting down the days until his freedom. He figures 3 days is quick, but it makes sense because Hydra must be sweating bullets after he leaked the info. He watches his golem practice his slow-motion punches on a bear and reassures himself that since it is Hydra, he doesn't need to worry. They are ahead of everyone, and once they clear the quest, his impossible deadline vanishes, and his happy life begins. 3 days later, cut to a scene of absolute failure. A Hydra member is dying on the ground, and the system brutally announces, "Failed. All members of the Hydra Guild have died." We cut to Herkin's face, and oh boy, it is a masterpiece of disappointment. He looks like a disappointed Asian parent whose kid just brought home a B-. The sheer judgment radiating from his black and white expression is potent enough to kill a man. He throws his phone in a rage, screaming at the screen. He asks if they are kidding him and why they would rush it if they were just going to fail in an hour. He spirals, wondering if he overestimated them and if he needs to find a backup plan immediately. Just then, he gets a notification. Red Bulls have started a live stream. He panics, realizing that Red Bulls means Matador Chev, and since the field resets after a failure, they must be going in right now. On the screen, Matador is giving a speech to his army. He acknowledges that the enemy is strong enough to wipe out Hydra, and that they are low on supplies, meaning their success rate is abysmal. But then he shouts that Red Bulls will take on the challenge anyway, and the army goes wild, chanting Red Bulls, like they are at a football game. Herkimer's baffled, thinking it is reckless to start immediately after Hydra's wipe. But then Matador drops the real bomb. He introduces their partner for the raid, the Guild Master of Thunder Hunters, Thunder Queen Shiro. Herkin's jaw hits the floor. We get a flashback to earlier that day where Matador is shocked that the Queen herself asked for a meeting. He asks if she is declaring war, but she coolly replies that they are allies for now. Matador mentions one of his men got beaten up, and she dismisses it as greasing him up. She gets straight to business, asking about the corrupt count info. Matador tries to play dumb, but the Queen cuts through the BS, saying even an idiot would notice something is up when guilds start moving toward the count's location. She predicts Hydra will fail because they rushed the raid to be first. She points out that the corrupt count is a main quest boss, not a loot pinata, and Hydra should have waited. Then she slams her sword onto the table and makes an offer. "How about we work together? I'll get you the first kill." Matador realizes she isn't bluffing. Back in the present, the raid is chaos. Matador admits she has the skills to back up her talk as the Queen slashes through goblins like a blender. But the corrupt count, who looks like a vampire with a bad tentacle addiction, laughs at them. He calls them lowly scum and sends endless waves of monsters. The army is struggling, screaming to hold the line. Matador realizes they are reaching their limit. The queen notes there is no end to them. Matador decides to go all in. He jumps in front of the queen, shouting that he will open a path for her. She rushes the objective, dodging tentacles with determination. She winds up for the final blow, shouting it's over, but gets pierced through the stomach by a massive tentacle. Matador screams her name, thinking she is done for, but the queen isn't just scary, she is terrifying. She ignores the gaping wound, slashes through the tentacle, and lands the killing blow anyway. Matador laughs nervously, realizing she is even scarier than he thought. The system announces that Red Bulls and Thunder Hunters have defeated the corrupt count. Herkin watches this with mixed feelings. He is annoyed that his nemesis, Chao Sul-young, got the win, but he shrugs it off, telling himself it doesn't matter who killed the boss as long as the quest is done. He smirks with a determined look, declaring that she should enjoy it while it lasts because the corrupt count will be the last victory she ever gets. After all, the real winner in the end will be him. Back on the Bokeh Mountains, our boy Herkin stands heroically, monologuing that his name is Jae-hyun A. Herkin, and his dream is to become the strongest and get revenge on the folks who screwed him over. He looks like he is in a perfectly cinematic, happy movie scene until reality hits him. He asks why stuff like this keeps happening to him every day as we pan out to see he isn't just jumping happily. He's literally being chased by a stampede of level 60 wild boars. We get a flashback to a few hours earlier. Herkin arrives at the entrance of the Bokeh Mountains, which is surrounded by a red barrier. His skeleton looks confused, but Herkin explains that this is a blocked field, restricted until certain conditions are met. However, since the Corrupted Count questline from Chapter 1 was cleared, the entrance automatically opened. The system notifies him he has obtained the title, the first to step into the Bokeh Mountains, giving him +2 to all stats and +1 to class-related stats. Herkin is thrilled, saying it is his time to shine because nobody else figured it out yet. He confidently tells his skellies let's go, only to be immediately faced with a herd of ferocious wild boars. The system helpfully points out they are level 60 and move in groups. Herkin, who is currently sitting at a humble level 41, is absolutely shocked. Back in the present, Herkin is running for his life, wondering how he is so unlucky to run into a high-level mob the second he entered. He realizes he can't waste time because other players will figure out the barrier is down soon. Desperate, he decides to fight. He casts Madness Helm on his skeletons and orders them to attack. The skeletons jump in heroically, only to be ripped to shreds instantly. The system announces the skeleton has been destroyed after taking too much damage from just one hit. Herkin is shocked but decides to use his new Curse of Sloth skill. He hits the boars with the debuff, thinking they won't be able to move for 5 seconds, giving him the perfect opening to avenge his fallen comrades. He turns to attack with a dramatic flare, but before he can even take a step, he slips on a banana peel. Yes, a banana peel. He falls flat on his face, wasting the entire 5-second window of his curse. He is mortified, asking what the hell just happened. From the top of a tree, an armor monkey, level 50, is eating bananas and laughing its ass off at him. The system notes that this monster likes to play pranks on humans. Herkin is furious, shouting UF*, come back here. But before he can get his revenge, he realizes the curse on the boars has lifted. The angry stampede is charging right at him, and he thinks he is done for. Suddenly, a laser-like arrow shoots from the trees, piercing through the boars and killing them instantly. Herkin is shocked that they all died in one shot. A mysterious archer hidden in the trees asks if he is hurt. Herkin stares, realizing this isn't just any player. Meanwhile, in Rio Castle, a ginger-haired man points out a player wearing the white Mamba armor set to his black-haired friend. They note it is super expensive and wonder who the ranker is. We then cut to our rich-looking executive/butler guy talking to a shadow figure. He asks if they found the identity of the reporter Michelle. The shadow says no, and that nobody knows who sent the info on the corrupted count. The rich guy asks about Haho Mask, Herkin. The shadow dismisses Herkin, saying he has just been uploading normal hunting videos about giant bears, so there is no way a newbie is behind this massive conspiracy. The rich guy says he is off to the Sweepers Guild for his helper job and tells the shadow to focus on finding the person responsible. He is incredibly annoyed, vowing to make the culprit pay for destroying the balance of the world. Back in the forest, Herkin is sitting with his savior, the archer. The archer asks if he is a disciple of a Himbri, and Herkin confirms it. Internally, Herkin is freaking out because he recognizes the NPC as Ma Wong, the main character of the Chapter 2 questline. He realizes he got incredibly lucky to run into him this early. Ma Wong explains he was doing his rounds and found him just in time. We learn that Ma Wong used to be the prince's swordsmanship instructor but was kicked out and now leads the rangers protecting the mountain. Ma Wong tells Herkim to go back because the place is too dangerous. Herkim drops the bomb. The corrupt count is dead. He explains that even though the count is gone, corrupt monsters are still roaming, and he traced the cause here. Ma Wong is intrigued and admits he has a suspect but no evidence. He asks Herkim to help him collect it. The system awards Herkim the title Initiator, first to contact a Bouquet Ranger, boosting all stats by 14. Herkim is ecstatic about getting 2 rare titles and eagerly accepts the quest. Ma Wong tells him to defeat 50 monsters near the area to prove himself. Herkim walks away, thinking this is great for leveling up. He decides to leave the high-level boars for later and start with the easier ones. Then he remembers the monkey jerk who threw the banana at him. His eyes narrow, and he declares he is ready for revenge, plotting exactly how to pay that bastard back. Deep in the mountains, the dignity of the player base is taking a massive hit as we watch person after person slipping on banana peels and falling to their deaths. Perched in a tree, an armor monkey is laughing hysterically at the chaos, clearly enjoying its life as the biggest troll in the forest while preparing to reload its fruity ammunition. But suddenly, Herkim appears from behind like a creepy exorcist villain, whispering that he has found him. The monkey looks back nervously, and our boy declares that the primate is dead meat. Herkim swings his sword, but the monkey dodges effortlessly while picking its nose, which is just disrespectful on so many levels. Our boy is getting annoyed because the monkey is too fast and the trees are getting in his way, making it impossible for his golem to land a clean hit. He decides to switch tactics and throws his sword directly at the monkey instead of chasing it. The blade strikes the tree right next to the monkey's arm, missing by an inch. The monkey sighs in relief and goes back to laughing, thinking Herkim has terrible aim, but Herkim just smirks and calls him a sucker because the sword was just a feint. Behind the distracted monkey, the golem winds up a punch that sends not only the monkey, but also the entire tree flying into the stratosphere. The system notifies Herkim that he has obtained the title, the first to hunt down an armor monkey, and he is thrilled, declaring it is time to exterminate every single one of these guys. Meanwhile, back in civilization, hundreds of reporters are flashing cameras as Matador Chevy and the Thunder Queen descend a fancy staircase like royalty. A reporter congratulates them on defeating the Chapter 1 boss and asks the Queen for a statement. She smiles sweetly, claiming they were just very lucky and promising to work hard in the future, looking like the picture of humility. But the second she steps out of the spotlight, the mask drops, and she looks absolutely furious. The Thunder Princess fangirls over her, praising how she saved the raid when the final wave hit, but the Queen snaps back that she really did just get lucky. She admits they wouldn't have succeeded without the Red Bulls and realizes that to achieve total victory next time, she needs someone with actual skills. She orders the princess to contact Hatch because there is something or someone they need to hunt down, and judging by her face, it isn't going to be a friendly chat. Back in the forest, Herkim's victory lap is cut short when his sword shatters into 1,000,000 pieces. The system brutally informs him that the durability has reached 0, and he stares at the broken handle, realizing his wallet is about to cry again. He is broke, so he decides to gamble his time by farming for monster gems, rare drops used to craft items. He recalls that the gems from armor monkeys are great for crafting, so he vows to hunt every last one of them, looking at the monkeys with a creepy expression that even makes his skeletons uncomfortable. 9 hours later, our boy is standing on a mountain of monkey corpses, looking completely dead inside because not a single gem has dropped. He has fallen deep into the gambler's fallacy, muttering maniacally that maybe the next one will drop it. Just then, a player decked out in incredibly expensive fire lizard gear and holding an orc hero sword approaches him. Herkim immediately assumes it is one of the mysterious stalkers, but the guy introduces himself as Coyote, strikes a cringy pose, and challenges him to an official duel. Coyote explains that he heard Herkim is popular on YouTube and figures beating him will get him some clout. Herkim realizes this guy is just a rich, attention-seeking loser and tells him to buzz off because he is busy grinding. Herkim is already pissed about the drop rates and really doesn't have the patience for this nonsense. But then, Coyote gets desperate and begs him, offering 5,000 gold just for one fight. Herkim pauses. He thinks about how annoying this guy is, but then his capitalist soul takes over. He spins around with a blush and cute little dance, welcoming his new customer with open arms because, apparently, his dignity costs exactly 5,000 gold. We open with a scene that physically hurts to watch. This armored stranger decides to introduce himself by delivering a dance routine that is 1 part Pokemon, 1 part Sailor Moon, and 100% cringe. He announces that his name is Kyote, the hero of justice, and strikes a pose with a dramatic explosion in the background because apparently, he thinks he is the main character of an anime. He claims his talent is being the center of attention, but we immediately cut to a flashback revealing the tragic truth. Nobody cares about him. While he is trying to look cool, random passersby are busy gossiping about how fun Haho Mask is to watch, completely ignoring our armored friend. Kyote tries to interject, asking them to listen, but they just keep raving about our boy's new video upload. The jealousy is real. Kyote is shown slamming his fists against the ground, screaming that Haho Mask is a bastard for burying him in the algorithm, even though they started at the same time. He cries that he has better items and a higher level, so he just cannot understand why the world loves a guy in a creepy mask more than him. Back in the present, he spots Hirkin and realizes this is his golden ticket. He thinks that if he defeats the famous Haho Mask right here, he can steal all that delicious fame for himself. He formally challenges our boy, offering 5,000 gold if Hirkin wins. Hirkin, whose morality can be bought for a corn chip, obviously agrees. But then things get weird. Instead of drawing his weapon, Kyote starts stripping. He takes off his expensive full-body armor until he is standing in the middle of the forest in nothing but his boxers and a helmet. Hirkin shouts at him, demanding to know what the hell he is doing. Kyote explains that he heard Hirkin's weapon broke earlier, so to ensure a fair and square one-on-one fight, he is removing his gear advantage. He warns Hirkin to bring everything he has got, but our boy just asks if he is really expected to take a naked man seriously. The naked hero charges in, shouting that there has been enough chit-chat. He activates a skill called Booster, and Hirkin realizes that despite the lack of pants, this guy is actually dangerous. Hirkin dodges a flaming fist and admits internally that if he faces this guy head-on, he doesn't stand a chance because of the level gap. Kyote taunts him to stop being defensive and fight, but Hirkin decides that honor is for losers. Our boy scoops up a handful of dirt and throws it directly into Kyote's eyes. While the naked hero is coughing and blinded, asking what dirt, Hirkin ruthlessly kicks him in the face and punches him in the gut. Kyote shouts in disbelief, asking how throwing dirt is considered a skill, but Hirkin coldly replies that nobody cares about fairness when your life is on the line. He tells Kyote that he lost the moment he prioritized sticking to his cool character over actually winning the fight. Hirkin activates Skin Stitching, absorbing the attributes of the armor monkey to buff his defense against the incoming attacks. He walks toward Kyote with a terrifying aura, telling him he better be ready since he started this. Kyote immediately crumbles, screaming, "Wait, I surrender," while crying his eyes out. To make his point, Hirkin punches past him, obliterating the tree behind him with terrifying force. The naked man looks up in horror, thinking that was so scary he almost forgot he was inside a video game. Hirkin demands his 5,000 gold, expecting the guy to be angry. Instead, Kyote is shaking with excitement, literally getting a nosebleed from how cool he thinks Hirkin is. He takes off his helmet to reveal he is actually a shockingly handsome blonde man and gushes over Hirkin's strength. He admits his total defeat and hands over the gold, but then he goes a step further. He offers his own weapon as a tribute. Hirkin inspects the item and nearly has a heart attack. It is an Orc Hero's sword, a rare item with plus 66 strength and stamina that ignores defense. Hirkin calculates that this thing is worth at least 15,000 gold at auction. He is blushing with excitement, but then catches himself, realizing how embarrassing it looks to be this happy next to a half-naked man. Kyote, now fully in fanboy mode, explains that he has been so blinded by chasing popularity that he forgot to actually get stronger. He declares that Hirkin is the only one worthy of becoming his brother. Hirkin looks at him, thinking that despite being an idiot, the guy has a cool side. But then, our boy remembers he is a menace. He kicks Kyote directly in the family jewels, shouting "Worthy my ass" and telling the skeleton to get lost. Kyote, now beaten up and abandoned, dramatically yells his full name, Don Quixote, and vows to return once he is worthy of being his brother. Hirkin walks away with his skeleton gang, calling the guy a crazy bastard, but admits the free sword is nice. He says there is no need to hunt armored monkeys anymore, but then he stops. His gambling addiction flares up. He stares at the forest with a crazed look, muttering that he feels like the next kill will definitely drop something good. His skeletons look at him with concern, realizing their master has lost his mind. Hirkin tries to run back into the forest, shouting, "I can feel it," but his own skeletons have to physically hold him back to stop him from relapsing. Our boy realizes that gambling addiction really is an illness, but he just can't help himself. We open with our boy Herkin turning in his homework like the teacher's pet he secretly is. The NPC lists off the casualties, nearly 1,000 monkeys and hundreds of other beasts, and praises the smooth progress of the investigation. But Herkin is barely listening. He is physically trembling, holding back laughter and blushing because his brain is entirely occupied with fantasizing about how he is going to spend all that sweet, sweet gold. The NPC snaps him out of it, warning that the next mission is dangerous. He explains that bear warriors have appeared near the peak, 4-meter-tall beasts, equipped with human armor. He asks Herkin to bring back a weapon for evidence, nervously asking if Herkin will be okay alone. Our boy immediately stands up, cutting the man off with pure arrogance, claiming he already knows exactly how to handle them. Cut to the woods, where Herkin is hiding in the bushes, whispering that it is finally time to flex. He opens the auction window, and the shopping spree begins. He drops nearly 38,000 gold on the skeleton snake sat, granting him massive stat boosts and, most importantly, a 10% reduction in mana usage. He is so excited that he literally drops to the ground and starts breakdancing, spinning on his head and shouting that this is what money tastes like. He blows the rest of his cash on a laundry list of skill books, declaring himself ready. But then, he feels a tap on his shoulder. He turns around to see his skeletons giving him the biggest, saddest puppy dog eyes, silently asking, "What about us, Dad?" Herkin freezes. He totally forgot about his children. He checks his balance to buy them something small, but the system hits him with the ultimate buzzkill, insufficient funds. He turns to the skeletons, sweating bullets, and admits he is broke. Immediately, the vibe changes. The skeletons stop looking like puppies and start looking like lone sharks ready to break his kneecaps. Luckily, a pack of wild boars wanders by. Herkin points at them, shouting that they can get gear if they hunt that bacon down. The skeletons don't hesitate. They sprint toward the pigs with a level of greed and violence that is honestly concerning. We see the last remaining boar crying actual tears while the skeletons stare at it with zero mercy. But just as they are about to secure the bag, something strikes the boar from out of nowhere, killing it instantly. A voice shouts out, asking who do they think they are hunting here without permission, claiming this area belongs to the Apollo Guild. 3 guys appear wearing questionable gear. One of them, who has front teeth so big they need their own zip code, asks if Herkin has a death wish. Herkin sighs, thinking they are just another group of losers. They introduce themselves as the great trio of the Apollo Guild, but our boy just says, "I see," and immediately slashes through all 3 of them without a second thought. He complains that he is attracting too many weirdos lately and walks away. But one of the defeated losers taps his watch, warning Herkin that he will regret touching their guild. We cut to a scene straight out of a low-budget historical drama. A man is sitting at the top of a staircase, petting a tiger while wearing enough rings to sink a ship. This Tiger King is furious that someone looked down on his name and orders his men to bring Herkin to him regardless of the cost. Back in the mountains, Herkin arrives at the boss area. He asks his team if they are ready, and in response, the skeletons strike a synchronized, flamboyant anime pose. Herkin yells at them to stop messing around because the bear warrior is approaching. He taps his watch, shouting "slot on," and powers up, declaring he is taking this main quest all by himself. Meanwhile, a man in a blue cloak is wandering through the woods, looking absolutely miserable. This is Hatch from the Thunder Hunters Guild. He complains about being sent to the sticks to recruit some rookie named Haho Mask by force, genuinely wondering if kidnapping is technically a crime. Suddenly, a massive level 65 king wild boar appears behind him. Hatch doesn't even turn around fully. He lazily casts a simple spell, and the massive beast is instantly obliterated. He continues moping, sighing that he really wants to quit his job, completely unaware that the rookie he is looking for is just around the corner. We are back with our boy Herkin, who is currently having a PTSD flashback in the middle of a boss fight. He remembers that in his past life, his guild failed this exact raid 6 times before barely scraping by. He knows that if he messes up now, he loses his lead on the main quest, so the pressure is definitely on. He decides to be tactical for once. The plan is simple. Target the seams of the bear warrior's armor and strip it off. He confidently signals his skeletons to follow his lead and activates his shiny new passive skill, Muscle Modification. He shouts, "Let's go," and launches himself into the air for a devastating strike. But there is a tiny problem. He apparently skipped the tutorial on how to control his new super strength. Instead of hitting the bear, he launches himself into the stratosphere, sailing way over the monster's head. He lands behind it with a thud, and we get a moment of pure, agonizing silence. The bear stops attacking. The skeletons stop rattling. Everyone, including the enemy, just turns to look at him with a mix of confusion and pity. The bear shakes off the confusion first and effortlessly smashes a skeleton into dust. The system notifies Hirkin that his warrior has been destroyed, and our boy curses. Realizing his new legs are a little too strong, he decides to try again with an acceleration attack, aiming for a cool, high-speed impact. But physics is not on his side today. Instead of slashing the beast, he loses control again and faceplants directly into the bear warrior's chest. The bear just stands there, looking down at the human literally hugging him. Hirkin, with tears in his eyes, awkwardly laughs and thinks about how soft and squishy the fur is before the bear swats him away like a fly. He hits a rock and scrambles up, screaming that this damn scale is impossible to control. But hey, in the chaos, he actually managed to strip off a piece of the armor, so he counts it as a win. The bear charges with its shield, and Hirkin barely dodges. He decides he is done with finesse and throws a bone bomb. A massive explosion rocks the clearing, but when the smoke clears, the bear is still standing. Even worse, it uses Battle Cry to heal 50% of its health. Hirkin is annoyed, realizing this boss is a damage sponge. He decides it is time to stop playing around and fight like a proper necromancer. His skeletons look at him with eyes full of judgment, clearly doubting that statement after the faceplant incident. Ignoring their sass, Hirkin summons his golem. The massive rock monster appears, and the bear immediately slices into it. But this is actually a trap. Hirkin shouts, hardening, turning the golem's body into solid stone and trapping the bear's sword inside it. With the boss disarmed, Hirkin friends. He tells the bear not to blow its top yet because he has one big move left. He signals for a massive fire attack and immediately regrets it. His skeletal mage unleashes a blast that engulfs both the bear and Hirkin. Our hero is left singed and furious, screaming at the mage to aim properly next time unless it is trying to kill him. Hirkin decides strategy is overrated. He declares that brute force with numbers always wins and starts spamming magical bombs like a maniac. After a series of explosions that would make Michael Bay proud, the bear warrior finally collapses. The system announces the victory. Hirkin earns over 100,000 gold and completes the quest, Ma Wang's Trial. He stands over the fading corpse, feeling triumphant. He managed to solo the boss that his entire guild struggled with in the past. He praises his skeletons for a job well done, but the ungrateful little piles of bones are gossiping amongst themselves. They chatter about how cowardly their master was and point out that he didn't even fight properly. Herkimer's outraged. He shouts at them, telling the punks that if they had done a proper raid, they would have died 6 times too. Meanwhile, back at the tavern in the western base, the mood is significantly less victorious. We see Hatch, the poor mage from the Thunder Hunters, sitting alone and looking like he has aged 50 years in a week. He is terrified because he still hasn't found Haho Mask. To make matters worse, Hirkin's video went viral, flooding the mountain with fanboys and making it impossible to find anyone. He mutters that if he goes back empty-handed, Shiro will kill him. He curses his black company of a guild, looking disheveled and dead inside. Suddenly, his watch buzzes. It is a call from the queen herself, Shiro. Hutch practically jumps out of his skin. He answers, stuttering and terrified, expecting to be fired or executed. But surprisingly, Shiro sounds nice. She says she has been thinking about it and admits that maybe asking him to search an entire mountain alone was too much. She praises his hard work and acknowledges it must have been tough. Hatch is stunned. He is genuinely touched by her kindness, tearing up as he asks if he can come home now. But Shiro isn't done. She sweetly replies that instead of him returning, she has sent some help so they can find Haho Mask properly. Hatch freezes. Before he can ask who she sent, the wall next to him explodes. Debris flies everywhere, and standing in the hole where the wall used to be is a blonde girl with pigtails. It is the Thunder Princess, Haki, also known by her terrifying nickname, Mad Dog. She glares at him, furious that she got dragged out to the middle of nowhere because of his incompetence. She calls him an idiot, and Hatch starts sweating bullets. He realizes that his boss didn't send help. She sent an executioner. He thinks to himself that this world is truly cursed. We are back with our boy Hirkin, who notices that Bouquet Mountain is getting crowded. A whole village has popped up, and he realizes people have finally figured out this is where the main quest is. He rushes through the forest to report back to Ma Wang, but suddenly, a group of warriors charges toward him. Hirkin recognizes their armor, and thinks they are the same losers from the Apollo Guild coming for revenge. He sighs, annoyed that he has to waste time beating them up again, but then something weird happens. They run right past him, screaming for help. Before Herkin can process this, a blur of motion slashes through the men, taking them out instantly. Herkin is shocked, asking what the hell just happened. From the bushes, a voice mocks the fallen warriors for begging for their lives. It is Hahi, the Thunder Princess, and Hatch, the miserable mage from earlier. Herkin immediately recognizes them as the Rank 2 and Rank 3 members of the Thunder Hunters Guild. He knows Haki's nickname is Mad Dog for a reason. She is loyal to a fault and absolutely terrifying. Hatch, on the other hand, is a genius mage known as Ballista because he never misses a target. Herkin realizes they are here to recruit him, and in his past life, these two were a massive pain in the ass. He thinks about killing them right now, but he knows he is outmatched. So he decides on the best defense, playing dumb. He jumps down from the tree and asks who Haho Mask is with a face so clueless it deserves an Oscar. Hai calls him a liar immediately, pointing out that everyone in the mountains knows Haho Mask because he has over 20 million views. She squints at him, noting that his hood looks suspiciously similar to the one in the videos, and asks if he is actually him. Herkin is sweating, stunned by her deductive skills, but Hatch interrupts. He yells at Hahi, calling her an idiot for killing innocent players on pure suspicion. He panics about how they are going to clean up the mess and demands she apologize before their guild's reputation tanks. Hai scoffs, asking why she needs to apologize, but Hatch insists. She reluctantly mutters a sorry to Herkin, asking if he is happy now. Hatch bows apologetically, blaming her attitude, and asks Herkin to excuse them. Herkin breathes a sigh of relief, thinking he managed to escape, but suddenly Hani punches him square in the face, sending him flying. Herkin picks himself up, furious, asking if she really is a rabbit dog. Haki looks confused, saying she thought he would dodge that. Herkin shouts that she just hit a defenseless user and threatens to file a formal complaint and write a community post exposing the Thunder Hunters as newbie killers. Hatch freaks out, begging him to stop, and shoves a bag of 1,000 gold into his hands as compensation. Herkin's capitalist soul immediately forgives them. He takes the money, says he will let them off the hook this time, and watches them leave. As they walk away, Hatch is scolding Hadi for causing trouble, but she argues that Herkin's reaction was suspicious because he looked annoyed rather than scared. Hatch just begs her to stop shortening his lifespan. We cut back to Ma Wang, the NPC, who is examining the bear warrior armor Herkin brought back. He confirms something strange is happening and thanks Herkin for preventing more casualties. Herkin is tapping his foot, anxious that the top 30 guilds are catching up, and just wants his reward. Ma Wang hands him a treasure chest. Herkin opens it to find treasure maps of monster dungeons Ma Wang created. His eyes light up, realizing he can get massive rewards from these. But, of course, there is a catch. Ma Wang asks him to investigate a new area where armored monsters are appearing, the Pyrin Forest. Herkin freezes. The NPC asks if there is a problem, and our boy lies through his teeth, saying no, not at all, while internally screaming. Outside, he rants that Pyrin Forest is a level 90 area, meaning he needs to grind like crazy to survive there. He decides to head to Sora Canyon to hunt level 75 demon worships first. But as he arrives, he spots someone leaning against a rock. It is Matador Chev from the Red Bulls. Herkin is confused about why he is there, but before they can interact, we cut away to Hatch crying on the phone to Shiro. He begs to come home, saying he can't handle the Mad Dog anymore. Shiro, the Thunder Queen, tells him to stop looking for Haho Mask and focus on the main quest instead. Hatch cries tears of joy, thanking her. After hanging up, Shiro leans back with a smirk. She monologues that the strongest are bound to cross paths eventually and wonders how much longer Haho Mask can run away from her. Meanwhile, we end on a shot of Herkin's skeleton sitting around looking bored, wondering why they haven't had any screen time lately. We start with our boy Herkin living his best life, grinding away on some level 75 demon goats. His skeleton slashed through them like butter, and Herkin hits level 62, thrilled that he is finally close to being strong enough for the Pyrin Forest. He is happily dumping all his stat points into strength, thinking nothing can stop him now. But then, he feels eyes on him. He turns around to see the most random collection of players blushing and staring at him from the bushes. Before he can even ask what is happening, chaos erupts. One guy with fake cat ears screams, Mask, please look at me." Another shouts, "I love you," and a third one yells, "Hug me." Herkin is horrified. He sprints away, shouting fuck off, while the horde of fanboys chases him, begging him to wait. As he runs for his life, sweating nervously, he realizes this is the consequence of his own success. His Bear Warrior video was a massive hit, which he was thrilled about at first, thinking of all the money. But now, he can't walk 5 feet without being mobbed by people who want to touch him. He decides on a desperate plan: escape to Soro Canyon. He figures the high-level monsters there will scare off the fans. But as he arrives, he runs smack into a familiar face leaning against a rock. It is Matador Chev, the guildmaster of the Red Bulls. Herkin stops, his face contorting into an expression of pure, agonized disappointment. Matador, completely oblivious to Herkin's internal screaming, smiles and says, "Long time no see." He recognizes Herkin as the newbie from the beginner village and laughs about how embarrassed he was when Herkin left him hanging back then. Matador gives him a friendly pat on the back, noting that Herkin leveled up insanely fast to reach this area in just a few months. Herkin nervously asks why a top ranker is hanging out here, hoping the answer isn't hunting you. Matador explains that the Red Bulls took control of Sura Canyon yesterday to set up a base near the main quest line. Herkin realizes with horror that these guys are also chasing the corrupted Count quest. Then Matador drops the bomb. He is also hanging around because he hopes to find Haho Mask. He asks Herkim if he has seen the Bear Warrior video and invites him to join the search. Herkim panics, shouts, "I don't even know who he is," and sprints away, leaving Matador confused. As he runs, Herkin is spiraling. Between the Thunder Queen threatening to kill him and Matador wanting to team up, he has 2 of the top 30 guilds breathing down his neck. He realizes he can't grind in peace anywhere. But then, he remembers the treasure map Malwang gave him. He recalls there is a rare hidden dungeon in this area, usually located in hard-to-reach places. He finds a massive waterfall and realizes the entrance must be underwater. He dives in with his skeletons, but the system warns him that his breathing is restricted to 20 seconds. He swims desperately, watching the timer tick down. 11 seconds. 5 seconds. He spots a light but thinks it is too far. With 1 second remaining, he bursts out of the water, gasping for air. The system rewards him with 2 titles, the one who uncovered the secret and the intern explorer. Herkin looks around the hidden cave, smugly thinking that if people want to bother him, he will just go where nobody can find him. He wonders what kind of terrifying monsters await in a hidden dungeon. Suddenly, he hears a noise and freezes. A red light approaches. Herkin braces himself for a boss fight, and out pops a tiny, wobbly slime. Herkin stares at it, utterly disappointed. He shouts, "Are you kidding me? A slime?" Thinking he wasted his time. But then, he notices flames flickering inside the slime's body. He realizes these are spirit-type monsters, which drop incredibly rare ingredients used for elemental items. His disappointment instantly turns into greed. He licks his knife with a creepy expression, declaring that he is going to get filthy rich. He orders his skeletons to attack, but suddenly the cave starts to tremble. A wall collapses and a massive salamander, level 70, charges out. It is a flame-type spirit monster, and it immediately launches a giant fireball. Herkin and his skeletons dodge just in time, shocked by the firepower. He realizes he needs to stop playing around. He activates Madness Helm and Bone Armor, and then uses the expensive Black Orc Skull item to summon his Skeleton Knight. The Skeleton Knight appears with immense speed and power, looking absolutely terrifying. The salamander and the slime hesitate, realizing they messed with the wrong necromancer. The knight slices through them effortlessly, and Herkin watches with a grin, asking how they like his new toy in action. We are back with our boy Herkin, who decides to handle a herd of wild salamanders the only way he knows how, by treating them like Pokemon. He shouts, "Skeleton Knight, I choose you," and sends his shiny new upgrade into the fray. The Skeleton Knight, who is essentially the cool older brother of the group, slashes through the monsters with ease. The system spams notifications of victory and experience points, and the knight strikes a pose, looking absolutely majestic. The other skeletons stare at him in awe, clearly realizing they have been demoted to backup dancers. Herkimer is thrilled. He leans back, practically sipping a metaphorical pina colada, and laughs about how nice auto-hunting is. He jokes that now that his minions are competent, he can finally take a vacation while they do all the dirty work. He calculates that the valuable salamander essence drops are more than enough to cover the upgrade costs, so he decides to keep this gravy train rolling until he clears the boss and reaches the Pyron Forest. But because the universe hates him, his vacation lasts exactly 1 hour. Herkin stops, frustrated, muttering that it felt too easy. And right on cue, the system pops up with a notification. You have discovered the instant dungeon, Throne Room. Would you like to enter? Herkin groans. An instant dungeon means he has no idea what is inside, and once he enters, he can't leave until he wins or dies. If he fails, he gets locked out of the game for 2 days, which is plenty of time for the Thunder Hunters or Red Bulls to steal his lead on the main quest. But since there is nowhere else to go, he sighs and leaves it all to luck, stepping through the portal. He arrives in the throne room, which looks suspiciously like an abandoned temple filled with statues of knights. Harkin notices blade marks on all of them and realizes something feels off. He freezes as his eyes land on the throne. Sitting there is a headless body. Suddenly, magic swirls around the corpse, bringing it to life. Harkin panics, shouting for his skeletons to get into defense mode. But before they can even move, the headless ruler, identified as a level 80 spirit knight, dashes forward and obliterates them instantly. The system notifies him that his warriors have been destroyed, and Harkin curses. He recognizes this monster from his past life. Back then, he raided it with his entire guild at the same level, and they were completely annihilated. He realizes this thing is equipped with the highest quality battle AI in the game. He resurrects his skeletons, shouting that they are going full force from the start. They leap to attack, but the Spirit Knight slices through one of them like it is nothing. Harkin and his Skeleton Knight clash swords with the boss, managing to hold it back for a second. One of the smaller skeletons sees an opening and stabs the boss in the stomach. The little guy looks back at Harkin, blushing and waiting for praise like a toddler who just drew a picture. But Harkin screams, "Get away!" just as the boss unleashes an explosion from its body, blowing the poor skeleton to pieces. Harkin realizes a stab through the heart isn't a critical hit for a spirit monster. He's sweating, thinking that his normal skeletons and golem are useless here. He starts to doubt if he has any chance of winning. But then he has a flashback. He remembers his traitorous friend from the past asking him why he would charge straight at a monster 4 times his size. Past Harkin simply replied that he didn't know, but he figured there would be no dinner unless he got the kill. Back in the present, Harkin snaps out of it. He shouts that he never was the type to think while playing games. He decides that if he can't land a critical hit, he just needs to keep dealing damage until the thing stops moving. He clashes with the boss again, noticing it is speeding up. The Spirit Knight lands a hit and Harkin coughs, but he grins like a maniac, shouting, "That was a fake, you fucker." While the boss is distracted by his taunt, the Skeleton Knight attacks from behind. They strike simultaneously, cutting off the Spirit Knight's arm in a perfectly synchronized move. Harkin strikes a cool pose with his summon, declaring that there will be no dinner today unless he defeats this guy. Meanwhile, back at Sora Canyon Village, Matador Shev is taking a stroll with his guildmate, the Red Bull Lady. She brags that the village is thriving thanks to their supply routes, but Matador is only interested in one thing, Haho Mask. He wonders if Harkin might show up here, and the lady gets frustrated. She scolds him for being obsessed with some guy who hunted low-level monsters. But Matador gets serious. He explains that in this game where you can feel pain, only 2 types of people challenge monsters stronger than them: crazy people or natural-born warriors. He declares that Haho Mask is both. Back in the dungeon, we end on a tragic scene. The 2 destroyed skeletons are sitting in a corner, crying their non-existent eyes out because they were useless in the battle and died twice. Poor little guys. He takes a deep breath and shouts, "Let's go, Skelly." But the Spirit Knight isn't waiting. It slams its firearm into the ground, creating a massive fissure that forces Harkin and his skeletons to jump onto floating rocks just to survive. Harkin realizes this guy is literally trying to bury him alive. Harkin and his Skeleton Knight launch a coordinated counterattack, circling the boss and slashing at it from all angles. Harkin thinks it is working perfectly and that he just needs to rack up a little more damage. But because boss fights are never simple, the Spirit Knight surrounds itself with a barrier of magical fire. Harkin curses, realizing the boss has entered its annoying phase. He defends against the fire attacks, noting the patterns have completely changed. He signals for his team to move, but he gets distracted trying to micromanage his skeletons. The Spirit Knight seizes the opening and slashes Harkin across the chest. Our boy hits the ground hard. Realizing he messed up by focusing too much on his minions, the Spirit Knight raises its blade for the killing blow. Harkin braces for death, but suddenly, a shadow jumps in front of him. It is the Skeleton Knight. The loyal summon takes the full force of the attack to protect his master. The system notifies Harkin that the warrior has been destroyed, but before the Skeleton Knight fades away, he turns back to Harkin with a smile and gives him a thumbs up. It is a moment of pure, heartbreaking loyalty from a pile of digital bones. Harkin is trembling with rage. He screams, "Damn you," and leaps forward, refusing to let that sacrifice be in vain. He starts spamming bone bombs like a maniac, but they explode harmlessly against the boss's fire barrier. He dodges attack after attack, thinking he just needs a little longer. He throws another bomb, creating a massive explosion, but he knows it is not enough. The Spirit Knight charges out of the smoke, ready to end him. The boss seems to mock him, as if asking if he didn't know spirit monsters are resistant to magic damage. But Hirkin grins. He reveals that he didn't just throw normal bombs, he mixed skeleton fragments into them. He shouts summon, and suddenly, the fragments in the air form into skeletons on top of the Spirit Knight. The boss is swarmed, and Hirkin delivers the final slash, shouting that this is the end. The Spirit Knight crumbles, and the system showers him with rewards, over 400,000 gold, a new title chivalrous spirit, and a massive level up. Hirkin pauses, remembering his past life where his old guildmates blamed him for their failure against this same boss. He looks up, half expecting disappointment, but instead, he sees the spirit of his little skeleton knight giving him a thumbs up from above. Hirkin smiles, realizing things are different this time. For the first time ever, he genuinely tells his skeletons good work. The surviving skeletons are so touched that they start blushing and wiggling with joy. It is adorable and ridiculous. But then Hirkin realizes he can't leave the dungeon yet. He panics, thinking there is another boss, but a hidden door opens in the back of the room. It is a reward room. Hirkin's mood instantly flips from panic to pure greed. He rushes toward the treasure chest, thanking every deity he can name, Jesus, Buddha, God, and praying for a cool weapon. He opens the chest and pulls out an old, dusty book. It is a research record on ancient power. Hirkin stares at it, his excitement dying instantly. He recognizes this useless lore item from his past life and screams in frustration, asking why he got trash instead of money. But then, he spots another book shining in the corner. He picks it up, and his eyes go wide. We cut to the Pyrean forest. Hirkin is sitting on a cliff, looking smug. He announces that he has leveled up enough and is ready to return to the main quest. He calls out his skeletons, and they appear striking dramatic anime poses in brand new expensive gear. Hirkin sighs at their theatrics but admits he can't blame them. The second book was an overpowered skill called Armament, which allows him to equip gear on his summons permanently. This is a game changer, meaning he can upgrade his army regardless of his own level. Of course, it cost him a fortune to buy all that gear, so he yells at them that they'd better be worth it or he will leave them behind. Suddenly, he hears clapping from the bushes. A group of men steps out, praising Hirkin for living up to the rumors. One of them laughs and introduces their group with a cringy pose. We live by romance and die by romance. We are the romantic outlaws, the R2 family. Hirkin stares at them with the deadest expression imaginable. He thinks to himself that only weirdos play this game and seriously considers uninstalling Warlord right then and there. We are back in the forest, and our boy Hirkin is walking with his skeleton army, looking annoyed. Following him closely is a group of men blushing like schoolgirls. The one in the middle laughs, praising Haho Mask for his speed. Hirkin snaps, telling them to fuck off already. But the creeps persist. One of them strikes a fancy pose with a rose in his mouth, asking for an answer to their recruitment offer. They introduce themselves formally as the R2 family, also known as the Romantic Outlaws. They explain they are trying to train in the Pyrean forest, but the monsters are too strong, and nobody else wants to join their party because, well, look at them. One of them grabs Hirkin's hand, pleading with him to protect their romance. Hirkin shudders, screaming creep, and immediately beats them up. He stands over the pile of groaning men, declaring that he doesn't care about their romance and refuses to work with anyone. He threatens to kill them if they follow him again and walks away. The leader, a bare-chested guy named Captain, sighs that Hirkin was their last hope. His mustache-wearing subordinate asks if they should give up, but another member notices a distress signal on his watch. It is from the Toon family, the party that previously hung them from a tree for being creepy. Despite the bad blood, the captain decides to help, proving that chivalry isn't dead, just very weird. Meanwhile, Hirkin is busy slaughtering black gores, massive boar-like monsters. His skeletons slash through them effortlessly. And Hirkin notes that after facing the Spirit Knight, these guys are too predictable. He checks his quest log, finds traces of armored monsters in the Pyrean forest. He is frustrated because he hasn't found a single hint yet and worries the top guilds will catch up. He briefly regrets not asking the weirdos for info, but immediately shudders, deciding he would rather die than team up with them. Suddenly, a massive explosion rocks the forest. Hirkin realizes someone is fighting something big, maybe the armored monsters he is looking for. We cut to the romantic outlaws fighting for their lives against an army of armored ogres. The captain clashes swords with one, Realizing their formation is too organized, he spots the leader at the back, a massive ogre sitting on a makeshift throne, commanding the army. The system identifies it with only question marks. The romantic outlaws are overwhelmed. The Toon family they came to save is nearly wiped out. The mustache guy asks if they should run, but the captain has a flashback to all the times he was abandoned by other players. He decides he won't do the same. He orders his team to use their mana to secure an escape route for the others, while he holds the line alone. The captain charges forward with fierce determination, shouting that the monsters won't get past him. He lands a few hits but is quickly swatted away like a fly. As the ogre raises its foot to crush him, the captain closes his eyes, accepting his fate. But the stomp never comes. Hirkin appears, blocking the attack and telling him to stop trying to act cool. He saves the captain but immediately clarifies, "I'm not here to help you. I'm just here so you don't steal my monsters." Hirkin shouts, "Get them," and his skeleton army leaps into action, tearing through the armored ogres with terrifying efficiency. The captain watches in shock, realizing that a Haho mask is on a completely different level than a normal necromancer. Hirkin clears the small fry and turns his attention to the ogre leader, who is looking very angry. Hirkin taunts the boss, telling it not to worry because it will be joining its underlings soon. But before he starts the boss fight, he points at the stunned captain and tells his skeletons, "Move that thing aside. It's in the way." The leader of the ogres finally stands up, letting out a fierce roar that probably smells as bad as it sounds. The commentator from the Toon family, helpful as ever, identifies this monstrosity as a Helm Ogre, a level 80 captain. He is currently hiding in the back, trembling while admitting that this situation is terrifying and wondering if even Hahomas can handle it. He points out the ogre's eyes, which are marbling black and red, indicating it is a corrupt monster related to the main quest line. He explains that corrupt monsters are usually 3 times stronger than normal ones, so naturally, he is panicking. Meanwhile, our boy is busy dodging massive attacks that would flatten a normal player. He casually notes that this big guy is pretty sturdy, completely unbothered by the giant slab of muscle trying to kill him. The Toon guy shouts a warning not to get too close, but the ogre is already powering up, emanating a purple, corrupted aura. The monster slips forward with huge fury, and the commentator screams that it is no good and that not even Hahomas can handle that much damage. Hirkin, tired of the noise, decides it is time to wrap this up. He powers up his sword, mockingly asks the monster to try stopping this, and blasts right through it with mega power. The ogre falls down defeated instantly, leaving the onlookers in absolute shock. The system floods our boy's vision with notifications, confirming he defeated the Helm Ogre and leveled up. Hirkin dusts himself off, saying that was easy, but now comes the awkward matter of splitting the loot. He calculates that between 20 black orcs and a rare Helm Ogre, the drops are worth a fortune. Usually, the player who attacks first gets to choose the split, but our boy is annoyed because he technically did everything himself. He regrets not waiting for the others to die, but the captain's earlier sad speech about being abandoned tugs at the tiny shred of decency left in his heart. When the group approaches him, thanking him for saving their lives, Hirkin feels relieved that they are at least grateful. But then the captain adds that they cannot let him go like this, and Hirkin immediately assumes it's a shakedown. He prepares for a fight, thinking gratitude means nothing in the face of money, but the captain arrives looking happy, not for gold, but to take a selfie. Hirkin is completely thrown off. He was expecting a greatly fight, but these weirdos just want photos as proof they were part of the raid. He confusedly asks if they don't want to split the drops, and the captain acts like he just spoke a foreign language. The captain turns to the Toon family guy and asks if he needs any of the drops. The Toon guy is about to say, of course, because money is money, but the captain grabs his shoulder with a grip that screams pain. The captain sternly asks if he would really be shameless enough to take loot from their savior. Terrified and sweating bullets, the guy quickly agrees Hirkin should take everything. The captain nods, adding romantically that Hirkin should indeed take it all. Hirkin stands there deadpan, wondering what the hell romance means to these guys. Later, running through the woods, Hirkin thinks about the captain's offer to join their family. He admits that although they look like idiots, playing with them would probably be fun. However, he decides against it, thinking that if he wants to become the best version of himself, he has to go it alone against the top 30 guilds. He tells his skeletons to speed up because he wants to finish this damn quest and move on. Elsewhere, the Thunder Queen obliterates a massive bear while her guild cheers. Her aide Hatch reports that 2 top guilds, Triple Wing and Big Smile, have started a massive war. The Queen calls them foolish for warring during such an important quest period, hoping one of them goes down. Hatch then drops the second bomb. ManhwaCapped has already defeated the Helm Ogre. Instead of getting mad, the Queen smiles a terrifying smile that shocks Hatch to his core. She declares they need to speed things up and take over the second chapter of the main quest immediately. Back at Banksy Castle, the creepy teacher Ahimbri laughs while our boy looks absolutely miserable. Ahimbri rewards his progress with the Secret Order's Ring, a unique item boosting all stats by 77. Herkin is nervous receiving it because he remembers the catch. We get a flashback to Ma Wang's hut, where Herkin had cheerfully agreed to join the Secret Order, only to be told he needs to be prepared to put his life on the line. Past Thurkin had thought it was just flavor text and agreed for the stats, realizing too late it meant dealing with this crazy teacher again. In the present, Ahimbri holds the ring hostage, demanding manners. Herkin, deciding his dignity costs less than unique gear, does a handstand while shouting, "Please give it to me, teacher." Ahimbri laughs at the display and drops the bomb. For his next mission, Herkin is heading to the war zone. Herkin freezes in shock, realizing his life just got significantly harder. Our boy finally arrives at the battlefield, and to him, it looks less like a war zone and more like an all-you-can-eat buffet. He observes the endless stream of monsters swarming from beyond the castle walls and realizes this is a limited-time event where rewards are based on kill count. While most people would see danger, Herkin just sees dollar signs. He checks the mission card again to confirm the payout structure and trembles with excitement, thinking that he has been waiting for a chance like this since before he reincarnated. He admits he couldn't do this back in the day because his old guildmates were too lazy, but now, nothing is stopping him. However, he is not the only one watching. From the shadows, a green-haired lady wearing a bamboo hat observes him, whispering into her phone that she has found ManhwaCapped. She looks like a ninja, but her vibes are definitely more stalker. Meanwhile, the scene shifts to a massacre elsewhere. A group of men lie defeated on the floor, and the only survivor is trembling as he faces off against what looks like a gigantic saber-toothed tiger. He begs for his life, but it turns out the tiger is just an optical illusion, and the real threat is the man petting it. This is Apollo, the guild master of the Apollo Guild, and he is furious. He scolds his subordinate for failing to deal with a single rookie, asking if they are incompetent. The terrified subordinate tries to beg, but in his panic, he accidentally calls his boss Piggy. Apollo explodes with rage. The subordinate frantically tries to correct himself, explaining that the Thunder Hunters interfered, so he couldn't do anything. This just makes Apollo madder. He realizes Herkin is acting arrogant because he thinks the top 30 guilds have his back. Apollo decides to use that against him and makes a call to a very fancy-looking noble enjoying a banquet. This rich guy is Heavy, an officer of the Big Smile Guild. Heavy answers the phone, annoyed that his meal is interrupted, asking what the piggy wants this time. Apollo bluntly demands a favor. He wants Heavy to teach a player called ManhwaCapped a lesson. Heavy asks who that is, and when he realizes it is just a rising rookie, he is insulted. He asks if Apollo is serious about dragging a top-tier guild into petty revenge, just because Herkin didn't apologize for something. Heavy tries to refuse, saying the Big Smile Guild doesn't get involved in such small affairs, but Apollo plays his trump card. He threatens to pull his sponsorship, reminding Heavy that his money is the only reason they're a top guild. Heavy's attitude flips instantly. He nervously laughs, agreeing that ManhwaCapped sounds terrible and promising to handle it immediately. He hangs up and screams in frustration, cursing the fact that he has to bow down to money. He knows attacking a popular rookie will ruin the guild's image, but rejecting the sponsor would bankrupt them. Just as he is spiraling, the green-haired lady from earlier arrives. This is Cho, a reserve affiliate who desperately wants to be an official member. She asks if she just needs to eliminate ManhwaCapped. Heavy realizes this is perfect. Since she isn't an official member yet, she can do the dirty work without blowing back on the guild. He asks if she can handle it, and she promises to pay him back for saving her life by taking Herkin down. Back at the battlefield, the NPC captain, Vagel, announces that the gates are opening. He explains the rules. The area outside is a lawless zone, and the gates won't reopen for 144 hours. He then drops a bombshell mission called Blue Giant. The objective is to defeat a mutant monster, and the reward is a unique skill book. Herkin freezes. A unique skill book is insanely rare, something he only saw a few times even in his past life. He thinks giving this out as a reward is honestly a bit too much. The crowd goes absolutely feral. Everyone realizes that to get the book, they need to eliminate the competition. Immediately, eyes turn toward Herkin, as one player shouts that the strongest rival among them is obviously ManhwaCapped. The moment the gates open, Herkin bolts. He is so fast he leaves everyone in the dust, thinking he just needs to beat them to the monsters. The other participants realize they can't catch him alone, so one guy suggests they chase him down together. But then Cho steps in. When a random guy tells her to get lost because they want to take care of Haho Mask themselves, she effortlessly flattens him. She stands over the defeated player, looking terrifying, and asks why everyone is so on edge over a book she doesn't even care about. She proposes a deal. If they help her eliminate Haho Mask, she will give them the unique skill book. She points out that they aren't skilled enough to get it on their own anyway, so this is their best shot. The mob agrees, and Hirkin looks back from a cliff to see a massive army of players teaming up just to take him out. He sighs, annoyed that there are so many bothersome people in the world, and realizes he has no choice but to go with Plan B. Cho is thrilled, thinking her plan to use numbers is genius. She starts fantasizing about her future success. Once she pulls this off, she will become an official member and have her own subordinates. Her imagination gets weirdly specific. She dreams of a harem of handsome men serving her tea. She thinks about how she will be able to buy as much furniture as she wants, implying she views these men as literal objects. Her delusion is interrupted by a scream. The monsters are approaching, but there are way too many of them. The formation breaks instantly as a tidal wave of beasts swarms the alliance. The players panic, realizing this isn't a normal spawn rate. Cho wonders what the hell is happening. Then she hears a sound. She looks up to see Hirkin sitting on top of his golem behind the monster wave, banging a gong and playing drums with his skeleton band. He is laughing maniacally, shouting at them to get wrecked. Cho is baffled, realizing that this absolute menace didn't run away. He ran ahead to lure every single monster in the area right back to them. Hirkin grins, proving that if you try to team up against him, he will just bring his own chaotic orchestra to the party. Cho Warong's Grand Alliance is crumbling faster than a cookie in milk. Her makeshift army is getting decimated by the monster wave, and they are screaming for a retreat. Cho realizes her plan to ambush Hirkin while he was distracted has backfired spectacularly. She decides to cut her losses, ordering her meat shields to hold the line while she ditches them to take out the ringleader herself. She leaps across the field, aiming straight for Hirkin. Meanwhile, our boy is busy, not fighting, but aggressively coaching his skeletons on their musical timing. He is standing on top of his golem, waving his arms like a maestro, telling them to put more emotion into the drumming. It is a hilarious contrast. She is coming for blood, and he is worried about the rhythm section. Cho interrupts his concert, challenging him to a one-on-one duel. Hirkin smiles, asking if she really thought he would agree to that, considering she is the ringleader of the mob trying to eliminate him. They clash swords, and Hirkin gets straight to the point. He asks if they know each other, because he can't figure out why a stranger wants him gone this badly. Cho thinks she must protect her connection to the Big Smile Guild at all costs, so she lies, claiming she just wants to eliminate a competitor for the unique skill book. Hirkin calls nonsense immediately. He points out that her face looks like she couldn't care less about skill books. He decides to test her. He leaps down with a feint and suddenly throws a bone bomb right at her face. Cho pulls off a crazy acrobatic move to dodge it, and Hirkin notes that someone with that level of skill doesn't stay unknown. He demands to know which group she is with. Cho decides to stop playing games. She tells him to find out for himself and activates Slot On, powering up for real. Hirkin realizes that if he takes her out now, he won't get answers, but if he holds back, she might actually beat him. He decides to play the honorable knight. He orders his skeletons to stand down and grab some popcorn, metaphorically speaking, because he accepts the one-on-one duel. Cho is shocked, looking at him with pure disappointment. She thinks he is shockingly naive for a top player and decides that naivety will be the reason he gets sent to the respawn point today. She attacks with incredible speed, slashing at him from all angles. Hirkin is struggling to keep up as she lands cut after cut, drawing blood. Cho gets a little too into it. She starts blushing with a creepy Yander expression, whispering about how cute he looks collapsing into the perfect chair. She shouts that he should regret going against Heavy, and then Trip. The skeleton knight, who was definitely ordered not to interfere, casually sticks his bony foot out. Cho trips over at mid-monologue, completely losing her balance and her dignity. She is confused, wondering what just happened, while Hirkin grins maniacally. He catches her slip of the tongue immediately, noting that she mentioned Heavy, which confirms she is with the Big Smile Guild. Cut to later, where Cho is tied to a tree, looking thoroughly beaten. Hirkin drops the act. He asks why Big Smile is targeting him. She refuses to answer, so Hirkin drops a lore bomb. He asks if she isn't Cho Warong, Heaviest direct subordinate. She starts sweating bullets, nervously trying to deny it, but her poker face is terrible. Hirkin figured it out because, in his past life, she was Heavy's most famous henchman, though he keeps that detail to himself. She tells him to just finish her off already, but Hirkin refuses. He says it would be a waste to let someone like her just die. Internally, he plans to leave her tied up there to rot until the timer runs out so she doesn't respawn and come back. But Cho interprets this differently. We see the world through her delusion filter. Sakura petals fall, the music swells, and Hirkin's threat transforms into a flirtatious confession. She blushes furiously, thinking, "He dares to flirt with me?" completely convinced that he is sparing her because he has a crush. Disclaimer, this absolutely did not happen, but she is living in her own romance anime. Later, Cho calls Heavy to report her failure. Heavy tells her to rest, but the second he hangs up, he screams in frustration. He tries to think positively, hoping Apollo won't find out. But because the universe hates him, his phone rings immediately. It is Apollo. The guildmaster already knows everything and warns Heavy that if news gets out that a top 30 guild lost to a rookie, there will be consequences. Heavy hangs up, feeling his soul leave his body. He curses Hirkin to hell and back, wishing for him to crash and burn. Back on the battlefield, Hirkin suddenly sneezes and scratches his arm, wondering why he suddenly feels so itchy all over. Hirkin is lying on the ground, huffing and puffing like he just ran a marathon while carrying a fridge. He complains that defeating the blue giant took 30 minutes of full power because the level 85 boss had the HP of a level 100 monster. He realizes that if the other players hadn't messed around and gotten themselves killed, they might have stolen the kill. He briefly wonders if he should be thankful, then immediately dismisses the thought with a hearty "fuck you all" to his fallen enemies. He ponders why the Big Smile Guild is after him since he hasn't crossed paths with them in this timeline. He recalls that in his past life, the sudden rise of his guild threatened the top 30, leading to a massive conspiracy led by the Thunder Queen, Cao Young. He wonders if she is behind this too, but quickly gives up thinking because it makes his head hurt. He decides on a simpler philosophy: if anyone gets in his way, they die. Checking the timer, he sees there are 138 hours left, and decides to spend that time making some serious cash. 138 hours later, the gates open, and the surviving players shuffle out looking miserable. One of them curses, admitting they messed up big time by listening to Joe Waran. Hirkin, meanwhile, is being carried out on a literal throne by his skeletons, surrounded by piles of loot like Aladdin after finding the Cave of Wonders. He approaches the guys who tried to kill him and mocks their empty hands, asking if they really returned without a single cent. The players are furious, but Hirkin just smirks, thinking it is sweet karma. From the shadows, Chowaran watches him. She vows that next time she will take him out and make him hers, blushing furiously. Through her delusion filter, Hirkin looks like a flawless prince instead of a greedy goblin. She corrects herself, claiming she just wants to kill him. But it is way too late. She is down bad. Hirkin shudders, sensing something weird in the air. Suddenly, the main NPC, Bagel, announces the #1 contributor. He calls for Necromancer Hirkin to come to his office. Hirkin is thrilled. In the office, Bagel praises him for defeating the blue giant and drops some lore about blue-skin monsters appearing from beyond the ice mountain. He expresses a desire to send an expedition to the Frozen Kingdom. Hirkin is bored out of his mind, picking his nose while Bagel talks. Bagel asks if he is listening, and Hirkin lies, thinking he already knows the map is over the mountain. Bagel then mentions the reward, and Hirkin's interest goes from 0 to 100 instantly. Bagel calls him predictable, but hands him a letter from his master first. The letter orders him to head to the Ergo Mountains to talk to a blacksmith named Wolf. The reward is unknown. Hirkin groans, realizing the Ergo Mountains are full of high-level monsters and wondering if his master just wants to torment him. Then, Bagel clears his throat and hands over the real prize, a no-name skill book, rank unique. Bagel warns him to treat it with care, but Hirkin is already smooching the book like it is his long-lost lover. He excitedly wonders what cool, strong skill he will get. He uses the book, and the system announces he has obtained the skill. Clay Play. Hirkin freezes, repeating the name in disbelief. Clay Play? Really? Meanwhile, the Thunder Queen is absolutely losing it. She unleashes an attack so powerful it deforests half the map, demanding to know who stole their kill. Hatch tries to calm her down, explaining that a mysterious group appeared out of nowhere and stole the main quest monster right from under their noses. The Queen is furious that someone outside the top 30 guilds dared to interfere. She orders Hatch to put a bounty on them and vows to kill the thieves herself, glaring with deathly intent. Cut to a chessboard where a queen piece is knocked over. A man in silver armor, Richard, complains that stealing the target of the Thunder Hunters was too dangerous. A lady with purple fringe and a giant snake, Mikhail, tells him to calm down, explaining that the Thunder Hunters were clearing faster than expected. Richard asks if they are targeting Hydra next, and suggests just killing them all. We are introduced to the Hand Guild, a secret organization aiming to adjust the game's balance from the darkness. Their leader is Singlet, the rich-looking executive we saw earlier. He reminds them not to forget their goal. A weird guy with a giant eyeball for a face, Weaver, gibbers something unintelligible. Then, a girl with silver pigtails named Momo raises her hand. She teases Singlet, asking about Haho Mask and pointing out that Hirkin is clearing the main quest so fast because Singlet failed his mission. Singlet, clearly annoyed, says their priority is stopping the top 30 guilds and promises to deal with Hirkin later. Nick Hall tells them to cut the chatter and head to the next mission, declaring that everything is for their master. The weirdos assemble, ready to cause more chaos. We rejoin our boy reading the description of his new skill, Clay Play. It turns out this isn't just a funny name. It allows him to transform his golem into a monster by using monster byproducts as an offering. Hirkin realizes this means he can transform his golem into anything, even a flying mount for aerial battles. He is completely hyped, shouting "Let's go," as he uses a blue giant's tooth to test it out. He expects a sick, giant pet. What he gets is a tiny, bobble-headed goblin. Hirkin stares down at the pathetic little creature, utterly confused. The system helpfully informs him that his skill rank is too low, so the transformation is less than 50% effective. Our boy is beyond annoyed, cursing this stupid game as he realizes pets were rare, even in his past life, for a reason. He decides to focus on the main quest instead and heads to Urgo Village. His mission: meet the famous blacksmith NPC Wolf. Hirkin knows Wolf well from the lore. He's the guy who crafts epic items. Our boy arrives at the blacksmith's house, hoping for some sweet gear, but finds the room empty. He calls out, "Excuse me," but gets no answer. Suddenly, then, a fist connects with his face so hard he flies across the room. The system spams messages about lost HP as Hirkin curses, wondering who the hell attacks people in a safe zone. The attacker stands over him, grumbling that rookies these days are weaklings. It's Wolf, the blacksmith himself. Hirkin, stunned, asks why he got punched. Wolf picks his nose and replies that it was a test for the rookie. Hirkin is furious, calling him a shit NPC for attacking without warning. But then the system pops up with a notification. You have obtained the title, First to Talk with Wolf, Job Stats plus 25, and First to Survive against Wolf, HP plus 25%. Hirkin's rage instantly evaporates. He realizes he just got 2 amazing titles for the price of 1 punch. Wolf starts complaining about how impatient kids are these days, but stops when he sees Hirkin's face. Our boy is looking at him with literal puppy dog eyes, making a heart shape with his hands. He declares, "I love you, Wolf," like a fangirl at a concert. He hugs Wolf's leg, offering to do laundry, clean, or even lick his boots. Wolf understandably creeps out, kicks him away and tells him to deliver a pouch to the buying forest. Kicked out but happy, Hirkin checks the new quest: deliver the pouch to those who reside in buying forest. He realizes this means elves. The problem? Elves hate humans and hide very well. In his past life, people made maps to find them, but those don't exist yet. He decides he has no choice but to buy information. Cut to the Urgo Village town square, where Hirkin is banging a gong and shouting that he will pay up to 100,000 gold for info on the forest. It's embarrassing, and people are whispering about him, but he figures it's better than wandering aimlessly. Suddenly, the crowd goes silent. A barefoot man with long hair walks in, carrying a gigantic dead lion with one hand. He has fangs like a saber-toothed tiger and an aura of pure violence. The crowd whispers in fear. It's Pipple Singh, a top 100 ranker known for ruthlessly beating his enemies. The bystanders start gossiping, betting that Pipple will crush Haho Mask with one hand. Hirkin gets annoyed, shouting at them to shut up, but his skeletons hold him back from starting a fight. Pipple approaches Hirkin and says he knows about the forest. Hirkin tenses up, suspecting a trap. He asks for the price, expecting an exorbitant sum or a duel. The tension is thick enough to cut with a knife. And then, Pipple blushes. The terrifying blood-covered warrior suddenly looks like a shy schoolgirl. Sakura petals drift around him as he bashfully admits, "I would like to confess my love." Hirkin freezes. The crowd freezes. The entire world seems to stop. We cut to a visualization of the scene. Pitbull dressed as a blushing schoolgirl and Herkin as the baffled schoolboy in a romance anime. Everyone is completely astonished. Deep in the forest, our boy Herkin is wheezing like he just ran a marathon, looking completely done with life. He screams at Pitbull Singh, blaming him for the absolute chaos back in town. Apparently, Pitbull's little confession scene caused a riot, forcing them to flee into the woods to escape the paparazzi. Pitbull tries to explain himself, telling Herkin to calm down and catch his breath, but Herkin cuts him off with a very serious, very awkward rejection. He looks the terrifying rancor in the eyes and says, "Sorry, but I'm not into men, so I'll have to reject your confession." Silence descends upon the forest. The birds stop chirping. The wind stops blowing. Pitbull stares at him, horrified, and then looks absolutely disgusted. He shouts, asking what the hell Herkin is talking about, and clarifies that he never confessed to him. Herkin is speechless, realizing he might have misread the room. We get a flashback to Pitbull's perspective from a few months ago. He was hunting rabbits, as one does, when he heard a charming voice. He spotted a beautiful elf girl singing to a leaf bunny. Pitbull claims she was more beautiful than anything he had ever seen, and naturally, he fell in love instantly. But she vanished like a ghost. So, being the rational high-level player he is, Pitbull decided to wait in the same spot for months, interrogating every local resident about her whereabouts. Back in the present, Herkin stares at him and asks the obvious question, "Doesn't that make you a total stalker?" Pitbull ignores the accusation, explaining that he only approached Herkin because he saw him gathering intel on the forest. Herkin realizes he has gotten tangled up with an exhausting weirdo, but since Pitbull is the only one with clues, he has to play along. Pitbull leads him to a waterfall, listing off the places where elves are rumored to appear. Herkin stops him, realizing a pattern. These are also spots where large monsters spawn. He deduces that the elves are likely hiding near dangerous areas to avoid humans. Right on cue, a gigantic level 90 tree bark snake rises above the trees, looking at our boy like a delicious snack. Pitbull offers to help, warning that the snake's level is high. Herkin, eager to show off, tells him to back off. He shouts, "Who do you think you're talking to? I'm Haho Mask," and leaps forward to solo the beast. He charges heroically and immediately gets smacked out of the air like a volleyball. Herkin hits the ground hard, leaving a skid mark in the dirt. But instead of getting up, he starts putting on the performance of a lifetime. He rolls around with a red nose and tears in his eyes, screaming, "That hurts so bad. I'm gonna die." It is such bad acting that even the snake looks embarrassed. Pitbull shouts at him to dodge as the monster prepares to strike again, but Herkin just keeps throwing a tantrum on the floor, yelling that this is the end. Just as the snake lunges, an arrow flies out of nowhere, piercing the beast and killing it instantly. Pitbull is shocked, but Herkin stands up and dusts himself off, dropping the act immediately. He explains his plan. Unlike players, NPC residents run from monsters. But if they see a human being brutally murdered, or acting like they are being murdered, their hero instincts kick in. And sure enough, 3 beautiful elves step out of the shadows. Among them is Celine, the girl Pitbull has been waiting for. Herkin smiles, thinking his plan worked perfectly. He bows, introducing himself as the noble messenger of Lord Wolf and asking to be invited to their village. The elves respond by pointing their bows directly at his face. Celine coldly notes that he deceived them. Her red-haired friend adds that humans are disgusting, greedy liars, and that there is no way Lord Wolf would send trash like him. Herkin panics internally, realizing that breaking through by force might fail the quest. He wonders how to salvage this disaster. Suddenly, Pitbull drops to his knees beside him. Herkin thinks, "Oh no, what is this idiot doing now?" Pitbull looks up at Celine with zero shame and apologizes for the deception. He admits he had to meet her because he fell for her at first sight months ago. He extends his hand, asking for a chance to get to know her. Herkin is freaking out, thinking this is suicide. The elves already hate humans, and now this guy is admitting to stalking and lying? He expects them to be turned into pincushions. But Celine just sighs and says, "Fine. Okay." Herkin's jaw hits the floor. The red-haired elf rolls her eyes, asking Celine if she really just got charmed by a human guy. Celine shrugs, saying that if he did all this just because he liked her, she can't really blame him. As the elves lead them toward the village, Herkin stands there laughing in disbelief. He realizes that in this damn game, the power of being a simp is apparently stronger than any sword. Herkin stares at the terrifying Pitbull Singh with a look of absolute judgment, asking if this is supposed to be some kind of romance simulation game. He honestly feels like he could die from the secondhand embarrassment right then and there. Our boy snaps, telling the big guy to pull himself together because he almost got killed by those lunatics back in town, yet here he is walking around blushing like a schoolgirl. Hipple tries to defend his dignity, claiming that Herkin just doesn't understand the appeal of elves. He insists that he doesn't just like them because they are pretty, which causes Herkin to look at him like he is a complete pervert. Pitfall gets defensive, launching into a passionate monologue about how dark elves were always the essential icons of fantasy in the games and comics he grew up with. He claims adventuring across worlds with companions like them was his lifelong dream. Herkin just stares blankly, wondering what any of this nerd talk has to do with confessing to a random NPC. Hipple turns the tables, asking if Herkin doesn't feel the same way, questioning if our boy is also playing Warlord to fulfill a dream. Herkin scoffs, replying that he doesn't have dumb dreams like that. He declares that his only goal is to become the strongest and crush every single bastard who ever looked down on him. He gets a crazy look in his eyes, admitting that just imagining their terrified faces gives him chills. But Pipple hits him with a sudden philosophy bomb, asking if seeking happiness by trampling on others doesn't make Herkin exactly the same as the people he hates. Herkin tries to brush it off with a cynical, strong devour the weak speech, flipping in the bird for good measure. Pimple pushes harder, asking if that is really the only natural way. That is the last straw. Herkin punches the beastman right in the face. He snaps, shouting that dreams and happiness are luxuries for people who already have something. He screams that Pimple has no idea what it is like to struggle every single day just to survive or to lose everything in an instant. He is so furious that his ho-ho mask literally dissipates from his face due to the sheer intensity of his anger. Pitfall is stunned into silence, but before the bromance breakup can get any worse, Celine the elf interrupts. She tells the humans to stop bickering like toddlers because they have arrived at the buying village. She points out the elder's location at the tallest tree, and Herkin grumpily tells her to lead the way, completely ignoring Pitfall. He decides internally that he won't see this weirdo again anyway, so he should just focus on the quest. They meet the elder, Draw, who recognizes Herkin as the messenger from the Secret Order. Herkin hands over the package, and the system confirms the quest is complete. The elder opens the bag to reveal a purification circlet, an epic item that removes all status ailments. Herkin's eyes light up as he realizes the next quest must involve purifying a corrupted elf, and that shiny circlet is the reward. But the elder just nods and dismisses him, saying he can go now. Herkin panics, asking if there isn't something else he can do, like maybe saving someone with that item. The elder brutally shuts him down, stating that the current tool, meaning Herkin, is way too weak to be useful. Herkin curses internally, realizing he has hit another level restriction wall, just like in the Bobo Forest. He knows the Thunder Hunters are likely already at the Ergo Mountains and catching up fast. He realizes he got too complacent and vows to hit level 100, even if it means cutting back on sleep. He storms off to grind, slashing through monsters with zero mercy, but he can't get Pitbull's words out of his head. He questions why he has to listen to that crook while fighting for his life. Meanwhile, back in the peaceful part of the forest, Celine is holding a leaf bunny and giving Pitbull some relationship advice. Pitbull admits he overstepped and meddled too much in Herkin's business. Celine, proving she is wiser than both of them combined, tells him to go and apologize honestly. When Pimple hesitates, she sweetly points out that apologizing is just what friends do. Back to the violence. Herkin is exhausted and distracted, leaving him open to a monster's attack. Just as he is about to get wrecked, a fist flies in and punches the monster away. It is Pitbull Singh. He looks at Herkin and says he came to apologize, noting with a grin that it looks like he arrived at the perfect time. Herkin stares at him in shock, realizing he just can't shake this guy off. Just as our boy is about to be turned into a stain on the forest floor by a monster, a fist flies in from nowhere. The Beastman, Pitbull Singh, obliterates the creature in one hit, looking at Herkin with a grin and noting that he arrived just in time. Herkin is shocked by the sudden interference, asking what the hell his deal is showing up out of nowhere, acting all high and mighty. He warns Pitbull that if he is here to pick a fight, he should get lost, signaling his skeletons to aim their swords right at the Beastman's throat. But Pitbull doesn't even flinch or get into a combat stance. Instead, he just apologizes, admitting that lecturing Herkin earlier about things he knew nothing about was wrong. Herkin signals his skeletons to stop, watching the massive guy bow his head in genuine remorse. Our boy sighs, deciding to milk this guilt trip for all it is worth. He tells Pitbull that if he is really that sorry, he better help him hunt. Pippo looks confused, asking if that means his apology is accepted. Herkin looks at him with a face of pure disgust and clarifies the terms. He's going to suck him dry to the bone, so he better not regret it. We're not going to unpack the phrasing on that one, but Pitbull apparently loves it because he grins and happily agrees. Herkin points a finger at him, shouting that he shouldn't think this means they are friends, but before they can argue, a horde of monsters charges them. What follows is a montage of absolute violence. With Pitbull as the ultimate meat shield and damage dealer, the two of them tear through the forest, the system spamming notifications of experience points faster than Herkin can read them. Finally, after a grueling session, Herkin hits the jackpot, level 100. He checks his stats, seeing his strength sitting at a beautiful 991, and feels satisfied. Both men are lying on the ground, completely gassed, with the skeletons sprawled out beside them like a pile of bones. Pitbull pants that the schedule was insane, and Herkin agrees, noting he hasn't slept more than 3 hours in 3 days and vows never to do this again. Pitfall decides to log out, and Herkin thinks to himself that thanks to this weirdo, he is finally strong enough to tackle the main quest. He feels a tiny prick of gratitude, so he awkwardly calls out to stop Pitfall before he vanishes, intending to say thank you. But Pitfall ruins the moment instantly. He winks and tells Herkin not to be shy since they are both men, making the atmosphere so incredibly awkward that Herkin is left speechless. Pitbull logs out, leaving Herkin raging at the empty air, screaming curses while his skeletons try to hold him back from destroying a tree. Later, Herkin meets with the elf elder. The elder hands him the purification circlet, explaining that when elves are drunk on corruption, they can't be reasoned with, so he trusts Herkin to save the child. Herkin is barely listening because he is still internally murdering Pitbull in his imagination, swearing to kill that bastard on sight next time. The system announces the start of the corrupted elf quest, and Herkin snaps out of it, beaming with joy as he looks at the epic grade item. He grins, thinking he will finish the quest fast and swallow the reward for himself. He asks the elder where to go, expecting a map marker, but the elder just hits him with the classic NPC logic. If I knew, I would have taken you there myself, and basically tells him to figure it out before disappearing. Herkin is left standing on a cliff, shouting that he needs at least a hint. He looks at the massive map in despair, wondering how on earth he is supposed to find one randomly spawning elf in this entire region. He sits down, frustrated that solving the level problem just led to an information problem. He decides he needs to buy information again, but he can't be too obvious, or the big guilds will swarm him like hungry piranhas. He hatches a genius plan. He knows the corrupted elf raises armies of monsters, so if he buys info on newly spawned monsters, he can triangulate the elf's location without revealing the true objective. He imagines clueless players bringing him exactly what he needs and laughs maniacally, calling himself the greatest genius alive. Suddenly, a voice from behind asks if he is the one buying monster info. Herkin spins around, thinking he hooked his first sucker, but his smile drops instantly. It isn't a random newt. It is Matador Shev, the guild master of the Red Bulls. We get a flashback to the Red Bulls base, where Shev and his scary female officer are analyzing Herkin's request. The officer immediately realizes that buying info on spawn monsters is a smokescreen. She deduces that someone who knew the location of the corrupted count wouldn't waste time on trash mobs unless they were aiming for something bigger. She licks her lips, calling the intel delicious, and tells Chef to go grab the goose that lays the golden eggs. Back in the present, Chef smiles down at a clearly worried Herkin, proving that our boy's genius plan might have just backfired spectacularly. Herkin freezes, realizing his brilliant plan to squeeze information out of some low-level scrub has backfired spectacularly. Instead of a scrub, he is staring down the guild master of the Red Bulls, and our boy immediately decides to cancel all previous plans and switch to damage control. Matador Shev looms over him, intimidatingly asking if he is thinking of running away, which, to be fair, is exactly what he was thinking. Herkin wisely signals his skeletons to stand down, and Chef smiles, noting that if he had attacked, he would already be dead. Herkin grits his teeth, hating to admit it, but he knows he can't beat this monster of a player just yet. Chef demands answers, pointing out that Herkin has physical skills beyond a rookie and information gathering that rivals top guilds. Cornered, Herkin decides the best defense is a cringe-worthy offense. He throws himself on the ground, rolling around and wailing that he is just a clueless newbie being bullied by the big, scary Red Bulls. He puts on a performance worthy of a Razzie Award, sobbing that he was just looking for monster info and asking why everyone is being so mean to him. Internally, he thinks he looks super pitiful and is totally nailing the innocent victim act. Chef watches this display with a deadpan expression and eventually decides to play along, saying there must be a misunderstanding. Herkin mentally high-fives himself, thinking he tricked him. But then, Chev casually mentions a signing bonus of 5 billion won. Herkin freezes. 5 billion. His brain immediately short-circuits. He stops acting and starts hallucinating cool cars and swimming pools of cash. Chef shrugs, saying that if Herkin isn't the guy they're looking for, he can't force the money on him, and turns to leave. Herkin's dignity evaporates instantly. He grabs Chef, eyes sparkling, and shamelessly shouts that it has always been his dream to join the Red Bulls. He thanks him for loving the Emperor of solo play, completely forgetting that he is supposed to be a clueless newbie. Chef tells him to cut the crap because his greedy expression doesn't match his words at all. Herkim is internally debating if he should just sell his soul right now, calculating exactly how much high-quality beef 5 billion won can buy. Chef gets serious, asking if Herkim would join if the offer was real, warning him that if he refuses, he will be considered a rival and killed right here. Herkim's demeanor shifts instantly. He looks Chuv in the eye and declares that he won't borrow anyone's strength. He states he will become the strongest on his own, even if it means dying today. He adds a nice little threat, promising that once he reaches the top, the Red Bulls will be the first ones he crushes. Instead of attacking, Cheb just turns around and admires the view, noting that the scenery is pretty nice. He casually drops the intel Herkin was looking for, Red Lake. He explains there has been an explosion of newly spawned monsters there. Herkin is confused, asking why he would give intel to a rival. Chev laughs, asking who Herkin is calling a rival. He ruthlessly roasts our boy, saying the Red Bulls bow to no one and he shouldn't flatter himself. They just admire his solo spirit. Chev starts to walk away, but Herkin isn't about to let him have the last word. He shouts Salt Mountain, deducing that if the Red Bulls are avoiding elf territories, they must be progressing through the dwarf route of the main quest. Chev stops, realizing Herkin figured them out. Herkin smirks, bragging that he has been gaming way longer than these idiots. Chev stares at him for a second and then bursts into laughter, wiping a tear from his eye. He tells Herkin that he looks like the kind of guy who gets called an idiot and scammed often. This hits a little too close to home, and Herkin explodes, shouting curses at his back as Chev walks away. Chef returns to his subordinate, admitting the recruitment failed because the golden goose practically slit its own stomach before joining. He laughs, saying he is curious to see how far the guy can go alone, but his female officer is furious and chews him out for letting a top prospect go. Later, Herkim arrives at the Red Lake under a blood-red full moon. He tries to act cool and mysterious, declaring that there is no one smarter than him. But his skeletons are completely ruining the vibe. They are playing in the sand and splashing water like toddlers on a beach trip, totally ignoring their master's internal monologue. Herking yells at them to get their act together, asking what is so interesting about a Red Lake. He drags them back to work, planning to kill as many monsters as possible to level up. He feels a sudden wave of nostalgia, remembering his past life when he used to play with party members, but shakes it off. He senses people approaching and orders his skeletons into formation. He spots a warrior, 2 mages, and a priest. Thinking he is about to be ambushed, he prepares to strike first, counting down 3, 2, 1. But before he can give the order, the 4 players sprint toward him and bow aggressively. With tears in their eyes, they scream, "Ha-ho mask! Please help us!" Herkin stands there, confused and ready to attack, wondering why everyone in this game is so dramatic. Herkin crosses his arms, looking down at the group of grown men sobbing at his feet, and asks what the absolute drama is all about. They sniffle and explain that they need help hunting down corrupted gray cockatrices, but they can't do it themselves. When Herkin asks why they are so useless, they launch into a massive soap opera, claiming they are the 2nd division of the Golden Brothers Guild. They wail that while the main guild is famous, they are basically the abandoned children, treated like leftovers. Our boy has zero patience for this long-winded pity party, so he cuts them off mid-sob and demands a summary in 3 sentences or less. The guy panics and rushes out the explanation. If they fail this hunt, they get kicked out of the guild, so they are desperate. Herkin stands up, dusts off his pants, and delivers a cold, "I refuse," end of story. Naturally, the group completely loses their dignity, clinging to his legs and begging him not to abandon them because they have nowhere else to go. Herkin, clearly annoyed by the extra weight on his leg, tries to shake them off and asks the only question that matters: how much? They offer 20,000 gold, but Herkin scoffs, telling them that is way too little and to get lost. Desperate, the leader hugs his leg tighter, which is honestly getting weird, and offers all the item rewards from the kill on top of the gold. Herkin pauses, calculating internally. He figures he needs to hunt corrupt monsters anyway, so getting paid for it is just efficient multitasking. He agrees to the deal, 20,000 gold plus all the loot, and warns them that it's final. The group bows repeatedly, looking at him with admiration and thanking him with tears in their eyes. But the second Herkin turns his back to demand the transfer, their expressions shift from gratitude to pure murderous intent. We get a flashback revealing the grim reality. These guys aren't abandoned guild members, they are debt slaves to the Apollo Guild. They beg their master for more time to pay off their debts. But Apollo, the Tiger King, offers them a twisted alternative. He tells them he will give them another chance if they kill Mask. The slaves are terrified, asking how they could possibly kill such a skilled player, but Apollo doesn't care. He lends them top-quality gear and tells them to use a trap or attack head-on. It doesn't matter as long as Herkin dies. He leaves them with a chilling threat. If they fail, they will rot in debt for eternity. Back in the present, the slaves confirm the plan. Wait for Herkin to get distracted by the monster, then rush him while his guard is down. They track down the target, a massive level 120 corrupted gray cockatrice, which looks absolutely terrifying. While the slaves nervously prepare to backstab him, Herkin looks at the giant beast and casually calls it a noisy chicken. He tells the group he will wear down its armor and they can handle the rest, unknowingly giving them the perfect setup. Herkin activates muscle modification and leaps onto the monster. He mocks the beast for being slower than he remembers, slashing away at it from above while the slaves watch in shock. He shreds the monster's armor with terrifying ease, proving why he is the emperor of solo play. Herkin announces that the body armor is done and he is going for the helmet to finish off Cheeky. That is the signal. The slaves scream now and unleash a barrage of fireballs directly at Herkin's back. Explosions engulf our boy. Strike 1, Strike 2, Strike 3, Strike 4. The slaves celebrate, shouting that they finally got him and are free from their slavery. But as the smoke clears, Herkin is standing there, completely fine. He smirks, telling them he figured as much and knew something was fishy from the start. He points out their rookie mistake. Begging for money while wearing top-quality gear provided by their master was a dead giveaway. He reveals he never trusted them for a second, forcing him to fight on the front lines as a necromancer just to test them. The system logs show he activated scale stitching for defense, fake heart for HP, and boiling blood for recovery, tanking their betrayal effortlessly. Herkin summons his skeletons and dons his blue armor, declaring that he doesn't care if they are the Golden Brothers or the Garbage Brothers. He tells them to prepare themselves because they are all dead meat. The slaves are shaking in their borrowed boots, frantically shouting for someone to hurry up and shoot magic. But our boy Herkin just laughs, asking if they are really sure they want to keep going with this charade. He points out that the massive monster behind him might be a little upset about the whole situation, and the slaves turn pale as they finally realize the cockatrice is looming right over them. Herkin cheerfully tells them to just accept their death because they are absolutely screwed. But suddenly, the system interrupts the execution with a notification that a corrupted elf has spawned nearby. The elf immediately sprints away like she owes Herkin money, and a 3-minute timer starts ticking down, sending Herkin into instant panic mode. He realizes this is terrible timing, but decides to multitask by throwing the young brothers directly under the bus. He orders the slaves to keep the cockatrice busy with his skeletons and politely informs them that if they try to run, he will make sure their deaths are significantly more painful than whatever the monster does. The chase is on, and Herkin thinks capturing her now will secure his first-place ranking in the main quest, but the clock is ticking down fast. 2 minutes, 32 seconds left. With less than a minute left, he realizes she is suspiciously fast even with all his body enhancements, dodging his attacks effortlessly like she's in the Matrix. With 10 seconds on the clock and desperation setting in, he decides to get creative. Or crazy. He detonates a skeleton bomb right behind himself to use the explosion as a speed boost, shouting that he gave himself a blast, just to catch her. He catches her just in time, shouting, "Got you." But the drama isn't over because the elf decides to rage quit life by spitting blood and collapsing. Herkin panics, screaming at her not to die on him yet because he needs to clear the quest, and frantically uses the purification circlet. The item works, but the elf is still trembling. She hands him a crumpled piece of paper and then successfully fades away into sparkles. Herkin stares at the empty spot, realizing the quest was just a suicide mission for her all along, and he is absolutely furious about the anticlimactic storytelling. He looks at the paper, which contains the incredibly helpful message, he's right, and he nearly throws a fit, cursing the game developers for this vague nonsense. Back at the boss fight, the slaves are crying for help while the skeletons are literally playing beach volleyball with a ball, completely ignoring the life or death battle happening next to them. Just as the slaves scream that their swords are breaking and they are about to be crushed, Herkin crashes back into the scene with his golem, Mongol, to save the day. The slaves weep with joy, thinking he forgave them. But Herkin starts the interrogation instead. He confirms that the Apollo Guild hired them because of their dad, but realizes the high-tier unique items they are using actually belong to the Big Smile Guild. He deduces a 4-guild alliance is targeting him and decides he has no choice but to retaliate against this massive conspiracy. When the slaves ask if they are finally forgiven, he looks at them like they are insane and demands they hand over every single piece of equipment immediately. He wants a cherry on top. They now owe him 1 million gold a week, or he will hunt them down personally and kill them. The slaves are horrified, realizing our hero is actually scarier and greedier than the villain who enslaved them. We cut to the Big Smile Guild HQ, where an executive, Manager Shah, is enjoying a spa day with classical music, claiming it is the only joy in his busy life. His relaxation is ruined when a subordinate bursts in to report that Haho Mask is fighting back. Shah tries to play it cool, instructing them to claim it was a misunderstanding and talk it out, but then the second bomb drops. The unique items they lent to Apollo have appeared on the marketplace at exorbitant prices, and the seller is none other than Haho Mask. The executive realizes it will be impossible to buy them back and curses Herkin's name while our boy is busy scolding his skeletons for playing volleyball on the job earlier. Herkin hands the piece of paper to the quest helper, expecting a pat on the back or maybe a pile of gold, but the elf just acts incredibly stingy. The NPC refuses to let him keep the original note, claiming he doesn't trust Herkin with it, which honestly is a fair assessment considering our boy's track record. Herkin complains that since they are going to be running into each other a lot, the elf should just chill out, but he is left with only a copy of the clue. He reads the riddle: a place washed over by eagles, blue clouds spun across the sky, a village hidden amongst, and immediately loses his patience. He hates that these stupid elves always have to write in riddles, asking if the guy thinks he is a literature major or writing a poem for his crush. He sighs, realizing he has 0 brain cells for poetry, so he has to ask a favor from the one guy who actually speaks elf. We cut to Pipple Singh, the terrifying beastman, who is currently living his absolute best life. He greets Herkin with a smile, but Herkin can barely hear him over the sound of his own jealousy screaming. Hipple is surrounded by a literal harem of beautiful elves who are fawning over him, calling him their favorite and feeding him snacks. Herkin looks at this paradise and immediately wishes death upon him, thinking, "Die, you root of all evil." When Herkin grabs Pipple by his hair and screams asking what the hell is wrong with him, Pipple calmly explains that this is just work. He claims he needs to be liked by the villagers to stay in the elf village for his quest, so he just tried his best. Herkin trembles with rage, realizing that while his quest involves life or death battles, this guy's quest is literally just flirting with hot elves. The elves defend Pitbull, calling Herkimer an ugly human and telling him to get his dirty hands off their precious beastman. Pitbull calms them down like a smooth operator, calling them little bunnies, which makes Herkimer make a face so disgusted he looks like he is bleeding from his eyes. Herkin decides he has seen enough. He punches Pitbull directly in the stomach to shut him up and demands a translation. Pitbull glances at the paper and solves it instantly. It refers to the Blue Mist Forest. Herkin is shocked that the meathead figured it out so fast, asking if he studied the elven language. Pitbull laughs, explaining that eagles means high altitude and blue clouds means blue mist. It's obvious if you read books. He roasts Herkin, telling him to take a break from gaming and try reading a book once in a while. The elves swoon, saying they love intelligent men, and Herkin finally snaps, punching a tree because he can't handle the cringe. Feeling bad for their master, Herkin's skeletons try to comfort him by hugging his legs, mimicking the harem. Herkin spins around and screams at them, denying that he is jealous and lying that he read plenty of books as a kid and could totally make his own harem if he tried. He heads to the Blue Mist Forest to vent his frustration on the local wildlife. A level 110 Smoogren pops out of the water, and Herkin takes his anger out on it, slashing it down instantly while complaining that everyone treats him like a fool. He grinds for a while but gets suspicious because he hasn't seen a single trace of the quest target. He remembers Pitbull warning him that the Sweepers Guild oversees this place and wonders if he walked into a trap. Speak of the devil, a man approaches him, asking who he is associated with. The man declares Herkin an intruder and activates a field change, trapping him. A massive monster appears, identified as Corrupt Chimera 87, looking like a Frankenstein nightmare made of stitched-together corpses. Herkin thinks corrupt means it is related to the main quest and gets excited, calling it an energetic one. He orders his skeletons to attack, but the Chimera obliterates them in seconds. Herkin shouts curses at the thing for breaking his toys, But then he realizes something terrifying. His physical attacks aren't doing any damage. The system confirms that physical attacks are ineffective on this entity. Hirkin watches as his skeleton mage gets destroyed next, and realizes he is fighting a monster that is immune to his sword and dodges his spells. He grins nervously, wondering how the hell he is supposed to defeat a broken monster like this. Hirkin is sweating bullets, realizing that neither physical attacks nor magic seem to work on this Franken monster. He admits to himself that fighting this thing is basically suicide since he has never faced it before, even in his past life. Deciding it is time to stop playing nice, he goes all out, activating Skeleton Fragment, Madness Helm, Curse of Sloth, and Corrosion Spirit all at once. His skeletons charge in heroically, but the system immediately delivers the bad news. Skeleton warriors have been destroyed in a single hit. Hirkin curses as the monster launches a frozen slash at him, forcing him to block desperately. He realizes that if his skeletons are getting one shot, he's in deep trouble, but he tells himself he just needs to land one single hit. He shouts for his golem, Mongol, who grabs the surprised monster in a bear hug. Hirkin rushes in, but instead of landing a cool attack, he gets slashed right across the abdomen. But instead of screaming in pain, our boy grins like a lunatic and shouts, "Caught you." It turns out getting stabbed was part of the plan. The contact allowed his curse skill to activate, temporarily restricting the monster's movements. Hirkin yells, "Did I tell you? I'm going all out," and signals his skeleton mages, who have been charging up their fire magic in the back. He points at the immobilized monster and simply says, "Boom." The mages unleash shell, incinerating the target while Hirkin complains that this fight is literally killing him. The system announces the quest Elf's Keepsake is complete and awards him the title Corruption Destroyer. Hirkin is relieved but still annoyed, asking what the developers were thinking when they designed a monster that takes 0 physical damage. He chugs a health potion, thinking it is finally over. But because this game hates him, the monster stands back up. Hirkin panics, thinking, damn it, he's not dead yet, and admits he is in no state to keep fighting. But then things get weird. Instead of attacking Hirkin, the monster starts attacking itself. Hirkin watches in confusion as the creature begs him to kill it before the power of corruption takes over again. The monster drops a tragic backstory, revealing it used to be a member of the Secret Order, just like Hirkin. He explains that he was captured, tortured, and brainwashed by the power behind the corruption, eventually turning into a monster who killed countless humans. He kneels before Hirkin, begging to be punished for his weakness and his failure to protect people. Hirkin looks at the tragic figure and offers some surprisingly wholesome comfort, telling him that he is the strongest opponent he has ever fought. He reasons that the guy must have been incredibly strong as a human and insists that the real villains are the ones behind the corruption. Internally, Hirkin has a moment of massive regret, realizing that if he hadn't given the purification circlet to the elf earlier, he could have healed this guy right now. The monster smiles, calling Hirkin a good person and saying he is glad to have met him. He fades away, leaving his legacy to his junior, and the system announces the completion of the quest Inheritance. Hirkin looks down at the weapon left on the floor and realizes this was another quest item he missed out on because he didn't have the circlet. He screams, "A fasterist CK this game," completely ruining the emotional moment. Meanwhile, in a much fancier location, the Thunder Queen, Shiro, is throwing a tantrum. She demands to know why Haho Mask is working with the Red Bulls instead of her, claiming she can give him everything he wants. Her subordinates are terrified, whispering that she isn't just trying to recruit a player anymore. She is obsessed with Haho Mask himself. They have a bad feeling about this and suggest retreating for now, but suddenly a man with glasses appears out of thin air. The queen asks when he got there, shocked that she couldn't even sense him. The mysterious man from the secret organization ignores the tension and asks if she wants him to get rid of Haho Mask for her. Instead of being offended, the Thunder Queen flashes a terrifying, maniacal grin, clearly interested in the offer. The NPC hands the sword to our boy, his voice trembling with emotion. He says Hirkin was a good friend to the deceased and thanks him for being there. It is a touching moment, truly. Or it would be, if our hero was not standing there thinking, how can I use this without feeling guilty? He opens the status window. Abram's sword. Unique rank. Plus 77 strength. Plus 66 stamina. Plus 55 intelligence. And it ignores 15% of monster defense. Hirkin's face transforms from mourning to absolute capitalist ecstasy. He screams, "Holy shit. The stats are insane." Suddenly, the guilt vanishes faster than his mana pool. He looks up at the sky with sparkling eyes and shouts, "Thank you, Ebum." Somewhere in his imagination, The dead guy is giving him a thumbs up, but Herkin is just happy he does not have to spend a dime on a weapon for the next 10 levels. He walks away, literally licking his lips as he calculates how much gold he just saved. He is already mentally spending that money on high-quality beef. But because the universe hates him, a voice shouts, "Ho ho mask." Herkin freezes. He is surrounded. Before he can even ask for an autograph, his phone buzzes. It is Ramani, and she sounds panicked. She tells him to check the dark web because there is a 100 million gold bounty on his head. 100 million. Our boy is not just a player anymore. He is a walking lottery ticket. Meanwhile, on another battleground, the Thunder Queen, Shiro, is having a little chat with the secret agent from the Hand Guild. The guy with glasses suggests they team up to take down Ho-Ho Mask, calling him a dangerous variable. Shiro smiles, looking like she is considering it. Then she grabs his face and slams him into the floor. She literally steps on his chest, high heels and all. She hisses that she does not work with thieves who steal her boss kills. She looks down at the terrified man and declares that Ho-Ho Mask belongs to her. She orders her aide to spread the word. If anyone else touches her prey, they are dead. The glasses guy scurries back to his master, the mastermind known as Singlet. Standing in his luxury skyscraper, Singlet is not even mad. He watches the footage of Herkin running for his life and smiles, clutching a chess piece. He murmurs, "Now, what will our pawn do?" Back in the forest, the pawn in question is having a meltdown. The mob is closing in, and Romani is screaming in his ear that if he quits, she loses her content. Herkin snaps. He refuses to let some rich psychopath ruin his game. He shouts, "Who said I am stopping?" He opens the auction house. He searches for a specific item, a wyvern skull. The price is astronomical. It costs literally everything he has. He stares at the purchase button. He thinks about the steak, the lobster, the sashimi, and his entire retirement fund. With a tear in his eye, he presses buy. The system chimes. Balance, 0. He is officially broke. Again, the bounty hunters laugh, thinking they have cornered him. They shout that golems are slow and he has nowhere to run. Herkin grins like a maniac. He activates his skill, Clay Play. The skill levels up to rank A as he tosses the massive skull into his golem. The earth shakes. The golem twists, bones snapping and reforming until it grows massive wings. It is not just a golem anymore, it is a bone dragon. Herkin climbs on top of his new ride, looking down at the terrified players. He laughs, a sound filled with the rage of a man who just spent his last penny, and shouts, "All right, which one of you wants to come at me first?" Our hero is currently soaring through the sky on his brand new, ridiculously expensive bone dragon, looking down at the peasants below like a true elitist. The players on the ground are screaming at him to come down, but Herkin just sighs, finding his fame incredibly annoying. He realizes that if he keeps running from these leeches, he will never get any grinding done. So, he decides to go straight to the source of his misery. He sends a message to the Thunder Queen, Shiro, demanding a private audience. He lands in front of her, and she looks at him with that terrifying calmness, asking why he finally decided to show up. Herkin stares at her, his fists clenching. In his head, he is replaying all the trauma from his past life, remembering how this woman tormented him and drove his friends to betray him. He wants to attack her right then and there. But instead of initiating a boss fight he definitely cannot win yet, he just asks if she is the one who put the 100 million gold bounty on his head. The Thunder Queen looks genuinely offended. She asks why he would come all the way there just to ask something so stupid. She denies it, calling him absurd. Our protagonist, ever the drama queen, grins and accuses her anyway, shouting that she is exactly the type of person to screw people over for fun. She stays silent for a moment, probably contemplating whether to kill him now or later, and then drops a lore bomb. She mentions that an unknown ranker came to see her recently, asking her to help exclude Herkin from the game. Herkin freezes. That word, exclude. It triggers a major flashback to his past life, confirming that the same conspiracy is happening again. The Thunder Queen explains that she turned the guy down, not because she likes Herkin, but because she hates being told what to do. She then makes him an offer. She points out that he cannot survive 100 million gold bounty on his own and invites him to join her guild. She promises to protect him. Most people would say thank you. Our hero, however, practically hisses at her. He turns around and dramatically declares that he would rather die than join her guild. He gives a whole speech about how he is going to become the strongest all by himself. The Thunder Queen looks at him like he is a cute, tantrum-throwing toddler. She smiles, telling him to do his best because she is also one of his competitors. Herkin gets on his bone dragon and flies away, shuddering because her smile is honestly creepier than any monster in this game. As he flies off, his phone buzzes. It is the pink-haired editor, Ramani. She is losing her mind because a new wanted poster has gone up, promising the reward to anyone who kills Hahomask. She asks if he landed a sponsor, but Herkin dismisses it, muttering about crazy women. The scene shifts to a castle where a kid is currently getting the stuffing beaten out of him by some thugs. The bullies are demanding he hand over a quest, while the kid cries and rambles that he doesn't know what they are talking about. Just as the thug is about to deliver a knockout punch, our protagonist steps in. He looks at the crying boy and recognizes him immediately as the future legendary figure, the Quest Man. Herkin asks the kid if he is indeed the Quest Man. The kid, whose name is Gate, is confused and terrified. Our boy realizes he is a bit too early in the timeline, but decides to secure his investment anyway. He tells the kid to come with him. The thugs ask who the hell he thinks he is. Herkin answers by knocking all three of them out in a single hit. The kid watches in shock, wondering who this player is. Herkin turns to the boy with a winning smile and introduces himself as just a good-natured citizen passing by. We all know that is a lie. He is a greedy capitalist passing by, and he just found his next golden goose. After knocking out the three thugs with embarrassing ease, our hero stands there looking like a dark knight in shining armor. The kid, Gade, looks at him with wide, teary eyes. He clings to Herkin's face, yes, his face, sobbing uncontrollably. He thanks Herkin for saving him, saying he had completely given up hope. He blubbers that if Herkin had not shown up, the quest would have been stolen for sure. Herkin peels the crying child off him and gets straight to the point. He asks if the quest he almost lost is the Ruins Time Dungeon quest. The kid nods, sniffing. Herkin explains that clearing this dungeon dispels the massive blocked field behind it. The kid is shocked. He asks how Herkin knows that information. Our hero flashes a winning smile, looks the kid dead in the eye, and says, "Hand it over to me." The kid's face drops. He thinks, so he is just another bastard trying to rob me. He realizes he has just been saved by a bigger, stronger, and scarier bandit. The scene shifts to the entrance of the dungeon. They enter together, and a system window pops up immediately. It reads, "Party play initiated. If a party member dies or leaves the dungeon, the quest will be invalidated." Herkin reads this and looks like he wants to punch a wall. He is stuck on an escort mission. He drags the kid along, who is still crying. The boy wails that he thought he would finally clear a quest for once, but now it is being stolen again. He sobs that he just wants to go home. Herkin snaps. He shouts at the kid to shut up already. He looks at the pathetic display before him and gives some aggressive life advice. He tells the boy that if he hates having things stolen, he should try fighting to stop it instead of just crying. He says that just because the kid has lived a weak life until now, it does not mean he has to be weak forever. The kid stops crying for a second, looking confused. He thought Herkin was going to beat him up, but instead, he is getting a motivational speech. But the touching moment is interrupted by a massive fly monster buzzing into the scene. Terrified, the kid screams and sprints toward Herkin, hugging him tight. Herkin is absolutely disgusted. He shouts, "Are you insane? Get off me!" He shakes the kid off and effortlessly kills the bug. Both of them are exhausted, but for different reasons. Herkin accuses the kid of hugging him on purpose, just to screw with his combat rhythm. The kid apologizes, trembling like a leaf. Herkin points a finger at him and gives him one simple instruction. Stay right here. He warns the kid that if he gets in the way during the boss fight, Herkin will kill him himself. They reach the boss room. It is a giant spider, a monster famous for being insanely annoying because of its exploding babies. Herkin tells the kid to hide and rushes in alone. Our protagonist is in the zone. He slashes at the boss, moving like a whirlwind. He thinks, this is easy. I can solo this no problem. The kid watches from the sidelines, eyes sparkling with admiration. He thinks Herkin is amazing and that they might actually win. But then, because he possesses zero survival instincts, the kid accidentally taps on a spider web next to him. Instantly, a baby spider bomb appears. The bomb explodes. The kid screams that it hurts. Suddenly, he is surrounded by more red notifications and more spider bombs. He thinks, this is the end for me. Herkin looks back and sees his quest reward about to be blown into confetti. He shouts, seriously, you're totally useless. He realizes that if this crybaby dies, the quest fails. With a groan of pure frustration, Herkin abandons his attack on the boss and dives straight into the explosion zone to save the worst party member in the history of gaming. The kid is currently lying on the ground having a full-blown identity crisis, thinking about how he is pathetic and only good at running away. He spirals into a depression, remembering every insult he has ever received, including being called a potato, which is honestly a creative low blow. But then, he remembers our hero's aggressive motivational speech about not being weak forever. Suddenly, the camera shifts to a disgusting spiderweb cocoon. Our hero bursts out of it like a butterfly from hell. He grumbles that he had to let himself get trapped, because if the crybaby died, the quest would have failed. He summons his skeletons, ready to clean up the mess. But to his surprise, the kid comes running back, using flame magic to distract the exploding spiders. Herkin looks at him like he has lost his mind and tells him to leave before he dies. The kid refuses. He shouts that he is an expert at running away, so if Herkin kills the boss, he can survive the trash mobs. Our hero looks at the trembling child and realizes the kid actually has some nerve. He decides it is better than watching him cry, so he turns his attention to the giant boss. The kid is shaking in his boots, but for the first time, he finds the adrenaline rush exciting. He runs around dodging spiders while Herkin absolutely dismantles the giant spider. With a final strike, the boss falls. The system announces the dungeon clear. The kid can hardly believe it. He thinks he actually helped, which is adorable considering he did almost 0 damage. But we will let him have this moment. But of course, the celebration is cut short because the 3 thugs from earlier return. They hold a knife to the kid's throat, demanding he hand over the clear reward, which is a title that dispels block fields. Herkin looks at them and asks what they are trying to pull. The thug threatens to kill the kid. But the kid has finally grown a spine. He bites the thug's hand. The thug screams and punches the kid in the face, calling him pathetic. But the kid just spits blood and says the punch feels like cotton compared to the spiders he just fought. He refuses to hand over the title. Herkin steps in looking bored. He tells the thugs he will give them the title, but only if they can beat him and take it. The thugs, who clearly cannot do math, think that 3 against 1 are good odds. They laugh, calling him crazy. But then, they hear the rattling of bones. Herkin summons his skeleton army. The thugs freeze. They finally put 2 and 2 together and realize this isn't just some random player. This is Haho Mask, the solo player who solos raid bosses. Terror washes over their faces. They ask why a ranker like him is in a newbie dungeon. Herkin tells them it is none of their business and puts a hand on the leader's shoulder. He demands they hand over everything they have. A moment later, Herkin is holding their expensive war watches, having legally robbed them blind. Outside the dungeon, the kid bows to Herkin, thanking him for saving him physically and mentally. He says he will be going now, expecting nothing. But our hero stops him. He tells the kid to take the title. The kid is shocked, saying he doesn't deserve it. Herkin scoffs and says he needs the title so he doesn't get beaten up as often in the future. It is a rare moment of kindness, or maybe Herkin just doesn't want his investment to die immediately. He asks if the kid is going to keep playing the game. The kid looks at him with pure admiration, wipes his snotty nose, and shouts yes. Herkin walks away, probably checking his pockets to make sure he didn't accidentally give the kid any gold too. The scene shifts to our hero stretching his limbs, looking incredibly comfortable in his old, casual outfit. He tells himself that dressing like a normal civilian will surely help him keep a low profile because of the bounty on his head. Clearly, he has forgotten that he radiates main character energy that no amount of beige clothing can hide. He thinks back to the crying kid he just saved and decides that the questman will be a useful tool later, even if he currently seems about as useful as a screen door on a submarine. He arrives at the newly unlocked map, the Cursed Territory. A random player is cheering about finally making it, but his party member shuts him down, reminding him that everyone here is competition. She points out that the top guilds, including Triple Wing and Hydra, are already swarming the place like flies on a carcass. Suddenly, someone shouts that Haho Mask has arrived. The crowd parts like the Red Sea. The whispers start immediately. One player speculates that the admins must be boosting him. Another claims there is no way he is that strong without cheating. But then the rumors get spicy. Someone whispers that our hero is the Thunder Queen's pet because she threatened to kill anyone who touches him. Another person chimes in, asking if he was not dating Shev, the guild master of the Red Bulls, because they were fighting over him recently. The crowd comes to a collective conclusion. Our protagonist must have cast a seduction spell to have 2 rival guild masters wrapped around his finger. Our boy hears every word. He smiles politely on the outside, but internally, he is fantasizing about murder. When one guy suggests he has serious seduction skills, our hero snaps. He grabs the gossiper by the face, shaking him violently. He screams that he is nobody's pet and certainly not anyone's lover. He tries to defend his honor, shouting that he got here with pure skill, not by flirting, but nobody seems convinced. Before he can strangle the guy, an NPC interrupts. It is Sarabo from the Secret Order, looking very serious. He tells everyone to stop causing a scene before the important mission. The crowd goes silent, realizing the main quest is about to begin. Sarabo explains that this territory was where the source of corruption conducted experiments, meaning the land itself is cursed. Our hero listens and nods sagely. He thinks to himself, "Ah yes, just like before I regressed." He expects the NPC to ask them to hunt a voodoo chimera, a tricky but manageable monster. He stands there looking smug, thinking he has the future in the palm of his hand. He is already planning his victory lap. But then, the NPC announces the target. The Evil Eye. Our boy's smug expression shatters instantly. The crowd erupts in panic. Someone shouts that the Evil Eye is a level 150 monster with a passive area of effect curse. Our hero stands there blinking, realizing his future knowledge just expired. The NPC is not done dropping bombs. He announces that only 4 teams will be given the chance to hunt the Evil Eye. Everyone else? They get kicked out of the main quest permanently. The crowd is horrified. They complain that it is too harsh, but the NPC just smiles a cruel, corporate smile and wishes them luck. Immediately, the gathered players turn into a stampede. They shove each other out of the way, sprinting into the field to find the boss first. One guy bumps into our boy, telling him to move, but stops when he sees the look on our hero's face. The protagonist is standing frozen, looking like his brain has crashed. He thinks, this is not how it happened before. Why is the future changing? He slaps his own cheeks to snap out of the spiral. He realizes he has 2 possibilities. Either his regression has altered the timeline, or his knowledge was wrong from the start. He decides to figure it out later because standing still means failing. Meanwhile, looking at his watch like a spy movie villain, the man with glasses from the Secret Order arrives. He reports to his superiors that he is beginning the quest. He adjusts his glasses and vows that once the mission is done, he will take care of Haho Mask for good this time. Somewhere in the cursed territory, a full party of mages is sweating bullets trying to take down a single gold-headed chimera. They scream countdowns and charge up a spell like they're in an anime finale, just to kill one regular mob. They cheer like they just won the World Cup, exhausted and terrified. The crybaby kid from earlier asks if they can just go home, wondering how they can possibly compete with the top guilds when one monster takes this much effort. The mage grabs him by the neck and tells him to stop whining and look over there. The camera pans to our hero. While the peasants struggle with one monster, our boy is casually soloing 3 of them at the same time. He is not even using his skeletons. He is just flexing on everyone, tearing through the monsters with pure physical stats. The kid watches in awe, realizing the gap between a pro and a potato is infinite. He whispers that he wishes he could play the game comfortably like that, clearly unaware that our hero is internally screaming. The system countdown is ticking. 90 minutes remaining. Our boy is stressed. He realizes his future knowledge is useless because the quest has changed, and he has no idea who is chasing him. He is bleeding, his arm is trembling, and his skeleton offers him a health potion. But Herkin, being the stubborn mule he is, refuses it. Apparently, saving 3 seconds is more important than not bleeding out. He tells himself he needs to be faster, ignoring the pain and throwing himself back into the grinder. The timer hits 0. Our hero rushes to the NPC, looking like he went through a blender, but expecting a gold medal. The NPC is impressed, noting that he hunted an insane amount of monsters alone. Our boy waits for the praise, ready to accept his first place reward. But then the NPC drops a bomb. He announces that the second place winner has just arrived. Our hero freezes. Second? He practically killed the entire ecosystem, and he is second? He wonders who beat him. Was it Ares? Hydra? Did a top guild mobilize an entire army? Then a voice calls out, asking for a moment. Our protagonist turns around and sees the man with glasses from the Secret Order, the schemer who tried to have him banned earlier. The 4-eyed snake smiles and says he knew it was him. Our hero does not waste time with dialogue. He attacks mid-sentence, swinging his sword with murderous intent. He asks who the hell this guy is to keep interrupting his life. But the glasses guy is not just a desk worker. He actually has hands. He parries the attack effortlessly and shoves our boy back with terrifying force. Herkin crashes into a tree, coughing up blood. The man adjusts his glasses, points his sword at Herkin, and issues a challenge. He requests a one-on-one duel. The stakes are simple. If he wins, Herkin has to give up on the main quest forever. The MC clenches his teeth, staring at the four-eyed snake who just threatened to end his quest. He spits out a curse, ready to throw hands. The man with glasses, desperate to wash away the humiliation of their previous encounter, prepares to fight. He thinks that killing our boy here will finally cleanse his reputation. But then our hero does something unexpected. He sheaths his sword and starts taking off his armor. The glasses guy stares, completely confused, asking what the hell he is doing. Our boy looks at him like he is the idiot and asks if he can't tell he is preparing to fight. The villain gets angry, asking why he is stripping in the middle of a battlefield. Our hero gasps in mock surprise. He asks if the guy really doesn't know the legendary watchman style. He explains that true warriors fight only wearing a watch, discarding defense to focus solely on attack. He claims it is a holy fighting technique designed to test pure talent alone. He stands there in his underwear, striking a noble pose, and questions the villain's resolve. He asks if the guy is too scared to fight without his expensive gear. The glasses guy sweats nervously. His ego is fragile, and he refuses to be outdone. He shouts that he is not scared. And just like that, he strips down to his boxers too. He declares he has plenty of confidence. Our hero smiles wickedly. Now we have two grown men standing in the forest in their underwear, ready to duel to the death. It is the most ridiculous scene in the history of gaming. They clash swords. Our boy realizes immediately that despite looking like a pervert, the glasses guy is actually strong. His stats are high, and his reading of the battle is perfect. The villain pushes our hero back, appearing behind him and mocking him for being too slow. He pins our boy to the ground, calling him a scared dog who barks too loud. Our hero realizes he cannot win a fair fight. He tries to cast a curse, shouting, "I curse you." But the villain just slams his face into the dirt, calling it boring. He raises his sword to finish it. Our boy grins. He shouts that it is not over yet and throws a skeleton bomb. Smoke explodes everywhere. The glasses guy flinches, expecting a sneak attack through the blind spot. He shouts, asking where he is hiding. But as the smoke clears, there is no attack. Just a small skeleton standing there, bowing politely. The villain is confused. He asks what is going on. Suddenly, his watch buzzes. It is a call from his superior. The voice on the other line asks what on earth he is doing and tells him to check HahoMask's YouTube channel immediately. The glasses guy opens the video feed. His face turns pale. There, on the screen, is a live video of him standing in his underwear, acting tough and shouting about his resolve. The comment section is absolutely destroying him. People are asking why the guy is naked, laughing at his fashion choices, and calling him a crazy pervert. The villain watches our hero in the video, who is narrating the whole thing. Our boy laughs, asking the audience if they think he is insane enough to fight a high-level ranker fair and square. Back where we left off, the underwear duel has officially broken the internet, and Romani Herkin's pink-haired editor is losing her absolute mind. She is clutching her stomach, wheezing, and wiping tears from her eyes as she watches the footage on her monitor. On screen, the glasses guy is delivering a passionate, high-stakes anime monologue about resolve and power, all while standing in the middle of a forest wearing nothing but his boxers. The contrast is lethal. Romani gasps for air and asks our boy if this villain is actually brain-dead. She asks, who on earth would fall for such a vomit-inducing lie about a secret Watchmen-style duel? Our boy leans back, offering a confident, but slightly twitchy smile. Externally, he looks like a mastermind. Internally, he is sweating buckets. He thinks to himself that he's not a tactical genius. He just threw a Hail Mary because he was about to get crushed. He realizes with a cold shiver that if the guy had even 2 brain cells to rub together, Herkin would be the one eating dirt right now. But hey, results are results. With the viral comedy segment over, Romani shifts to business mode. She asks if he's finally heading to the main quest now that the obstacle is gone. Our boy nods but says he has to make a pit stop first. He needs to liquidate the high-tech equipment his skeletons permanently borrowed from the naked villain. Romani looks skeptical. She points out that buying gear stolen from a guy now known as the Underwear Psycho is basically asking for a vendetta. Who would want that heat? Herkin just grins. He tells her he has the perfect buyer, Matador Chev of the Red Bulls. He knows that when you're that strong, you don't care about bad PR, you only care about stats. Cut to the deep wilderness of Soul Mountain. We see the massive, hulking corpse of a lion monster dissolving into light particles. Standing over it is Matador Chev, looking like he barely broke a sweat. As his guild members cheer for the clear, the red-haired sword girl, Yo, walks up. She confirms that the trade with Haho Mask went through perfectly. However, she's nervous. She tells Shav that carrying the underwear psycho's gear might make them a target for the humiliated villain. Shav just throws his head back and laughs. My man loves the drama. He basically says that having a little friend like Herkin makes the game way less boring than just grinding mobs all day. But the good vibes die instantly. The sky darkens, thunder grumples, and a literal bolt of lightning crashes down nearby. Out of the smoke steps the Thunder Queen, and she looks like she's about to murder someone. She is absolutely livid. She marches up to Shev and demands he hand over the equipment he bought from the Glasses Buster. It turns out she's not just mad about the gear. She's furious that Herkin bypassed her guild and went straight to Shev. She tries to pull rank, ordering the Red Bulls to step aside so the Thunder Hunters can take over the deal. Shev isn't having it. He smirks and hits her with the ultimate roast. Don't be mad at me just because Haho Mask didn't choose you. That line snaps something inside her. The queen starts radiating a terrifying red and black aura that makes the air heavy. In a rare moment of vulnerability, fueled by pure rage, she snaps back, admitting that she couldn't trade with him because Haho Mask clearly hates her guts. She practically screams that he runs away every time he sees her. Instead of being sympathetic, Shev starts dying of laughter. He finds her rejection hilarious. This is the wrong move. The queen loses it, grabs him by the collar, and threatens to end his life right there if he doesn't shut his mouth. Back in the safety of the city, Herkin hears a system ping. He checks his inventory and freezes. He's received a gift from an anonymous sponsor. It's a full custom skeleton armor set. This isn't trash loot. This is high-end, tailored gear for a necromancer. Our boy isn't stupid. He knows exactly who sent it. He calls up Chef and asks why he's handing out charity. Chef plays coy, refusing to reveal the sponsor, but then pivots the conversation to something totally weird. Hey, Chef asks, sounding way too serious. What is your ideal type in a woman? Herkin blinks, completely thrown off. He's here trying to conquer the game, and this top ranker is asking for dating advice? Herkin sighs and gives a brutally honest answer. I just want someone who actually likes me. He's a simple man with simple needs. Shev lets out a low, cryptic laugh on the other end. He mutters, there might be a higher possibility of that than you think. Before abruptly hanging up, Herkin stares at the phone, muttering about how all high rankers are eccentrics who need to touch grass. Finally, it's game time. Herkin arrives at a spooky gothic mansion bathed in the light of a blood-red moon. A quest NPC, who looks like a pirate straight out of a movie, steps forward to address the crowd. He announces that only 4 teams have qualified for the stage: the Task Force, Triple Wing, the Nappy Family, and Haho Mask. The mission is simple but brutal. Hunt down the Evil Eye, a grotesque mutant of the Voodoo Chimera. The reward? The Curse Protection Amulet. Herkin's eyes light up. This item is a free pass. It negates territory debuffs, allowing the holder to investigate anywhere on the map. For a solo player, this item is the Holy Grail. He needs it. But as the NPC shouts start, reality hits. The other 3 teams, the Task Force and Triple Wing, explode off the starting line with pro-level speed and coordination. They are well-oiled machines. Herkin is left standing in the dust, realizing that soloing a race against full raid teams is bordering on impossible. However, our boy spots a struggler. The Nappy Family, a duo consisting of a guy and a girl, haven't moved. They look defeated. The girl is trembling, saying they barely survived the last round and should just quit before they die and lose the XP. The guy agrees, ready to log out. Suddenly, a shadow falls over them. Herkin walks up, wearing his creepy smiling mask. He leans in with a voice that sounds less like a hero and more like a devil making a contract. It's too early to give up, guys, Herkin says, his grin practically audible through the mask. I am covering this one on a weekly basis, because I enjoy it as much as you do. Please leave a like, subscribe, and put the notification on, so you are first to see when new chapter is out. See you at the next one. The scene opens deep in the forest where the Hydra Guild leadership is holding a very serious, very dramatic team huddle. One of the leaders is giving a speech that screams middle management power trip, insisting that they absolutely cannot be stupid enough to lose the Chapter 1 main quest. He emphasizes that they are the Hydra Guild main quest dedicated team, a title that definitely sounds like they made it up to feel special. He commands everyone to move out to the Evil Eye habitat and show absolutely zero mercy to any competitors. Of course, while he's busy monologuing, our favorite mask stalker is watching from the bushes, probably judging their tactical formation. Suddenly, the silence of the woods is broken by the pathetic screaming of the kid from the lucky newbie guild. He is running around flailing his arms, shouting for help like he's in a B-list horror movie. It turns out, this is the bait portion of Herken's master plan. The Hydra leader spots him from a high vantage point and immediately starts sneering. He recognizes the lucky Gelt tag and scoffs, assuming the kid is just being chased by random monsters. He shakes his head, lamenting that kids these days have no greed and just ditch their training to run away. It is a full okay boomer moment. But while the leader is busy looking down his nose at the newbie, Herken casually strolls up right behind him. He leans in and asks if the guy's senses are failing him, which is the polite way of saying, "I'm right behind you, idiot." The Hydra leader spins around, looking like he just saw a ghost, completely caught off guard. Meanwhile, down on the ground, the feisty girl from the newbie guild is helping her traumatized friend up. The kid is practically in tears, wailing and asking how on earth they ended up stuck with a human being as terrible as Herken. The girl bluntly reminds him that it is all because of that scam contract they signed. We get a quick flashback to the negotiations, where our boy, looking like a shady used car salesman, told them their only job was to run around and lure the Hydra Guild in, while he handled the heavy lifting. At the time, it probably sounded easy. Now, they look like they want to sue for emotional damages. Meanwhile, back at the altar of the Evil Eye, things are taking a turn for the chaotic. Herken and the two newbies are perched on top of a golem our boy summoned. It looks safe, but suddenly, the scene turns into a straight-up betrayal movie. Without a shred of hesitation, Herken shoves the newbie guild members off the golem and straight toward the altar where a monster is waiting. The duo screams in terror, landing right in front of the beast. They are shocked, angry, and convinced they are about to die. But as the monster attacks, something miraculous happens. They dodge. They strike back. Somehow, through the panic and the screaming, they actually manage to fight the thing and win. As the monster collapses, Herken hops down from his golem, clapping like a proud chaos dad. He beams at them, delivering the most condescendingly inspirational line possible. "See, anything is possible if you really try." The girl is panting, utterly confused by her own confidence. Herken reveals the truth. That brutal beatdown he gave them earlier when they signed the contract? That wasn't just him being a jerk. It was specialized training to prepare them for this exact moment. He claims he knew they had it in them all along. The girl starts trembling. She looks down, mumbling sadly that they didn't know anything and just complained the whole time. It looks like a touching moment of gratitude is coming. But then, plot twist, her face contorts from sadness into pure, unadulterated rage. She grabs our boy by the collar and screams in his face, asking who the hell gave him permission to pull a stunt like that. She looks absolutely maniacal, reminding him that the contract said he would solo the Evil Eye. She is furious that he made them fight the monster in his place while he watched from the VIP section. Herken looks at her calmly, completely unfazed by her death grip on his shirt, and says he never broke that promise. The girl is confused because, well, the monster is dead. But suddenly, a terrifying system notification pops up. The smell of the sacrifice's blood spreads. It turns out the monster the newbies just defeated wasn't the boss. It was just the sacrifice required to open the door. The altar begins to glow ominously. The newbie duo looks on in horror as a massive, monstrous figure begins to rise from the blood of the fallen beast. It is the real Evil Eye. Herken places a hand on the girl's shoulder to calm her down, or maybe just to look cool, and smirks. He tells her that he didn't break his promise because that monstrosity right there is his actual opponent. We see the boss's level is just a string of question marks, which is universal gaming language for run. Quick pause. If you're enjoying the story so far, please drop a like and subscribe to the channel. It really helps the algorithm. Done? Awesome. Let's get back to it. The situation at the altar has gone from bad to absolute nightmare in record time. The real Evil Eye isn't just big. It is a walking debuff machine. The newbie guild leader and her sidekick are immediately hit with a laundry list of system notifications. Demon scars, curse of sloth, corrosion, fear, basically the game's way of saying sit down and shut up. They are paralyzed, convinced this is the end of their short, terrified lives. But just as the panic sets in, our masked menace swoops in like a knight in shining, skeletal armor. He slashes through the curse effects effortlessly, freeing them from the mental pressure. The newbies are speechless, staring at him like he is a god. Herken, however, just yawns. He mocks the Evil Eye, complaining that its curse level is so low it is actually boring. He smirks, activates his slot-on skill, and decks himself out in his flashy bone armor. He looks at the monster and basically says, "Okay, my turn." Herkin launches himself at the boss, and the battle begins. The evil eye fires off spells, but our boy is dodging and weaving. He taunts the monster, calling it a rascal and asking if it thinks those weak attacks will work. But then, disaster strikes. Herkin steps right onto a hidden magic circle. Petrification magic. His feet turn to stone, locking him in place. The evil eye laughs, thinking it has finally caught the slippery pest. Herkin, however, just sighs. He reveals that he knew the trap was there the whole time. In fact, he stepped in it on purpose just to get the boss to lower its guard. While the evil eye is busy gloating, our boy shoots his weapon at the boss, ending the fight instantly. With the boss defeated, Herkin takes a moment to admire his new gear. He looks down at the high-tier bone armor he is wearing and gets sentimental. He loudly declares his undying love and gratitude for the anonymous fan who gifted him this expensive gear. He has no idea that the fan he is blowing kisses to is actually the Thunder Queen, his sworn enemy. The newbie duo stands there, jaws on the floor, unable to believe he actually pulled it off. Overcome with emotion, the kid loses all sense of personal space and launches himself at Herkin, tackling him in a massive, tearful bear hug. Herkin immediately panics, shoving the kid's face away and screaming at him to get off, calling him a perverted bastard. Apparently, hugs are not part of the contract. Meanwhile, the scene shifts to a high-tech control room where the mood is significantly less funny. We see a man watching the footage of Herkin defeating the evil eye. This is the main villain, and he does not look happy. He turns to his subordinate, a man with glasses named Singlet, who we know is the guy Herkin has been messing with. The main villain asks Singlet for his thoughts on Herkin's victory. Singlet tries to apologize, but the boss cuts him off cold. He reminds Singlet that his priority was to interfere with the main quest. He asks, in a terrifyingly calm voice, why he should keep a tool that doesn't listen to instructions. Singlet falls to his knees, begging for one more chance, promising he will follow commands this time. The villain dismisses him with a wave, and Singlet scrambles out of the room like a kicked puppy. Once they are alone, a female aide asks the main villain what they should do about Haho Mask. The villain orders increased surveillance. He notes that Herkin is progressing way too fast. Even with talent, his movements are too efficient. It is almost as if he already knows the scenario. The aide is confused, asking if that is even possible. The villain stands up, dropping some heavy lore. He explains that Warlord's main quest is a story created in real time by the super AI Mia, based on user activities. It shouldn't be predictable. He narrows his eyes at the screen, determined to dig into this anomaly. He needs to find out exactly what kind of cheat codes or breaks this masked man is using. Little do they know, the cheat code is just being from the future. Our boy is currently stepping into a set of catacombs that look like they haven't seen a broom since the era of the dinosaurs. He's hacking up a lung because the dust levels are high enough to qualify as a biological weapon, questioning the interior design choices of whoever mapped this place out. Suddenly, 2 system windows pop up to congratulate him on being a catacomb visitor and the one who awakens the dead. Our hero just grins because, despite the potential lung damage, he knows he's exactly where he needs to be to wrap up the final chapter of his main quest. We flash back to a moment ago when our protagonist visited a salty pirate NPC to claim his prize for the Evil Eye raid. He walks away with the Cerebos Curse Protection Amulet, which is basically a VIP pass for safely traversing cursed territory. The pirate warns him that the Corrupt One left some nasty experiments behind at Hoban Castle, and tells him to find the evidence that might reveal the villain's identity. A quest pops up to investigate the land and return with traces of the enemy. But when the NPC points him toward the main entrance, Herkin just walks in the opposite direction. He knows the real evidence isn't in the front hall but is hidden in the basement catacombs on the outskirts of the castle. Back in the present, his skeleton squad is currently turning animal skeletons into calcium powder, while Herkin just chills in the background. He's feeling himself, confident that he's clearing the final stretch of Chapter 2 at record-breaking speeds. He watches his bones while work and realizes they've actually gotten a lot stronger. He throws them a compliment, and the skeletons react like they just won the lottery. They're literally blushing and giving him puppy dog eyes, practically begging for more praise because they're so proud of their own performance. Our boy isn't really the nurturing type, though, so he tells them that if they want more, they need to act like they actually learned something from him. He gives the order to rush, and his skeletons sprint off with renewed vigor. Naturally, the universe decides to humble him immediately. 30 minutes later, the path starts looking suspiciously familiar, and Herkin realizes the layout is a total mess. An hour after that, he's convinced he's going the right way, but 3 hours in, He's basically smashing the ground in a full-blown tantrum. He's lost. The path is a labyrinth and nightmare, and he's starting to regret his solo player lifestyle. He briefly considers that having a mage with texture magic would have solved this, but his ego and his greed won't let him share his secrets with the guild. To make matters worse, his skeletons start messing with their expensive armor, and Herkin nearly has a stroke thinking about how many meals he skipped to afford those upgrades. Just as he's about to blow a fuse, the system gives him a participation trophy in the form of a new title, Directionally Challenged. It grants him 2 extra points in stamina, which is basically the game's way of saying he's an idiot who's going to be walking for a very long time. They finally stumble through a door and find a massive armored skeleton commander who is clearly offended that someone interrupted his nap. The boss starts a dramatic villain monologue about making them regret their existence, but Herkin is way too grumpy to listen to his speech. He walks up and punches the commander mid-sentence. The boss is genuinely shocked, trying to explain that he wasn't finished speaking, but our boy just hits him again. He's convinced this boss is the one who designed the confusing map that earned him his insulting new title. The commander finally loses his cool, shouting about how he was a legendary leader in his past life. He summons a whole army of mini-skeletons, laughing like a maniac and asking if our hero is scared yet. Herkim just picks his nose with peak levels of disrespect, completely unimpressed by the budget bin army. He tells the boss that summoning weaklings is a game 2 can play, and he proceeds to call out his own swarm of little bombois. It's officially an all-out war between 2 sets of skeletons, and our boy is ready to watch the calcium-filled chaos unfold. The giant skeleton commander is currently having a total crisis of confidence as he watches his massive army get folded like laundry. Our hero just smiles, casually dropping the fact that his bombois aren't just mindless drones. They've learned the elite combat skills of a former ranker-level warrior by copying his movements. He basically tells the boss that trying to beat him with sheer numbers is like trying to win a marathon with a literal rock, and that his amateur army isn't even in the same league. The boss tries to salvage his pride by calling Herkin an arrogant fool, but our boy just tells him to watch his footing. Before the commander can even blink, Herkin's army has already reached him, scaling his massive frame like a bunch of caffeinated toddlers. The boss is baffled, asking why his minions aren't listening to him, only for Herkin to inform him that his troops are simply too stupid to understand complex orders. The commander tries to shake them off to launch one final strike, but our hero's main squad doesn't give him the chance, swiftly and cleanly liberating his head from his shoulders. Our boy looks down at the skull rolling to a stop in front of him, giving his skeletons a rare compliment, which causes the entire army to bow to him in perfect synchronization. Naturally, Herkin turns the slaughter into prime content for the streaming platforms, and the internet immediately loses its collective mind. The video pulls in over 12,000 comments from players whose eyeballs are practically sweating with jealousy, screaming that the Necromancer class is officially broken and begging the developers to delete it immediately. Matador Shev is lounging on a couch with his girlfriend, watching the viral clip like it's a high-definition dream. His girlfriend finally realizes why our boy dared to go solo. If you can command an army like that, joining a guild just feels like a downgrade. Chef points out that it's actually better than a guild because there are 0 human casualties to worry about. He breaks down the strategy, explaining how Herkin exploited the simple aggro system by sticking his skeletons to the boss's legs so they'd just chase him around. Chav is grinning like a proud stage dad, bragging that his eyes weren't wrong about this guy becoming a big shot. His girlfriend asks why he's so proud of a competitor, but Chev admits that while he's worried as a guild master, personally, the appearance of a wealthy, overpowered rival is the ultimate thrill. He then starts thinking about someone who's probably having an even bigger crisis over the video, and cut to the Thunder Queen, who is currently watching the footage and vibrating with enough rage to power a small city. She is absolutely furious, demanding to know why our boy isn't wearing the legendary skeleton armor she specifically arranged for him. She's convinced he's handling things this way just to spite her, and her frustration only grows as she realizes he's ignoring her Hauteur gift. Her fashion-induced spiral is interrupted by a call from a terrified subordinate, whom the queen warns had better have an emergency if she wants her head to stay attached to her body. The fearful minion reports that the Hydra Guild wants to cooperate on the main quest. At first, the queen tells her to refuse since they stole Chapter 1, but then she hears that Hydra supposedly has the final strategy for clearing Chapter 2. She's stunned because the final content hasn't even been released yet, but once she hears they're gathering all 30 of the top guilds, she bites her lip and angrily agrees to the meeting. Over at the Hydra Guild hideout, a group of members are standing in a circle, smugly celebrating the fact that the Thunder Queen actually granted them an audience. They're mocking her mighty attitude and looking forward to paying her back for previous humiliations. One of them turns to a teammate, thanking him for the information that gave them this golden opportunity. The traitor just shrugs it off, happy with his choice to join Hydra, and they all settle in to watch their revenge unfold. Back at the docks, our boy presents a mysterious crest to the pirate NPC, who proceeds to have a total cardiac arrest the moment he sees it. He screams at Hirkin to never mention this crest to anyone, explaining that it belongs to the third prince of the kingdom. This man is supposedly a gentle, respected royal, which means finding his gear in a monster-filled catacomb basically confirms he's the secret mastermind behind the corruption. Our hero acts shocked for the sake of the quest, but internally he's throwing a private parade. He was worried his future knowledge was getting rusty, but the big picture is still exactly as he remembers. However, his celebration is cut short when the NPC tells him to go visit his master, Ahimber, to hear his opinion. Hirkin checks his watch and sees a new quest window pop up, ordering him to meet his beloved true master, with a reward listed as Master's Love. Our hero begins physically trembling with pure, unadulterated disgust, realizing that his grand prize for all this hard work is just more quality time with his favorite nightmare. Quick pause. If you're enjoying the story so far, please drop a like and subscribe to the channel. It really helps the algorithm. Done? Awesome. Let's get back to it. Our hero currently has the pleasure of visiting Master Ahimber, who looks at the prince's crest with the kind of uncharacteristic calm that immediately makes Hirkin suspicious. While the pirate NPC was having a total meltdown, Ahimber admits he's been expecting this dark turn, even if he hoped it wasn't true. Our boy is internally screaming for the old man to stop with the dramatic pauses and just hand over the quest. But the master keeps lecturing him about how making an enemy of a prince means making an enemy of the entire kingdom. Hirkin just grins, seeing this as the perfect excuse to get overpowered, and Ahimber conveniently reveals he has prepared the ultimate solution, the Life Vessel Skillbook. This is the holy grail of necromancy, an ultra-rare skill that hasn't even touched the market, and our boy's eyeballs are practically sweating with desire as he reaches for it. Naturally, the moment Hirkin tries to snatch the prize, Ahimber yanks it away like a cruel tease. The old man scoffs at the idea of giving it away for free and demands a casual 10 million gold. Hirkin Sul is currently preparing to leave his body for a permanent vacation because that is essentially every single cent he has in the bank. He calls it a total scam, but Ahimber leans into full late-night infomercial mode, claiming the skill is basically a living miracle that can revive him even if he has a single drop of blood left. He paints a picture of Hirkin becoming a wealthy, famous hero who crushes the prince's army solo, then pretends he doesn't even want to sell it anymore. Hirkin ends up on his knees, wailing about his life savings, but the greed eventually wins out. He hands over the 10 million, and Ahimber lets out a maniacal laugh that would make a devil proud. Our boy is left trying to convince himself it's a future investment, while sobbing that he'll have to grind for a month straight without sleep just to see a gold coin again. His mourning process is interrupted by a call from Pitbull, who is asking for help hunting a black tree. Hirkin's in no mood for favors until he hears the reward is a purification circle, a rare item he could auction off for a mountain of cash. His grief is instantly replaced by the face of a man who hasn't eaten in weeks and just saw a steak. He's practically salivating as he agrees to go smash the tree immediately, though Pitbull notes he's hilariously easy to read. Our hero arrives at the location and finds Pitbull in a state of pure joy, enjoying a literal permanent vacation in a spring surrounded by beautiful elf girls. Hirkin's blood pressure hits a new record, and he immediately punches Pitbull in the face, demanding an apology for living his best life while our hero is broke and miserable. Once the violence settles, Pitbull explains that he tried to hunt the tree but was stopped by the Big Smile Guild, a top 30 powerhouse that decided the forest belongs to them now. The goons from Big Smile didn't just stop the raid. They threatened to burn down the entire forest and kidnap the elves just for the fun of it. Pitbull admits he had to retreat because he couldn't handle a top-tier guild alone, but Hirkin just starts trembling. Pitbull thinks he's scared, but in reality, our boy is shaking with laughter. He already found Big Smile annoying, and now he has a moral justification to commit some light robbery. We shift to the Big Smile members lounging around, getting bored and bragging about how much they enjoy watching people struggle beneath them. Just as one of them is laughing about his own cruelty, Hirkin arrives and delivers a fist directly to his jaw. The other guild members try the "do know who we are" routine, but our boy isn't interested in their resumes. He informs the kids that he's in a terrible mood because he's officially broke, and with a devilish smile that says he's ready to collect some emotional damages, he gives them exactly 10 seconds to spit out their entire fortunes before things get really ugly. Thanks for sticking around until the end. If you enjoyed this recap, drop a like and let me know your favorite moment in the comments. I'll see you in the next video for more madness. Peace.